Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description. Koby's Choice, Paradise by Sword of the Gods Axe Hand. Morgan single-handedly shattered Koby's faith in the Marines, breaking his dreams. If a pirate is the first one to ever show you kindness in a world run by a corrupt justice, who do you follow? Well, the future king of the pirates, of course, luffyxharem. I don't own anything. Adios. I am really sorry for neglecting his channel. From now, I will be constant in this channel also.
Ooh, the islands in the south are warm, and their heads get really hot. They grow up pineapples, they grow up coconuts. On the are morons. Luffy, Zoro scowled. Could you stop with the singing already? Yes, please, Amy agreed. It'll attract unwanted attention to us. I don't see a problem with it, Robin chuckled. I say we let the captain sing all he wants. Thanks, Robin. Taking the woman's opinion over those of Zoro and Amy, Luffy began the next verse. Ooh, the islands in the north are snowy, and their heads get really cold. They're very chilly, they're very willy-nilly. On the are idiots. Next verse. Ooh, the islands in the east are. What would it take to make him stop? Coby whined. Almost immediately, Murphy answered in the form of screaming goat, men, angels. Me? Was that a goat? Luffy asked quickly. Are there goats up here? I want to see a giant goat. Run away. Several of the guards bleated, their dial shoes sending them flying past the group of pirates too quickly to be seen. One of Luffy's arms stretched out, grabbing the one at the back of the pack. The sudden backwards force dragged the guard away from the rest, launching him over the pirates' heads where he crashed headfirst into one of the giant trees. Ah, Luffy pouted. That's not a goat, dumb guy got my hopes up. It begs a question, though, Robin commented. Who were they running from? SHAAA. I'm going to guess that, Coby sighed, his head falling into his hand. Me and my big mouth. The ground rumbled for a couple seconds before a giant snake burst from the foliage. The snake, whose scales were a striped pattern alternating between light and dark blue and had twin lines of white feelers or some such dangling across its sides, was large enough to rival many of the sea kings the crew had encountered in their journey. 4 great fangs, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, stood out from the rest of its pointed teeth, each one more than 4 times the height of any of the pirates. Small, slitted, yellow eyes glared at the pirates from its massive head and large drops of some purple substance dripped from its fangs, the solution sizzling on contact with the ground. SHAAA, run? Amy asked. Run, Coby agreed. The snake lunged. Panicking, Coby grabbed the nearest person and threw himself to the side, the snake's colossal body thundering past with no end in sight. This is quite the conundrum, Robin commented beside him. I'm almost certain that snakes aren't supposed to get that large, but anything is possible in the Grand Line. Should we try to contact the others? We'll in a moment, the Rosette responded, tearing his eyes away from the creature. I'd rather get away from this thing as fast as possible. Where am I? Luffy questioned, taking in his surroundings. He, Zoro, Amy, Robin, and Coby had been walking through the forest, then that cool giant snake had shown up. Now he was lost in some sort of cave with dilapidated ruins and bones strewn about with no idea about how he got there. The teen reached down as something sparkling caught his eye. A second later, he had a solid gold necklace in his grasp. Oh, this is shiny. I'm sure Nami would like this. The rubber man pulled the accessory over his head before seeing a crown which he grabbed as well. Going over his options, the captain took stock. Hat? Yep. Bag? Nope. Aw damn it. That had my lunch. Den? Yep. Maybe I can call. The boy opened the shell on his little invertebrate which woke and started ringing. BUDUP bud UP bud UP. Bud UP bud UP bud UP. No answer. Luffy sighed much too quickly. Oh well. I know they'll be fine. Now, to find my way out. Picking a direction, Luffy started walking. Ooh, the islands in the west are wild. What do you mean you don't know where Luffy is? Nami yelled into the snail. The Den, whose eyes were slitted to indicate that Coby was on the line, flinched. It's like I said, the boy's voice spoke. We encountered this giant snake and got separated. I'm with Robin right now and Zoro-sensei and Amy checked in, but we haven't gotten word from Captain Luffy at all. Shit, Nami swore. Where is everyone else? Robin and I are headed toward the ruins, she wants to inspect them. Zoro-sensei and Amy are still headed toward giant Jack like Gonfall told us too, but with Zoro-sensei's sense of direction, it could take them a while to get there. It's literally visible from everywhere on the island. Your point? Alright, Nami conceded with a sigh. Be careful. Enaru attacked us and hurt the guys, but we found out that he's weak against rubber. He is? That's good to know. We'll keep looking for Captain Luffy. The snail clicked before falling asleep. We are in quite the predicament, Grace yawned. I'm going to sleep. What? Nami and Chopper yelled. Now isn't the time for that. It's fine, the lazy girl waved off. I'm sure Chopper and Gonfall can handle anyone who attacks. Wake me up if something happens. Grace laid down against the railing where Zoro usually napped and was soon snoring softly. I hope everyone's fine, Nami worried, heavily sitting next to the mast. Her right hand came up to rest on her tattoo and the personalized Jolly Roger thereupon. Chopper sighed and joined her. Your other right. No, your other right. No, turn around. Yes, that way. How the hell is your sense of direction so bad? My sense of direction is fine. It's not my fault everything in this damn jungle looks the same. I told you to turn right and you started moonwalking. That had nothing to do with the jungle. Sanji's right. You are a moronic mosshead. You want to go right here, right now? We can finish what we started in Whiskey Peak. Or I could leave you behind and find God's shine on my own. Fine, fine. These ruins are magnificent, Robin awed. But what are they doing up here? Could it be? The two devil fruit users trudged along over the island clouds that had replaced the soil over a dozen meters back. The ruins of whatever civilization that had lived on the island surrounded them, remaining quiet. If they had come at night, the zone fruit user wasn't sure if he'd have had the courage to continue inside. What is it? Coby asked, eyeing the tilted temples around them. Do you have a theory? I can't read this writing, Robin answered, running a hand along a wall covered in unknown symbols, but I recognize them from the altar. I have a feeling that the gold cricket is looking for isn't at the bottom of the ocean. Are you saying that this is the city of gold that Noland wrote about? I'm almost positive, the woman responded. Wouldn't that mean that this island used to be part of Jaya like some of the rumors the Monkey Brothers told us about said? Indeed, Robin nodded. Come along, little swordsman. I'm not that small, Coby rebuffed, chasing her up the stairs of a pyramid that was much smaller than Coby had thought it should be. At least, I'm not that small anymore, he whispered to himself. Yes, yes, the woman waved off. Come look at this. Don't you find it strange that, even though these ruins appear to be from the blue sea, we are standing on island clouds? Not really, Coby answered with a shrug. We're on an island in the sky, hunting down God himself and his priests while a group of guerrilla warriors are attempting the same thing, while at the same time goat men with wings and horns are trying to defend the island and are fleeing from a giant snake that lives on said island. Nothing seems that weird right now. I see your point, Robin conceded. Now cut down as far as you can. Alright, the boy sighed, unsheathing his weapons. Working together, the duo made quick work of the fluffy floor before it finally gave way to another room. See? Robin smiled. A ladder of flesh blooming into existence within the hole. What we saw up there was only the top of the temple. The rest of it has been buried under island clouds over the last 400 years. You were right, Coby gave in. Chothan climbed the arm ladder. But what are we going to learn from these ruins if you can't read them? I examined Nolan's logbook thoroughly before we left, Robin answered as she turned down a long hallway with light at the end. It mentioned that the Shandorians protected a block of black stone with writing that they couldn't read. I believe it is a poneglyph. That's the thing you wanted back in Alabasta. Whoa, Coby was struck speechless as the duo stepped out to see what the island clouds had been hiding. The ground was now soil and tendrils of vines grew over everything, but even so, the craftsmanship of the buildings was astounding. Soft light like one finds on a cloudy day filtered through the island cloud above, subtle changes causing the light to flicker beautifully. A staircase of limbs bloomed before the explorers. Robin moved forward without hesitation. Come along, little swordsman, Robin called upward, causing Coby to snap his mouth shut. It wouldn't do to leave you behind. I'm coming. The boy ran down the fleshy stairs, careful not to put too much weight on any one limb. The stairs dissipated into flower petals just after Coby stepped off and he ran after the woman. They explored the ruins cautiously for several minutes before it became obvious that there were no traps set in place. This is it, Robin gasped as she and Coby stepped into one of the final rooms. Against the far wall, a large block half covered in moss and vines stood proudly. The archaeologist inched forward, hope shining in her eyes. Reaching the poneglyph, she cut the vines away with a knife and studied the symbols. What does it say? The Rio poneglyph, Robin whispered to herself. It could be here. I need to find it. Robin, oh, yes, the woman muttered, snapping out of her reverie. Please call Ms. Navigator. I'm sure she'd love to know that the City of Gold's last known location is on this island. I have a feeling we shouldn't tell her, Coby responded nervously. At least, not until after we deal with God. Then we can go on a gold hunt. Good point, Robin nodded. In that case, shall we head toward God's shrine and meet up with the others? Sounds good. The duo climbed upwards to reach the place where they had entered the temple and began skirting the ruins to reach the other side. Where did they go? The pirates heard a voice exclaim much too close for comfort. Ducking behind a bit of rubble to hide, Robin bloomed a single eye to survey the area. A little way ahead, a tan man in purple was wandering around with his eyes rolled back in his head. Where did they go? He asked again, trying to find the blue sea people he could have sworn he'd seen a second ago. The goat man behind him was politely trying to remind him to unroll his eyes. Sir Gedetsu, you can't see with your eyes pointed at the back of your head. Oh, how careless, this guy doesn't seem very bright, Coby whispered. I'll handle it, Robin replied. Cease fleur. Clutch. 12 arms, 6 for each opponent, sprouted around them and bent them backwards. There were 2 sickening cracks and cries of pain before some sucking sounds. The man in purple screamed, clouds of some sort blasting out of his shoes and launching him into the jungle. There we go, the woman smiled. Robin, Coby shivered, you scare me sometimes. Come along, little swordsman, I'm coming, I'm calm. Just as the boy stepped out from around the rubble, he was sucked into a swamp cloud trap. Coby, that idiot, Amy scoffed, watching as Zoro was dragged into the air by a giant southbird that wanted whatever was in his backpack. I'm sure you'll be fine. She floated upward, carefully avoiding the projectiles shot at her from both the Shandorians and God's warriors fighting below. Only paying them enough attention to not get hit, Amy focused on getting to God's shrine at the top of Giant Jack. Up and up she went, the island getting smaller beneath her. She noted the Mary chugging along unimpeded and the snake that had attacked their group earlier slithering around, crying out in pain or laughing randomly. Explosions abounded as the remaining royal guards and Shandorian warriors fought in the forest. At one point, a man in purple flew by, strangely liquid clouds streaming out of his shoes. How careless, until he spiraled into the trees. There was a pair of cries from that area, one male and one female, but the former agent paid it no mind. Finally, Amy reached the 3rd level of the enormous beanstalk and touched down lightly. So, this is God's shrine, Amy said to herself, staring up at the gate whose architecture matched that of the entrance to Skypia. Grand and flashy. She stepped forward and pushed on the doors. With a loud crack, the door on the right snapped off its hinges and fell to the cloudy floor. Amy stared at the scene beyond. The charred corpses of several angels, both male and female, were scattered about the area. The 3 buildings that had stood were nothing but broken and blackened wood, leaving only the bases together. Taking a couple steps in, the pirate noticed that the backside of the entrance doors were fried to a crisp, that being the reason one of them had given out when she touched it despite the outside being perfectly pristine. Walking forward, Amy inspected each woman's body, hoping that she didn't find Conus among them. Luckily, she didn't, even though one blonde maid looked like her. Amy woke her Denmushi. Hello? Nami and Robin answered. I reached the shrine, Amy told them. God isn't here, neither is Conus. Damn, Nami cursed. Oh dear, Robin muttered. I wonder if Eneru has already disposed of her. Robin. Coby shouted in the background. I'm only joking, the archaeologist waved off. Anyway, Miss Valentine, you're on the highest level of Giant Jack, are you not? Yeah, why? Would you please float to the top and see if you can spot a golden bell? Golden bell? Nami screamed, causing the Den's eyes to turn into berry signs. What's this about a golden bell? Oh dear, Robin giggled. It seems I've let the cat out of the bag. I thought we agreed not to tell Nami until after we beat God, Coby grumbled. Just tell me, said Girl ordered. The little swordsman and I found a poneglyph in the ruins confirming that they were from the lost civilization that Mont Blanc Noland wrote about in his logbook. Does that mean the city of gold is somewhere up here? The navigator yelled excitedly. Most likely, Robin answered. Nami's screams of happiness were the only thing to come out of the dancing snails for the next minute. With a sigh, Amy shut off the connection and opened her parasol again. Zoro's right about one thing, the blonde muttered. Nami's a money witch. Go to help the poor soul that gets between her and wealth. Where do you think you're going? Nami demanded as the Sky Knight replaced his gear. I must confront Eneru, the man grunted. I have a feeling that whatever is happening is nearing its end. But, Nami tried to protest. Gonfal did not hear her as he hopped on Pierre in his Pegasus form and took off toward Giant Jack. On his way there, the Lord of the Sky, the giant snake, noticed him and began a chase, attempting to snatch him up as food. Nami stared on with a forced smile, her entire face twitching at her annoyance. Me, surrender, blue sea dwellers. Hello, misplaced aggression, she muttered as a squad of goatmen settled on the deck. Grace, Chopper, get up, we've got company. Giant Jack, Wiper growled, staring up at the plant from some ruins situated on the 2nd level. He was the last of the attack. Everyone else had fallen to the overwhelming numbers of guards. Even Lackey when one of Eneru's priests, Gedatsu, literally fell out of the sky. It had taken both of them to defeat the man, but Lackey was out of the fight. There's only one more level to God's shrine. Ah, out of nowhere, a man with green hair plummeted into the ruins. Instantly, Wiper had his burn bazooka trained on his form as the man pushed himself to his feet. Damn bird, Zoro cursed, brushing dust off himself until he noticed Wiper. Oh, it's you. Hesso, blue sea scum. Zoro-sensei, Coby, covered in bits of swamp cloud, rounded a corner and ran up to his teacher. not realizing that the Shandorian was there. Robin followed at a much more leisurely pace. "Zoro-sensei, I'm glad to see you're okay." "Burn!" Wiper shouted, activating his weapon. Zoro grabbed his student and rolled out of the way as the blast destroyed all the ruins in its path. "Piiyay!" Just as Gonfall arrived, so did the Lord of the Sky, bursting up through the clouds. "What a gathering," Eneru smiled, appearing on a wall with a gold staff resting on his shoulder. "We still have 8 people, 3 animals, and me in this game. That's 12 in total, even though 3 have decided to run. I think I'll let them. I can abduct them later anyway. After all, 2 of them are only women." "Eneru," Coby barked, shifting into his hybrid mode. "Where's Konus?" "My first bride is already on the Maxim, awaiting the survivors who are to join me. We have 8 here and 1 above us, but this simply isn't the right place for a final battle. Allow me to change that." Eneru vanished, leaving Zoro, Robin, Coby, Wiper, Gonfall, Pierre, and the Lord of the Sky to look for him in vain. The clouds below them began to glow. Then, they exploded. Amy could see the bell Robin had mentioned. Even covered in overgrown vines, the bell, which was perched on a cloud near the tip of Giant Jack, glittered brilliantly in the afternoon sun. Set into the base of the bell was a black square and one of the golden posts had fallen off. She floated next to the plant, entranced, until there was a flash of light below her. Amy only had time to look down before the pillar of lightning reached her, sending volts upon volts of electricity through her system. The wires Usopp had installed in her parasol exploded and the umbrella itself burned away as the lighting tore through it. The pain was too much. The former agent passed out and began to fall. She was not the only one falling since every competitor save for Eneru were plummeting toward the hidden city. Robin bloomed several arms to help slow her and her crewmates' descents. Pierre caught Gonfall and Wiper used his dial shoes, ensuring that they landed safely as well. "Ow," Coby whined, rubbing his sore tail and tailbone. He looked around, noticing where they were, before inspecting the hole they had just fallen through. A small yellow speck stood out in his vision against the uniform green of the gargantuan plant, alerting the boy to the being falling from the top. "Amy," he cried, pointing at the unconscious woman. Robin seemed to get the message as she crossed her arms and bloomed several more arms to gradually slow the falling blonde. Only as the woman neared the ground did she reach a point where the archaeologist could catch her in a net of limbs. "It seems I overdid it," Eneru laughed, eyeing the blackened chocolatier. "Shame, she's a beauty, too. Oh well, that just leaves 8 of us here. 5 humans, 2 animals, and me. But," he pointed at the large snake which was slithering around the ruins with tears in its eyes, "I cannot take this annoying thing with me." The man who held the title of God blasted the snake with lightning, charring the serpent as it cried out in pain. The Lord of the Sky collapsed with its jaw hanging open. "There. Now that that's done, 6 of you remain. We must eliminate 2 more before I can depart, so who will live to join me?" "Is this a game to you?" Wiper demanded, malice permeating his words. "Why, yes," the lightning man answered with amusement, "it is." "Well, I'm not playing," Coby declared, raising one sword. "We came here for one reason, and that was to kick your ass." "I know," Eneru responded with a smug tone. "Then you know that I'm not playing either," Zoro growled. "Nor am I," Gonfall voiced. "Piiyay, for once, I agree with the old man," Wiper grunted. "The only one who's going to die here is you," they all stated. "Ahajajajajajajajaj," Eneru laughed, losing himself. "You mortals think you can best me? God, huh? What is your goal here?" Gonfall questioned, his spear aimed at the man's heart. "What are you trying to accomplish?" "The eternal Verth," God answered with reverence, spreading his arms up toward the heavens. "The endless Verth, fairy Verth. Take your pick at the name, but I will have it. An expanse in the sky of nothing but Verth as far as the eye can see. I shall find this amazing place after destroying this abomination known as Skypia." "You bastard!" the remaining humans yelled. "And what of my divine guard?" Gonfall continued. "The 650 that I took prisoner 6 years ago have been very useful to me up until this morning, and like I said, we are the last survivors on this island." "You monster!" Coby shouted. Gonfall growled and shot forward with Pierre at his side. Eneru didn't move as the former god stabbed through his stomach and the man's faithful companion's talons ripped through his head. "You foolish old man," Eneru groused. "Fall like your subjects did. 5 million, 10 million, 20 million volt body." The lightning tore through the older man's armor and the backlash jumped to his bird. They both yelled out in pain before falling, and that leaves 4. "You said that you were going to destroy Skypia," Robin commented, only her crew members hearing the waver in her voice. "Are you aware of the possibility of destroying the golden belfry of Shandora?" She was grasping at straws. They didn't stand a chance if they couldn't find Luffy. "Oh yes," Eneru nodded. "In fact, I know where it is thanks to your weightless friend there and my mantra. But you, I have no worries about. If there's one thing I hate, it's a cold and calculating woman." He aimed his arm at the female pirate and fired. Zoro and Coby moved to intercept, but the lightning twisted around their attempts to shoot through Robin's skull. She let out a silent scream of pain before falling unconscious. Angry at himself for being too weak to help, Zoro spun around to gently catch her before she could fully collapse. Carefully, he set the woman on the ground and faced God with a murderous look. "Shrimp, let's go." "Right." Master and student shot forward with their swords pointed at their opponent. Zoro crossed his blades. "Crab grab," the green-haired man yelled, bisecting Eneru at the waist. "Pandora's box," Coby added, cutting away half of Eneru's head, the top of the drums, both arms, and part of his chest. His golden staff clattered to the floor as Koby's foot shoved through what remained. "You fools," Eneru laughed, his legs kicking Coby away and shoving Zoro's face into the dirt. "I am invincible." The man who held the title of God came together, standing on the pirate. Zoro growled. He rolled away just as Wiper landed on their mutual enemy. Rather than passing through, Wiper's legs wrapped around the strangely solid Eneru. He laid his bandaged right hand just over Eneru's heart. "What do you think you are doing?" Eneru asked. "Have you heard of Seed Prism Stone?" Eneru's eyes widened. "Wait a moment." He tried to protest. "Think about your actions, are willing to die for a homeland you never knew?" "Yes," Wiper answered. "Reject. Why does this cave keep moving?" Luffy questioned, pushing debris off himself. He'd been wandering the strange cave for several minutes, collecting gold as he went. So he was now wearing a crown, 3 necklaces, a dozen armbands, 4 rings, and 2 bracelets. "Now let's see. Which way should I go?" "Ah, old night guy." Recognizing the voice, Luffy bolted for the left, jumping over ruins and ignoring the fact that his clothes had started dissolving. He ran as quickly as he could, but the cave was long and it took him several minutes to reach the end. Finally seeing daylight, Luffy ran through the exit just as Wiper unleashed his reject dial for the second time. Reject. The impact blasted Eneru and Wiper away from each other. Blood dripped from both of their lips, but while Wiper stood, Eneru laid motionless on the ground. "Who is this guy?" Luffy questioned, staring down at Eneru's fallen form. "Oh, Zoro." "What's Robin?" The captain bounded over to the charred woman whom Zoro was kneeling next to. Coby joined them, Amy limp in his grip.
"Amy," Luffy cried. "Coby, who did this?" "Eneru did," the boy answered, pointing at the downed man. At the same time, Eneru's chest sparked with electricity and thumped like the beating of a drum. Again and again this happened.
He's trying to restart his own heart, Coby realized just a second too late. With a final thump, God stood again and glared down at Wiper. The Shandorian's face held nothing but shock at the feat his enemy had just accomplished. "I must say, I'm impressed, Shandorian. Most people would have died after only a single use of a reject dial, but you have used it twice and are still standing. Unfortunately, your work has been for naught." As he was cut off as Luffy's fist smashed into his face. God flew into the base of the pyramid, not knowing what had happened. He was impervious to swords, bullets, and blunt weapons. How did this person hit him? And who was that? "So this is God," Luffy growled, falling into a fighting stance and cracking his knuckles. "Who are you?" Eneru demanded as he stood, a bruise already forming on his cheek. "I'm the man who's going to be the king of the pirates and I'm the man who's going to kick your ass." "I don't know what you did before," Eneru confessed, spinning his staff, "but I'm not going to be defeated by some random pirate from the Blue Sea." Gum Gum Pistol. Even as he dodged to the side, God's eyes widened. He knew that this man had some sort of devil fruit ability, but was that how he had been able to touch him? "El Thor," Eneru stated, firing lightning into the sky where it gathered and condensed over the pirate. The electricity came down on top of the pirate as a giant, blue pillar. "Captain Luffy," Coby yelled. The lightning dissipated into the surrounding air, a hole several meters in diameter left in its place. "Ha ha ha," God laughed. "There's no possibility that he could have survived that." "Wait, what?" Eneru was shocked. There was still a life form in the pit. His mantra has never lied or been wrong, so how was it that the pirate was still alive? Luffy bounced out of the hole, much of the gold he had been wearing melted onto his skin, and punched forward. Shock held Eneru in place long enough for his attack to connect. God was thrown into the pyramid again. "But," Wiper stuttered. "My burned bazooka hadn't affected him. How?" "Captain Luffy is made of rubber," Coby supplied helpfully. "What is rubber?" "You don't know what rubber is?" Coby questioned. His face broke into a smirk. "In that case, things just got a lot easier for us." End of chapter 59. High Seas Hijinks. Love is in the paint. Set between Dead End Adventure and Rainbow Mist. "Coby," Grace whispered as the pink-haired boy walked past, grabbing his shirt and pulling him to the wall. The girl was situated just outside of the kitchen where Sanji was preparing lunch for the rest of the crew. "What is it?" the young swordsman questioned, looking down at the redhead who had stopped him. "Watch this," she smirked. Jin was rounding the corner, having been ordered by Luffy to go get what food was ready already. He glanced at the 2 whispering kids, but paid them no mind. When he stepped into the kitchen, however, all hell broke loose. "Hey, Sanji," Jin called, shoving the door open. "What's done?" "Don Luffy is demanding a sacrifice." "Calm down, Jin," Sanji replied, turning around. "All I've got is love for you in my heart." Sanji yelled the last part, noodling over to and around the confused man. "How have I never noticed how ruggishly handsome you are, my dearest Jin?" "Sanji," the man demon sputtered as the blonde cook cupped his face, only for the wanted of the two to shove his hands away. "What the hell's wrong with you, Sanji?" "Nothing is wrong," the cook declared, dropping to one knee and pulling a rose out of his clothing, "for the true arrow of love has pierced my heart and it calls me to you and your beautifully tanned skin." "Sanji, why are you—" Jin trailed off, his eyes falling on a pink design painted on the back of the chef's shirt. Suddenly, the snickering coming from outside the door was all too clear. "Grachi. Run!" the girl yelled, grabbing Koby's hand and pulling him away just as the door to the kitchen exploded outward, leaving a very pissed-off Jin in its place. He took off toward the young duo jumping down the starboard stairs, the artificially love-struck cook noodling behind and declaring that love knows no gender. "Grace, Coby, get back here so I can beat you, you pests." "No one's touching my sister," Amy yelled. She fell in next to Sanji, chasing Jin so she could beat him for threatening her adopted sibling. "You're handsome when you're angry, my beautiful demon," Sanji swooned. "They're catching up," Grace yelled as she and Coby passed Luffy and Chopper. Knowing he was the faster and physically stronger of the two of them, and knowing that he was in this just as much as she was now, the Rosette grew into his hybrid mode, swept her into his arms, and took off with Jin hot on his heels. If he wasn't mistaken, the air on his back was indicating that Jin's tonfa were making an appearance. "Is this a race?" Luffy called excitedly as the group passed. "A race?" Chopper parroted. "I want to join." The two jumped in behind Sanji and Amy. The ancient zone was barely paying attention to where he was going, which was why he did not notice when he blew past Usopp after rounding the front of the ship, jostling whatever chemicals the sniper was experimenting with and causing them to blow up in the long-nosed teen's face. The sniper promptly vomited over the side of the Mary before Sanji's noodle legs bumped him enough to send him overboard. Dashing up the stairs and onto the upper deck, Coby, with Grace still being carried, ran past Zoro and Robin. The tonfa-wielding Jin angrily followed while being chased by an irate Amy and noodle-wise Sanji, with the excitable Luffy and Chopper bringing up the rear. My, Robin giggled, looking up from her book just long enough to see the strange parade pass by. "It seems Ms. Goldenweek has swept our little swordsman into something. This ship is quite exciting." Whatever it was, Zoro grunted, lifting obscenely large dumbbells next to her. "It seems to have made the shit chef come out of the closet. I hope the love cook doesn't come after me next." Robin only giggled quietly at the antics of her crewmates. As she watched, Coby took a sharp turn and dashed into the small forest of citrus trees. Coby and Grace cowered behind Nami in the middle of her tangerine orchard where they HAOF the crew pruning her beloved plants. Jin came to stop a couple feet away, panting heavily, only to be tackled by Sanji and Amy, the former hugging him tightly and the latter beating him over the head with her parasol. His weapons clattered to the deck a couple feet away. "Is this the finish line?" Luffy questioned as his stomach rumbled. I'm so hungry. Nami, can I please have a tangerine?" "You can when someone explains what the hell is going on," the navigator answered, glaring at the assembled young adults. "I do believe Miss Goldenweek used her mood paint to affect Mr. Cook in some way," Robin answered, both her and Zoro walking over to the group. "Am I correct?" "Yeah," Grace answered, trying to look innocent. Her smile betrayed her. "I used a new compound that released endorphins into his brain when his optical nerves recognized a human shape. Basically, I made him fall in love with the first person he saw after I applied the paint. I call it love-struck pink." "Jin-kun, you handsome devil, I never want to let you go." "Make it stop," Jin begged, forcing away Sanji's face as the cook tried to kiss the former Krieg pirate. "Please." "I don't know," Amy smirked, now fully understanding the situation. "I think you and Sanji look good together." "No, please." With a sigh, Grace painted a black line through the pink symbol on the back of the chef's shirt. Sanji came to a second later, jumping away from the pirate fast enough to give him whiplash. The memories of the past few minutes came rushing back to him, causing the disgusted chef to run to the railing and lose what little remained of his breakfast from that morning. "Sanji, food," Luffy ordered, not understanding what just happened, but hungry all the same. Nami passed him a peeled tangerine to hold him until the chef was emotionally stable enough to actually serve a meal. Guys," Coby muttered, counting out the pirates in the immediate vicinity. "Where's Usopp?" "Help, there he is." Most everyone laughed. They could almost feel their bonds growing and they knew, at that moment, what it meant to truly be nakama. "I said help," Usopp screamed. "Blay," Sanji vomited. "Well, most of them anyway." "Ow," Jin whined, sitting up painfully. Nearly his entire body was bandaged, but that didn't stop Jin from forcing himself out of bed. Next to him were two beds, one with an injured Usopp and the other empty. The man staggered to the door and trudged out onto the deck. "Jin," Chopper greeted, running over from where he had been berating Sanji. "You shouldn't be up yet." "I'm fine," the man responded, ignoring his aching muscles. "Just give me some painkillers in case I have to fight soon." "But Jin, don't worry about it." The man demon waved off. "What's going on out?" He stopped as a pillar of blue lightning appeared on the horizon. The sound of thunder followed almost immediately, waking Usopp if the scared yelled from the medical cabin was of any indication. Jin's face darkened instantly. He walked back into the cabin. "Usopp, I need you to do something for me." Luffy and Eneru were monsters. Coby could only stare in awe as his captain and the man who claimed to be God fought furiously. Eneru had gotten over the shock of Luffy being able to hit him and was now using his mantra to avoid Luffy's attacks. However, none of Eneru's lightning tricks had any effect on the rubber man and Luffy's reflexes were too fast for the man to hit him with his golden staff. Even when Eneru had used his powers to superheat the gold in his staff into a trident, Luffy had countered by grabbing the weapon and quickly snapping it over his knee, earning a few small burns from the heat but being otherwise unaffected. Eneru tried to escape several times, but the lightning man was starting to slow down and each time Luffy had been too fast, catching him before he could lightning travel away. Eneru's slowing was not only because the injuries from Luffy's first 2 punches had taken a toll on the man who hadn't been hit in all the years since he'd eaten his devil fruit, but it also seemed like he was running out of steam, or charge as the case may be. Coby was so entranced in watching the two fight that he almost didn't hear his den ringing. "Budup bud up bud up. Bud up bud up bud up. Hello?" he answered, holding the snail up by his ear so he could hear the voice on the line over the crashes of crumbling ruins coming from the fight. "This is Coby." "Coby, it's Jin. Where are you?" "I'm in the ruins of Shandora at the base of the giant plant." "Is Don Luffy there?" "Yeah, he and Eneru are fighting right now." "Listen, I need you to get them to move up a level or two. Somewhere where we can see them from the Mary." "Do I want to know why?" Coby questioned. "Let's just say this crew is getting to me and leave it at that." Jin's answer was vague, but Coby had a feeling he knew where it was going. "Plus I have something to prove. If I can't defend my crewmates, who can count on me?" "Do you have a plan?" "I have 12% of a plan?" "Better than 11%, Coby shrugged. "I'll figure something out." "Thanks." The snail clicked before falling asleep. Coby reset the shell over the tiny invertebrate and eyed the combatants, waiting for a lull in the battle where Luffy would be able to hear him. Finally, the two slowed, staring each other down. "Zoro-sensei, can you buy me 30 seconds? Go." The man didn't even question the reason. Instantly, the swordsman took off toward God. Coby ran toward Luffy, skidding to a halt next to the teen as the green-haired man cut away at Eneru. "Captain Luffy, we need you to drag Eneru up the plant," Coby told him. "Why can't I kick his ass here? Jin says he has something to prove and needs you to stall him. Also, I don't think Robin would appreciate you destroying these ruins." "Right, sorry." Ga? Zoro went down, a bird made of 30 million volts of electricity passing through his torso. "Bastard." Luffy jumped forward as Eneru tried to change into lightning to escape and reach the arc maxim. The pirate was having none of that, his hand shooting forward to wrap around God's throat. Eneru struggled, trying to beat the rubber man's arm with his broken staff, but when that didn't work, he abandoned the staff to pull at the hand choking him. Luffy's arm stretched enough for the lightning man to get a full gulp of air before Luffy started dragging him upward. Eneru's flailing body slammed into Giant Jack multiple times as Luffy climbed up in bursts of speed using his free, stretchy arm. Finally, they reached God's shrine where, if one were to squint, they could see the Mary docked by the east shore. "Get off me," Eneru ordered, managing to free himself from Luffy's grip in a sudden push of strength. "A puny mortal like yourself has no business facing a god like me. You cannot begin to list the differences between you and I." "Is it the drums?" Luffy asked innocently. "Skin tone? Ears? It must be the ears? 1 second." Eneru watched in shocked confusion as his opponent grabbed his own earlobes before stretching them down to his chest. He released them, willing the skin to stay stretched. "Are you mocking me?" Eneru roared. He shot forward, electricity sparking around him like a beacon. Luffy stepped to the side, but Eneru changed the course of his punch to catch the rubber man in the face. Even then, it had no effect. "You," God growled. "You puny paramecia, die already." "I'm not going to die here," Luffy shot back as Eneru ducked under a gum-gum whip. "I'm the one who's going to be the king of the pirates." "Ha!" Without warning, 2 weights slammed into God's face. "Minutes earlier, Jin?" Usopp questioned nervously. "Are you sure about this?" "No," the man answered honestly, checking again to be sure his weapons were fully covered. He had all but raided Usopp's bag for every rubber band he could find and every one of them were now stretched around the weights his tonfa, insulating them. In theory, he should be able to hit Eneru now. "This is the crew of the Straw Hat Pirates," Jin continued. "Crazy and stupid plans are basically our motto." This might be the craziest, though, Usopp muttered. It's even worse than the time Luffy tried to use himself as shark bait. You're the one who told him shark meat tasted better than regular meat. He believed me. Who does that? Later, Jin finalized. In the distance, Eneru's powers surged, making him stand out to even the untrained eye. Jin backed up a few more steps, the suction cups on his shoes holding him on the deck. Donna, how's the wind? 15 miles per hour due east, the woman answered, her and Chopper hiding behind the mast. Sanji and Grace watched from the railing, neither of them speaking out against the man's insane stunt. Are you really going to do this? Now or never, Jin replied. Fire, with a snap, Usopp released the suction cup pads from the man-demon's shoes and the giant, makeshift slingshot Jin had forced him to set up shoved forward. 1 second Jin was there, the next he was gone. You don't think I killed him, do you? Usopp muttered. He'll be fine. Despite her words, Nami's voice didn't contain near as much optimism. Meanwhile, Jin was learning what it was like to break the sound barrier, and it was not a pleasant experience. His captain and God were growing closer every second. With effort, Jin forced both of his weapons in front of his face and trusted Usopp's aim. H-A-A-A-A-A. He slammed into Eneru with a battle call, making the devil fruit user go flying away in a spray of blood. Most of his momentum transferred. Jin rolled to a stop. Jin, Luffy called happily as the man-demon stood. What are you doing here? Please, Don, the man panted in response, his tonfa beginning to spin. Let me fight God. I have to prove that you can depend on me. I have to prove that the crew can depend on my. I failed the first time, let me make it right. And it's only appropriate that a demon be the one to take down God, isn't it? Oh, 2 versus 1, huh? Eneru stood, brushing bits of island cloud off himself and spitting up a wad of red spit. That just makes the victory over you meddlesome blue sea dwellers that much sweeter. Go on, Jin, Luffy nodded, suddenly serious. Coby sighed, "You stupid mortal," Eneru sighed as Jin shot forward. Do you not remember the last? Jin's right tonfa slammed into Eneru's face, shoving him into the cloud they were standing on. Overconfidence and arrogance are a dangerous combination, Jin growled. It could cost you your life. First the boy and now you, Eneru cried. To believe that there was one person out there who could hit him without seed prism stone was unbelievable. But finding 2 on the same day? That shouldn't be possible. Just what are you? I'm a demon, Jin grunted, his headband shading his eyes. I'm a demon in heaven who's here to kill God. You insolent fool. Eneru tried to laugh off. You think you have the power to kill a true god like me? I don't know if there is a true god, Jin responded. If there is, I guess then there's a devil, too. Tell him hello when you get to hell so I can ask him where you are when I get there, too. You. Eneru couldn't think of something to say. Jin smiled and a shudder ran down God's back. The look in the pirate's eyes had changed. They'd been determined before, but when he smiled, his eyes lost all sanity. It was like he was actually becoming a demon. You have threatened my nakama, Jin began, a creepy grin stretching over his face. You wish to destroy this land, killing us along with the natives. You have taken a friend hostage and have caused the deaths of many people. In the name of my captain, Monkey D. Luffy, the future king of the pirates, I sentence you to death. May you rot in hell. Jin shot forward. Eneru's eyes widened as he jumped away from the man's first downward swing. There must be something wrong. He couldn't read this man's mind. Well, he could, but there was nothing there about what moves he was going to make. Kill. Smash. Murder. Fun. This human's mind was like nothing Eneru had ever thought possible. He was acting on instinct, but it was like there was some sort of supernatural force driving him. The man who claimed to be God only barely avoided this man's wild and unpredictable movements. If Eneru had had his staff, it would have been a different fight, but he'd left its broken pieces in the ruins of Shandora when the rubber man had a chokehold on him. This is fun, Jin thought, his maniacal smile widening that much more as he finally caught Eneru's left arm with a spinning strike. The logia cried out in pain, and it was music to the man-demon's ears. He loved it when his enemies screamed. He loved it when they begged for mercy or pleaded for their lives. They were so helpless. But that wasn't what he wanted. Oh, no, he wanted a fight. A real fight where he could beat his enemy, someone who had threatened his crew, into a pile of goo and flesh and broken bones. Jin laughed madly and Eneru recoiled away from him. The things the lightning man's mantra was picking up from this man were terrifying. El Thor, God yelled, firing a beam of blue lightning at the crazy pirate. Jin ducked around and rolled, avoiding the deadly attack without a shred of thought. Oh, yes. Jin laughed, spinning around to hit Eneru in the stomach with his left tonfa. The devil fruit user doubled over, spitting blood on the white clouds they were standing on. Jin stomped on the man's back, pressing him flat into the island clouds. 10 million volt. Eneru began. The man-demon didn't let him finish, slamming his right tonfa into the back of God's head. The rubber bands forced the logia back into his human state and dispersed the built-up electricity into the surroundings. Jin giggled happily as he felt the shock run through his body. Pain was wonderful. "You little rat," Eneru spat. "You won't be needing these where you're going," Jin all but sang. He brought his tonfa up and down before the devil fruit user could react and broke both rods holding the drums on Eneru's back. Jin smacked them away, leaving them to tumble off the edge of clouds. It was slowly dawning on Eneru that this was a fight that he couldn't win. "Please," he tried to beg. "I'll give you whatever you want. You want gold? I have plenty. Or women? You could have any of the women from Skypia? Or maybe you want the golden belfry of Shandora? It can be yours." "If we want those," Jin smirked, leaning down so his breath brushed against God's ear, his rubber-covered tonfa pressed into the so-called God's back. "Then we'll take them after you're dead." "You?" Eneru locked his eyes on Luffy as Jin straightened back up. "You're this beast's master, right? Please, tell him to spare me." "Jin," Luffy said in an emotionless voice. "Yes, Don?" Instantly, the man's battle craze receded until it was only a nagging itch in the back of his mind telling him to crush every bone in Eneru's body one by one. "Do whatever you want. I want to kill God." Jin brought his tonfa down, pulverizing the island clouds below him. Eneru was staggering away several feet in front of him where he had used the last of his strength to zap forward and avoid the attack. "The endless verth," Eneru quietly cried, a single tear falling from his eye as he stretched an arm out toward the moon. He was empty and was lacking his weapon, his electric drums, and his arc maxim. All of them were too far away to be of any help, and without the arc maxim, he couldn't activate Death Pierre the Rygo. He had wasted his power on foolish shows during the death game and was drained. He was doomed. "Oh, no you don't." The man-demon chucked his right tonfa forward, the rubber-covered iron ball slamming into the back of Eneru's skull. There was a sickening crack as God went down. Jin shuffled unevenly toward his downed foe with a mad smirk, slowly increasing the speed of his remaining weapon. Eneru was unconscious when Jin reached him. Eneru was dead long before he left. The pirate stood over what was left of the corpse of the man who had threatened to destroy the Sky Islands. Blood was everywhere, splattered over the clouds, dripping from the weapons, and staining Jin's clothes. Rationality slowly returned to the man's mind as he realized that he'd just revealed his darkest side in front of his captain. "Don Luffy," Jin stuttered as his thoughts returned. He dropped his weapons and backed away from the mangled corpse. "You must hate me now." "Why would I hate you?" Luffy questioned, moving toward his friend. "No, stay back. I'm a monster. You don't want me on the crew." "That's what Chopper said before he joined," the captain argued. "Chopper didn't murder a man in cold blood," Jin whimpered. He tried so hard to keep his insanity in check. He'd given in when he felt Eneru's power. What if he gave in again? "Would you murder the rest of the crew?" "No," Jin cried as if the very idea appalled him. "I would never." "Then we don't have a problem," Luffy smiled, holding his arm out to his crewmate. "But you might. I don't know how to get blood out of clothes." Jin laughed at the unintended dark humor as he took his captain's offered hand. Suddenly, Jin crumpled, all his adrenaline leaving his heavily damaged body. He hadn't been recovered to begin with, so adding the strain of the fight and the fact that his demon-like state used up nearly all his energy left Jin with nothing to run on. Luffy threw the man-demon's arm around his shoulder and grabbed the man's weapons in his other hand before he began dragging his friend away. Unbeknownst to them, there was a fruit several kilometers away changing shape. "Eneru's dead?" Usopp's question voiced the thoughts of the rest of the crew as they stared at their captain. It was about 6 o'clock and the battle had been over for nearly an hour. Jin, after having changed out of his blood-soaked clothing, was resting in the medical cabin while Chopper treated the survivors of Eneru's survival game, which turned out to be many more than Eneru would have expected, including all of Wiper's lieutenants, Satori, Gedatsu, Olm and Holy. Though they did not really compete, the Lord of the Sky, about a sixth of the guards, and about a fifth of the Shandorian attack force. Stories had been swapped by the victorious forces and everyone was now in the loop about what had happened with the exception of Jin's demon-like state. Luffy had chosen to omit that part of the story since it was Jin's decision to tell or not. Now, the group was situated on the east shore with the Mary docked next to the island. If one were to look very closely, they would see that the Mary's smile was just a little wider than usual. The Shandorian warriors who had not been part of the battle and the White Berets had both made their way to Upper Yard after seeing the lights from the fight with Eneru. While they had wanted to fight each other originally, the Shandorians had stood down after finding Wiper being treated by Chopper and the WBs stepped back on order of Gonfall. Instead, he ordered them to search the island for Konus, whom they found chained to a giant ark in a cave on the backside of the island, before leaving for his homestead. Konus had been entrusted to the care of Lackey to help her recuperate from the terrifying ordeal. Luckily, the Straw Hats had beaten the false god before anything too serious could happen to her. "Hey, Robin?" Luffy asked just as tempers were rising between the two groups of old enemies. "You know where that Golden Bell is, right?" "Golden Bell?" Wiper demanded. "What do you know of the Golden Bell?" "Yes, I do," Robin told her captain. The golden belfry of Shandora is on one of the clouds floating around the top of Giant Jack. What are we waiting for? I'm gonna go ring it. What right do you have to ring the golden belfry of Shandora? Wiper growled. It's no use arguing with him, Grace muttered. If he says he's going to do something, he does it, Usopp agreed. Besides, Coby butted in. We met a man in the Blue Sea before we got here whose ancestor discovered Shandora before it was flung into the sky. He and the rest of his family have been trying to prove that he wasn't a liar over 400 years later. Captain Luffy wants to ring the bell to prove that the city of gold he's looking for is in the sky. Wiper paled. What is the name of this man you met? Mont Blanc Cricket, Robin answered. Tears rose in Wiper's eyes and he turned away to hide them. Wiper got out. We know of this adventurer whom you speak of. Mont Blanc Noland was a friend of our greatest warrior, Calgara. What a scene, Gonfall chuckled as he and Pierre landed. With them was a bandaged Pagaya who ran to hug his daughter. Old night guy, Luffy shouted. Take me to the top of the beanstalk. As the captain talked with the former now once again god, Pagaya and Konis approached Nami and the others. Oh, miss, Pagaya called. Miss Nami? I brought you something. From behind his back, the Skypian produced a new, rebuilt waver. It was smaller than it had been, probably so he could carry it on the flight, and the handle now folded down over the base. While I was injured, I needed something to occupy my time. This was the result. Thank you, Pagaya. Nami accepted the gift with happy eyes. Be careful, though, the man warned. Jet dials went extinct just over 200 years ago, yet there was one on this waver, so it is much more powerful than average. I'm going to ring that bell, Luffy yelled happily, having apparently convinced Gonfall to give him a ride up. Who's coming with me? I will go, Robin said. It would be an archaeologist's dream to see something like the bell. I will, too, Coby added. I must go, Wiper grunted. As the descendant of the great warrior Calgara, it is my duty to be there when the bell is rung once more. And I'm going to go get all that gold on the ark. Nami's eyes lit up as she said that. Zoro, you're coming with me. I need a gold-cutting mule. Damn witch. Just as they were leaving, Wiper ordered the other Shandorians to round up the living priests and to banish them to a drifting cloud. The white berets made no argument. So this is it, Robin marveled. She, Luffy, Coby, Gonfall and Pierre, Wiper, and the Shandorian chief stood before the golden belfry of Shandora. In the center of the base was a poneglyph, two of its corners overgrown with moss and vines. Robin stepped forward, her eyes greedily drinking in and deciphering the symbols engraved upon it, only for her smile to slowly slip away. Another dead end, she sighed. This poneglyph speaks of the ancient weapon Poseidon, not how to reach the Rio poneglyph. What about this part? Coby asked, pointing to the right of the stone where more symbols were engraved into the gold itself. Robin studied it, her eyes widening as she read it aloud. I made it here and I will guide this passage all the way to the farthest ends of the earth. The stormiest seas will not stop me. Pirate Goldie Roger. Ooh, Luffy awed. Gold Roger was here, that's so cool. Could it be? Robin gasped. Everything had fallen into place. Could it be that the previous Pirate King found the Rio poneglyph and hid it with the One Piece? Anyway, the young rubber man waved off, not hearing Robin's mutterings. I'm gonna go ring that bell. He jumped up onto the belfry and threw his arms backward. Gum Gum singing bazooka. His hands collided with the side of the bell, shoving it away. Reaching the end of its upward movement, the relic let out a deep, reverberating chime that echoed throughout the sky and below. The bell swung back down, hitting Luffy on the way, and continued to ring. It's over, the Shandorian chieftain cried happily as Luffy crashed behind him. We don't have to fight anymore. No, impossible. Those stupid dreamers can't have been right. Stop moving, Captain Bellamy. Your cuts from those giant praying mantis were infected with some kind of bacteria. If you keep moving, I'll be forced to sedate you. That stupid straw hat. It has to be a lie, the Sky Islands don't exist. Bellamy. We've been had. We gotta move on. No, not until I'm certain. We're going to find that Sky Island as soon as I'm healed. The partying began that night, booze passing between the hands of Shandorians, Skypians, and pirates alike. Usopp and Chopper danced like no one was watching as Zoro chugged mug after mug. Grace dragged Coby onto the dance floor while her sister was distracted by flirting with all the warriors, though Amy only really got into the flirting after almost 3/4 of a casket of Skypian beer. It had a lower alcohol content than its Blue Seas counterparts. Luffy had stopped inhaling food for the moment since he had eaten everything available and Sanji was in the process of making more. Nami snuck over behind him and swiped his hat. Hey, he called, chasing the girl as the others laughed before they returned to their own activities. Few of them noticed that the girl led her captain away from the festivities. Nami, Luffy yelled as the Mary came within sight. Give me back my hat, the girl waved his treasure tauntingly as she jumped onto the deck of the ship. She wasn't worried about waking Jin since Chopper had said he wouldn't wake up for 4 days. Even by the Straw Hat standard, he still had a day and a half at least. You had to catch me first. The navigator darted into the girl's bedroom as Luffy landed on the ship. He chased after his thieving girlfriend, throwing the door between them open. The only lighting in the room was from a flickering candle acting as a substitute for the dying evening light. Nami was facing away from Luffy with his beloved Hattie, causing Luffy to freeze as he started to hear his own heartbeat. She undid the last button on her beach shirt and tossed it aside, leaving her in her pants and bikini top. "Nami, shush," the girl whispered, suddenly in front of him. With her right hand pressing its pointer finger over the rubber man's lips, her left shut the door to the outside world. "You're amazing out there, Luffy. You know that?" "I'm not sure it was that amazing," Luffy responded bashfully, his face coloring as their close proximity drug up the memory of Usopp being forced to give him the talk back in Alabasta. "I think it was," Nami whispered huskily, rising onto her toes to be eye-to-eye with the devil fruit user. "I think you deserve a reward." "Nami, are you sure about this?" The captain's heart was doing flips inside his chest, and his voice showed it. "As sure as I'll ever be," Nami smiled. She closed the distance between them, catching Luffy in a passionate kiss as she dragged him further into the room. They didn't return to the party that night. Or that morning. The party lasted 4 days and nights. Nami had been walking bow-legged on the second day, but she waved it off as twisting her ankle on a rock. Even with her lie, Robin's eyes told her that she knew what had happened. Amy also seemed to know, and she decided to keep the information as blackmail. Luffy remained unchanged save for the fact that he more freely flirted with Nami in public and showed more displays of affection. This was, of course, after an extremely pissed-off Sanji kicked him for no reason and only, "I felt like it," as an excuse. Jin woke up on the second day and, though he was severely weakened from the fight, he refused to miss the fun and made do with a cane and a promise to Chopper to rest after they left. That day was actually interesting in more ways than one since Nami discovered a strange fruit in her tangerine trees. It was gray in color and shaped like a rain cloud with a yellow stem that zigzagged upward. The rumble fruit. It was agreed that, though no one wanted to eat it, that they were not going to throw it out or sell it. On a side note, Amy was able to acquire a new umbrella, this one a little larger than her previous one had been but still a lemon yellow color. She had Usopp replicate the upgrades he had done on the other, but this time a more efficient breath dial was set into the joint where the pole met the cover. The Straw Hats, Conus, and Sue snuck away on the fourth night with all the treasure they could find from the ruins, the Ark Maxim, and the belly of Nola the giant snake. Nami wanted to take the broken golden pillar from the belfry, but even she couldn't will the Mary to bear much extra weight. Silently, they boarded the Mary, stashed the gold with their remaining loot from Gaspard and the Rainbow Mist, and sailed toward Cloud End with the Skypian girl following on her father's waiver. Nami was still excited about their new treasure trove while Usopp had been able to acquire a large number of dials by trading his rubber bands to the awestruck Skypians. Not only did they think the rubber bands were extremely cool, but the Skypians all wanted an artifact that helped destroy the evil god. The Southbird joined them at the last minute, crying about not leaving it behind by Chopper's translation. "Be careful," Conus called as the Mary began to tilt. "I'll call you a ride real quick." Sue, what is she talking about?" Usopp muttered, the Mary tilting that much more. "I don't like this," Jin commented uneasily. Do we know what's below us?" "Nope." Luffy cheered. "Old armor guy said it was a mystery cliff." "That's not what he said at all," Coby yelled. A shrill whistle echoed through the surrounding air as the Mary finished her tilting and began to slide down a steep cloud ramp. "Captain Luffy, I don't want to go down the mystery cliff." "Woohoo!" Luffy cheered over the sound of his crew's panicked screams. The Mary flew off the end of the ramp, staying airborne for several seconds, enough time for the entire crew to float away from the deck. Just as they began to fall, a giant octopus exploded from the side of the Cumulorigales cloud to catch the ship, its tentacles straining as its head filled with air to act like a parachute balloon. The crew tumbled to the deck. "Is everyone okay?" Zoro moaned, shoving Usopp off of his back. Everyone save for Jin gave a positive answer. Chopper answered for the injured man. "Jin's knocked out," the doctor called. "I think he hit his head on the fall. Luckily, it doesn't look too bad and he needed to sleep anyway. Help me move him into the medical bed." Lifting up the unconscious man, Zoro followed Chopper into the recovery room. Everyone else shrugged and settled in for the long haul. The beautiful ringing of the golden belfry reverberated around them. The journey downward, however, took longer than they thought it would. Night fell even before they could see the ocean. Luckily, everyone managed to find something to do. Luffy, Chopper, and Usopp played tag on the deck while Zoro and Coby went inside to train. Usopp had agreed to give up some dials that would be useful for cooking, so Sanji and Amy were in the kitchen getting acquainted with those. Grace was on her third painting of the Sky Islands. Having already finished Angel Island and the Upper Yard Forest, she was working on the ruins of Shandora. Nami sat next to her, writing in the logbook before getting started a map of the islands. Robin was reading several books she recieved from some of the Skypians on the histories of the islands. Jin was still sleeping, the rumble fruit on his bedside so he could be a last line of defense if someone attacked them. The octopus slowly deflated as the blue sea drew closer, finally losing the last of its air about 300 meters up. It probably would have deflated faster if Luffy had jumped on it like a trampoline like he had wanted to, but Nami had reeled him in with the argument the Mary probably wouldn't be able to handle that much speed if it popped. Either way, their landing was still sudden as they splashed down in the center of an extinct volcano. Ow, Usopp whined, holding his head from where he'd crashed into the mast upon landing. Chopper's fall was cushioned by the sniper's body. Amy-chan, Sanji called from the kitchen. It seemed that she'd fallen through the floor again like she had during the dead-end race, having increased her mass to keep her feet on the floor. She was only a little bruised. Her sister, however, was disappointed as the fall had caused her to spill red paint on her painting of the ruins, the paint appearing to look like fresh blood. "Is everyone alright?" Coby asked as he and his master stepped out from below deck. Everyone, save for Jin, called an affirmative to show that they were all more or less unharmed. That was before the spotlights began to center on the Mary. "Is everyone alright?" Coby asked as he and his master stepped out from below deck. Everyone, save for Jin, called an affirmative to show that they were all more or less unharmed. That was before the spotlights began to center on the Mary. "We have you surrounded," a marine called through the base's loudspeaker. "Surrender, Straw Hat Pirates." "Scatter," Luffy ordered, every member of the crew running to jump overboard and hide in the cover of night. "We'll meet back up later." Luffy stayed to be the last one aboard before saying, "Mary, watch after Jin." Stretching his arms for a gum-gum rocket, Luffy, too, abandoned ship. He didn't know why, but he just knew that the injured man would be fine. He never heard the quiet, "Yes, Captain," that followed his order. Each of the Straw Hats unable to swim teamed up with someone who could, Amy and Luffy being the exceptions as she could float and he was the last to leave. Grace and Chopper teamed up, as did Robin and Usopp, and Coby and Zoro. Nami escaped on her waiver. With everyone gone, Mary allowed herself to take shape, becoming something like a ghost. She had no color, appearing as a wisp of almost fog-like construction so that only her outline could be made out. Bustling about to prepare before the Marines arrived, she locked the doors and moved Jin and the Rumble Devil fruit into a closet. With the man in a deep sleep, he never noticed. Mary then covered the closet in rope and extra boards to give it the appearance of being unused. Hopefully, that would hide him well enough. With a giggle, Mary dispersed herself as the first Marines began boarding. They just got a glimpse of her as they came over the railing. "Keep going," a man ordered from farther down a ladder. "Oh, sorry," the man above him apologized. "I thought I saw something." With lackadaisical efficiency, the Marines of G-8 covered the ship in caution tape and began taking pictures of everything as if it were a crime scene. The kitchen with a hole in the floor and Luffy's, Zoro's, Jin's, and Koby's wanted posters on the wall, the training room with its weights scattered by the fall, even the books that had fallen off Robin's bookshelf, yet they didn't notice Jin's hiding spot. "There's no one here," a Marine muttered, whether he was disappointed or relieved was unknown. "Don't let your guard down," a man with large, brown sideburns climbed up next. He was tall, well-defined, and held himself with an air of authority. "Yes, Commander Drake." "Oh, calm down," a new, quieter voice chuckled. The next man had ginger hair on top of his head and down his sideburns, but his large mustache and eyebrows were more of a dark brown. The men identified him as Vice Admiral Jonathan, saluting him as he stepped on deck. He smiled, inspecting the ship. "This kitchen is well maintained," he noted, lifting one of Sanji's knives. "We have found medical texts and history books," a Marine reported, another dropping said books on the table. "Several of them are in other languages, however." "Is that blood?" The terrified Marine was pointing to Grace's fallen picture of the ruins, the spilled, red paint from the fall coloring the ruins a frightening blood red. "Gold, sir," another called, showing the man a handful of the ancient relics from Shandora. "Interesting," Jonathan nodded, "but you have found no crew members?" "None, sir." "Then this appears to be a ghost ship." "Gyoo, ah," several men screamed. It took Mary all her power not to laugh. "Calm down," Jonathan waved off, spotting the bird on the mast's crossbeam as he stepped onto the deck proper. "It's a southbird, an avian native to the island of Jaya. These beans," he indicated a package of coffee beans he had swiped from the kitchen, "are from there as well." Glancing away from the higher-ranked Marines, Mary was quick enough to see that one had taken note of the closet where she had hidden the sleeping Jin. She acted. "Bahahaha." She laughed, loud enough that the men heard her while making sure it echoed from within the ship. "Who's there?" Commander Drake demanded, unsheathing his sword. "Who dares wake the undead crew of the evil Captain Luffy?" Mary called, trying to copy the voice used by Rapa Nui within the rainbow mist. "Begone! Lest the very ship you stand upon attack you. For to become part of the crew is to become part of the ship. If you stay, you'll stay in the locker." "Ah!" Several of the newer Marines jumped overboard. "Who are you?" Drake demanded again. "Show yourself." "Something touched me." Mary darted away before she could be seen, fading into the woodwork as the men scrambled about to catch something that wasn't there anymore. Lines of rope from the rigging swung down from the sails, half a dozen lines grabbing the marine grunt and hurling him over the side and into the ocean below. That gold must have been cursed. A particularly superstitious marine cried. He dove off the ship as well when Mary took her chance and reached out toward him with her ghostly hands, only her arms appearing from the wall in a way that no others saw. "Men, go back to the base," Jonathan ordered. The Marines didn't waste any time as they disembarked hastily. "Commander?" Drake questioned when he and the Vice Admiral were the last ones on the ship. "Go on. I'm going to stay here for a little bit. I haven't been able to fish from a caravel since I signed up for the Marines." "Be careful, sir," Drake told him. "This thing gives me the creeps." With that last statement and a wary glance at the ship, the lieutenant commander disembarked as well. Pulling out a fishing rod, Jonathan cast it out and leaned against the railing. "Was that really necessary?" he asked, certain that someone or something could hear him. There was silence for a minute, broken only by the haunting groaning of the ship as Mary tried to scare him off. The man decided to try a different approach. "I've never met a wood fairy before." "So you know what I am," Mary sighed, her outline stepping out from behind the mast as the creepy groaning stopped. "That takes the fun out of it." "So I was right." Jonathan didn't turn around, his eyes still set on the bobber in the water. "I've heard the rumors. They say that wood fairies only appear on well-loved ships. What is your name?" "I'm the Going Mary," the wood fairy answered with a smile, "but you can call me Mary." "Well, Mary, what do you think of the Straw Hat Pirates?" "The Straw Hats are a wonderful family and we've had so many adventures. Did you know we saved a good kingdom right after toppling a bad one before? It was awesome. Unfortunately, I feel like my journey with them is coming to an end." "You are pretty beaten up, aren't you?" "I'm just a caravel from the East Blue," the ship's spirit sighed sadly. "I wasn't meant for the Grand Line. I've done my best for my family and we've seen so many amazing things." "Then why would they abandon you? They'll be back," Mary stated defensively. "The captain trusts me to be safe." "So Straw Hat Luffy knows about you?" "Well, no," the fairy answered awkwardly. "You're actually the first person I've even had a real conversation with." Uncle Usopp fainted. Raising an eyebrow at the use of the term, uncle, Jonathan chose to ask a different question. "You say they trust you, yet they don't know about you?" "Uncle Usopp and the others talk to me sometimes when no one else is around. I've never responded for fear of their reaction." "And you don't wish to reveal yourself? My life is almost over." Mary's voice cracked, a single tear sliding down her face. "If I show myself, I'm afraid the others won't be able to let me go to continue their adventure. They're that kind of people." "Tell me, have you ever encountered a marine ship with a wood fairy?" "I'm afraid not." Mary shook her head, even if the marine couldn't see. "In fact, I don't think I've ever sensed another complete wood fairy. There were a couple partial ones in Jaya, but they couldn't even speak yet." "I wonder, why is it that wood fairies seem to only appear on Pirate Bethy or used more? Or is it because it becomes their home? What point are you trying to make? Because if you threaten my family, I will attack you right here." "Calm yourself," Jonathan placated. "G-8 hasn't seen any action in the past 3 months. I'm hoping this lasts for a while. Besides, now that I know this ship is alive, I can't very well burn it in good conscience." "Then what are you going to do?" "This is a game," he responded. "Good versus bad, Marines versus pirates. If the pirates escape, they win. If they don't, the Marines win. With a known collective bounty of 200 million, G8's image won't be harmed if you all get away." The man felt a tug on his rod. "So you're giving us a chance to escape?" Mary asked. "That makes it more fun, doesn't it?" Finally pulling in his line, Jonathan was disappointed to find it empty. "Then, on behalf of my crew, I accept your challenge. I have faith that we will win this game of yours." "Good. I'll have to warn you, though. I'll have my men tow you to Dock 88. Standard procedure and all that. Of course. Just don't expect me to not help my family when I can." "It's not like I can chain you up," Jonathan laughed, packing away his rod and finally turning to see the spirit. "One more question. Why did you all invade Navarone?" Mary smiled, no teeth showing on her ghostly appearance. "We didn't." Chopper, with Grace on his back, ran through the forest in his walkpoint, avoiding the spotlights. The girl was inspecting her paints, being sure that her waterproof caps had not come loose while she had drugged the reindeer through the water. Scowling, she threw away her red paint, muttering about a waste of good crimson. "Why did we end up here?" the doctor cried hysterically. "Come on, Shrimp," Zoro muttered, keeping his voice down as he slapped the younger man's back. With a cough, the zone type returned to consciousness, rolling over to spit out the last of the water from his lungs. "Thanks, Zoro-sensei." "No time for that now," the green-haired man told his student, slinging him over his shoulder in a fireman carry. "We're heading to the woods." Zoro-sensei? You're headed toward the marine base. Damn it. They must have rotated everything." Slinking through the tall grass, Nami eyed Navarone. Her waver was well hidden, but a rocky outcropping revealed where she had stashed it. Damn it, she cursed. Those bastards better not touch any of my money or I swear to Goda. Leaving the thread to hang, Nami headed toward the base. This is one big base, Amy said to herself, floating above the relatively small island. Even from that height, the blonde could make out some of her crewmates as they hid throughout the area. Content with where she was, the teen relaxed to watch everything play out. She didn't have a bounty and she wasn't going to go out of her way to get one. Nodding, Amy decided to only step in if she thought someone needed her help. It's just one thing after another with this crew. Kyahahaha. End of chapter 62. Crew confusion. Jobs, set after Alabasta. It was an average day aboard the Going Merry, or at least, as average as a band of pirates like the Straw Hats, who were sailing through some of the strangest waters in the world, could get. For once, the sea was calm if a little shaded from the cloud cover, but Nami had assured the crew that there was nothing dangerous about the fluffy, white clouds hanging in the sky. The wind blew softly, doing nothing but sending a shiver down the backs of the members who wore less clothing every now and then. The ship itself rocked gently, almost as if it were sailing itself through the calm weather. Every few minutes, a sea king would breach, but those giants stayed clear of the pirate ship. It was too small to even be a snack for them. Hey, Captain Luffy, Coby yawned, the sweaty boy leaning against the mast after another grueling training session with his sadistic teacher. They had only gotten worse for the pink-haired boy after he ate his zone devil fruit, since zones were notorious for having amazing composition and durability, something that Zoro took full advantage of when playing training his young punching ball student. Captain Luffy. What? The captain blinked, having not heard Coby the first time from where he was seated on his self-declared captain seat. I have a question. Okay. What's my position? Luffy opened his mouth immediately, and don't just say I'm Nakama, and closed it, a confused look on his face. What position do you want? The raven-haired teen finally asked. That's not for me to decide. Coby shook his head. If he had glanced around, he would have noticed that Jin, Amy, and Grace were now eavesdropping on the conversation. You're the captain. I mean, we know that Zoro-sensei is the first mate, Nami is the navigator, Usopp is the sniper, Sanji is the cook, and that Chopper is the doctor. But what role do I have besides being a fighter? And what about the others? Luffy hummed. Well, obviously Grace is our artist, he began, and Amy helps Sanji in the kitchen, so she's our assistant cook, and Robin is an arco-what's-it, so that's what she does. He trailed off. Hey, Jin. Yes, Don? What position did you have on your last crew? Luffy asked. Jin blinked. I was the second mate and the chief of staff, the man demon answered. I guess I was also the treasurer since I paid all of the deckhands that I hired, being the chief of staff and all. Then you're the official Straw Hat chief of staff from now on, Luffy declared. You don't have to hire anyone, though. And Nami's already the treasurer. Good enough for me, the man shrugged, flinching as the yelling voices of Zoro and Sanji carried over from the other side of the ship. You know what? He sighed. I guess it's now my job to break up fights. I'll go deal with those two. He wandered off. Captain, Coby all but whined. You still haven't answered my question. And what was it again? Luffy asked with a sheepish grin. I forgot. What position do I hold on this crew? Oh, that's easy. Luffy laughed. She. You're the cabin boy. Go to damn it. Wait, Zoro-sensei. Coby tried to reason, failing at slowing his teacher even as he ground his sandals into the floor. They were wandering around G8's base without rhyme or reason, and they were lucky they hadn't been caught yet. Did you hear? A voice asked, echoing from around an upcoming corner. That ghost ship in the lake is the boat of the Straw Hat Pirates. You mean the one with the famous bounty hunter on it? Another voice responded. Yeah, Roronoa Zoro. They say he fights with 3 swords at once, but you know, if I meet him, I'll give him a piece of my mind and show him the strength of G-8. They say he has a student, too, the second voice mused. I've seen the wanted posters. The kid's got pink hair. The first voice laughed, both of them now getting further away. Sounds like a girly-ass pansy to me, even if he does have his own fruit. I'll teach him to laugh at my student, Zoro growled, stepping out into a corridor. Zoro? Nami questioned. She was dressed in a marine uniform and had been mopping the floors, hiding in plain sight. Coby? Oh, hey, Nami, Zoro grunted. Don't you, hey, Nami, me, the navigator hissed. Are you trying to get caught? Rather than give the man or his student time to answer, the girl dragged both of them by their ears to a balcony. Quickly, she swiped all 3 of Zoro's swords and dropped them on a bush on the other side of the railing. What did you do that for? Zoro demanded, leaning over the side that tried to reach them. You're the only known user of 3-sword style, Nami grunted. Carrying around 3 swords makes you more obvious than the picture on your wanted poster. Shrimp, help me. Coby shuffled over to the railing, taking his master's hand to lower him further toward the swords. The blades, as if in response, tumbled just a little bit lower. Damn it, Zoro growled. Grabbing Coby by a leg, the man jumped over the railing, one hand holding his upside-down student and the other holding the railing. Hey, girl, a voice grunted. Nami tensed and slowly turned to meet the gaze of two men in chefware. Can you lead us to the kitchens? Oh, sure, Nami panicked, leaving the swordsmen to their own devices. Not 10 seconds later, Zoro lost his grip on the railing, him and his student tumbling down the cliffside and into the water. Koby was immediately powerless, so Zoro was forced to not only retrieve all three of his swords alone, but also drag Koby upward with his teeth. As soon as he broke the surface, he was careful to pull the young teen's face out of the water, even as all the marines in the boats surrounding them aimed their guns.
Pirate Hunter Zoro and Tri-Horn Koby, Jonathan smiled. Welcome to Navarone.
Damn! Are you two the new chefs they sent from Marioi? The woman questioned, eyeing Sanji and Luffy with contempt. The captain and cook had run into each other and disguised themselves as chefs to try to blend in the kitchen, but it was apparent that the head chef, Jessica, had mistaken them for some others. They chose not to correct her. Jessica was a woman with short blonde hair dressed in stereotypical cook clothing that hugged her figure. A wedding ring almost imperceptibly glinted on her left hand. And if we are? Sanji questioned, lighting a cigarette. They're the ones who called G-8 a backwater base. Saying we only put out subpar meals. Arrogant assholes claiming they're doing us a favor. I don't care if you're a man who has cooked for the fleet admiral, the pirate king, or the celestial dragons. Jessica growled, cutting off her men. If you don't pass my test, I will personally feed you to the fishes. Now listen up. We've got several hundred marines to feed, and if my food is better than yours, I'm kicking you out of my kitchen. Is that a challenge, mademoiselle? 100 meals each, the woman affirmed. The marines will decide the winner. The cooks bustled about, using only the best parts of the ingredients and piling the rest on a table. Soon, they finished, all 100 meals laid out over 2 tables in the dining hall. Luffy stared, drooling. How wasteful, Sanji muttered, staring at the bones and leftovers of the ingredients. Pulling several knives off a rack, the cook set about pulverizing the leftover fish and turning the vegetable skins into a sauce, spouting cooking facts and tips along the way. In half the time it had taken almost 20 other cooks, the single, disguised, pirate chef finished his own plates with a flurry for the audience that had amassed. You have to use everything you can out on the seas, Sanji told them as the marines who had been watching surged forward to eat, Luffy among them. While flavor is important, you never know what the sea will throw at you, so you have to make your stores last. That is our duty as chefs of the high seas. An old geezer taught me that a long time ago. Vice Admiral Jonathan sat in his office, idly swinging his fishing rod and pondering what the spirit of the Straw Hats ship had told him. He'd heard of the Sky Islands, but to think that they were real was just short of preposterous. Even so, that was the reason Mary gave for them landing in G-8. They had been leaving the Sky Island, or Skypia as Mary had called it, using an octopus as a balloon, but an air current had blown them off course. Still, it was a marine's job to capture pirates, whether their meeting was an accident or on purpose. Monkey D. Luffy, Jonathan mused, glancing at his chessboard where several pieces were placed strategically. It's your move. We're chasing what now? A girl and a raccoon dog. The marine sighed for the 3rd time. We don't know who they are, and with the battleship's commander Jonathan let in, there are a lot of unknown people running around. Even so, none of the ships should have any young girls or pets, so we've been told to treat these two as hostiles. I think I saw them go that way. A marine with a goofy grin on his face called, pointing down the hallway. The others took off and rounded the corner at the end. Thank you, Grace smiled from the other end of the hallway, the back of the man's marine uniform stained with yellow-green paint. Anything for a friend. All right, then please keep them off our tail. Sure thing. The man responded, running off. Grace and Chopper went the other way, slinking down corridors and peeking around corners until they came across the medical ward, which was quickly filling as the injured from the battleships that had docked were rushed in. Patience, Chopper whispered. Let's go, Chopper, Grace insisted. It's not our problem. It's my sworn duty as a doctor to treat the injured, the reindeer rebuffed. You and your sense of duty, Grace whined. How are you going to disguise yourself? Chopper quickly took in their surroundings, discovering a closet with unused lab coats. This will do, Chopper stated, shifting into his heavy point and donning a coat and a pair of glasses with a fake mustache. That were there for some reason. Here, put this on. That sounds like work, the girl complained as the pink nurse uniform landed on her head. Just do it, Chopper ordered. Grace sighed before covering her ordinary clothes with the slightly too big uniform. Normally, Chopper was the shortest member of the crew, but when he went into his heavy point, he became taller than his Grace. They approached the medical ward. No, a woman's voice denied from inside. I can't do it, I'm a children's doctor, not a surgeon. These patients need you, a nurse insisted, they need someone. Chopper barged in and instantly began barking out orders. It took a second for the surprised nurses to react, but they moved to answer his demands, and get the critically injured prepped for surgery. Chopper finished. Chopper? Nami questioned, now in a nurse's outfit. Grace, what are you two doing here? This guy just had to save the Marines, Grace huffed, and I don't know where my big sister is. I don't know who you are, the head doctor, a thin woman with purple hair, got out, but I'm glad you show I can't stand the sight of blood. You're a doctor and you can't stand a little blood? Nami asked incredulously. I'm technically a children's physician, the woman responded, but due to several factors, I'm the only doctor here right now. Listen, drive. Chopper trailed off. Kabato. Dr. Kabato, the reindeer continued. My teacher used to tell me a story when I was her apprentice. There was a man whose doctors told him he had an incurable disease and that he didn't have long to live. Distressed by this, the man set out to see the world and try to find a cure. One day, on a mountain pass, the man found himself surrounded by beautiful cherry blossoms. When next he went to the doctors, they told him that his disease was miraculously cured. The moral of this story is that nothing is incurable, you just have to find the right cure. 1. Doctor. The nurse is called. The patients are prepped. Do you think I can show those men the cherry blossoms? Dr. Kabato whispered. Only if you can find your own first, Chopper replied. Nami, Grace, let's go. You want us to help? Nami questioned. She knew nothing about surgery. More work. Grace whined. I'll tell you what to do, come on. Yes, Dr. Kabato added, steeling herself. Let's go. I'll ask you one more time, Drake growled, hoisting Zoro up by his head. Why are you pirates here? I told you, the swordsman spat back. We fell from the sky. We didn't mean to land here. If you keep lying, your student here is going to suffer. I can't tell if you're playing the bad cop or if you're actually going to hit me, Coby snarked before blinking. Goda, Captain Luffy is rubbing off on me. Zoro barked out a laugh. That was a good one, shrimp. Do you pirate scum ever take anything seriously? Drake demanded, lifting Coby up by his neck. The sea prism stone chains clattered as the young ex-marine hopeful was lifted up until he was eye to eye with the officer who was a whole head taller than him. Very rarely, the rosette got out. I blame our captain. Luffy doesn't care about much, Zoro agreed. I've seen him serious 2 times, before beating Arlong and before beating God. What's this about beating God? Drake questioned, dropping Coby with a thump and a rattle. Was it 5 days ago? Zoro asked, turning his eyes to his pupil who was trying to sit up through the weakness caused by the chains. Coby shook his head, unable to see clearly without his powers or glasses. Yes, Zoro-sensei. We killed God Eneru 5 days ago. We spent 4 of those partying with the Angles. Do you 2 filthy pirates really expect me to believe that your captain actually killed God? It wasn't our captain, Zoro corrected with a smirk. It was our tattoo artist. Drake scowled as he kicked the man in the stomach, forcing the air out of him. Zoro wheezed, preparing for the next blow, but it never came. Commander Drake. A marine called, running down to salute by the cell. An unknown doctor is performing surgery on the wounded marines from the battleships. Then it seems we've found our 3rd straw hat, Drake smirked. Jin groaned, swimming into consciousness. His back was stiff and several somethings were poking him. Opening his eyes, the man-demon found himself stuffed in a closet with a sliver of light flowing in from the top of the door. On the shelf to his left, just within the range of the beam of light, was the rumble fruit they'd acquired. Why he was in a closet, Jin had no idea. There were several scared voices outside. Have you heard what they were saying about this ship? Rob told me there were ghosts haunting it. Don't say that, the man's partner snapped. You know I hate ghosts. I heard, the first man continued, that the spirits reached for Shuko and tried to drag him to the underworld. Stop it, John. In response, John laughed. Have you gotten word from the guys in charge of getting the gold from the storage rooms? Yeah, they have this big sheet they're trying to fill so they don't have to make as many trips, but they keep claiming that the treasure moves back to the pile as soon as they turn their backs. I think they're just being lazy. Maybe the gold really is cursed, the second voice shivered. Coming back to his senses, Jin tried to stand from where he was leaning on the shelves, but the shelves weren't sturdy enough and gave out under the extra force. The man-demon tumbled to the floor with several mops, brooms, and likewise falling on him. The devil fruit landed on his chest as the voices outside went quiet. What was that? The unknown voice asked fearfully. I think it came from over here, John replied. 2 pairs of footsteps started approaching. Shit, Jin cursed inwardly. He didn't have his tonfa and had no idea who the guys outside were. And they apparently had friends trying to steal the Donna's gold. The men drawing closer had to be either marines or rival pirates who had boarded their ship. By what they said, it was likely that all, except for maybe one, of his crewmates weren't on board. He was unarmed, injured, and alone. There was nothing. Wait, the devil fruit. He could. No, Jin shook his head. What if he went crazy like Eneru had, drunk on nearly limitless power? However, the men were still growing closer and logia powers were looking really good right about now. The doorknob rattled. The door must have been locked. Holding the powerful fruit up to his face, Jin decided to give in to the temptation. There seemed to be no other option and, in the worst-case scenario, he would join his friends in the realm of the dead. Don Luffy will keep me in check, Jin whispered to himself. The pirate bit into the forbidden fruit just as the lock shattered and the door opened. The 8th branch of Marine headquarters, Robin commented, her and Usopp observing the base from an upper ridge. Although its official name is G8, it is usually referred to as Navarone. Where's the Mary? Usopp asked frantically, scouring the lake with a pair of binoculars for a ship out of sight. What have they done to my precious Mary? If they damage her, I swear I'll kill every last one of them. Calm down, long nose, Robin ordered. Our lives are more important than the ship right now. No they aren't, Usopp argued. I'd die for that ship. If you don't care about her, then I'm going to go find her on my own. The sniper stormed off, only stopping when a dozen of Robin's arms sprouted from a nearby tree, bending the teen into its shape just as a quartet of Marines appeared. Find anything? The Marine in the lead asked. He was met with negative answers. Remember, that ship is the ship of the Straw Hat Pirates, and it's our job to find them. They're somewhere in the base. Move out. The arms vanished as the men moved out of earshot and, though he was still mad at her, Usopp muttered a quick thank you before storming off. Hello, Straw Hat Luffy, Jonathan greeted, his fork preventing the pirate's stretchy arm from snatching the meatball it had skewered, the final bit of food on the plate. To what do I owe the honor of having such an infamous man inside my base? Luffy sighed and released the meatball. Luck, he answered honestly. We fell from the sky and this is where we landed. I like the food here, by the way. I'm glad you approve, the Marine commented, eyeing the pirate captain dressed as a cook. If it was your chef that cooked this, and I suspect it was, then you eat better than some admirals. Yeah, but I don't think they get kicked when they try to raid the fridge. Against his own wishes, Jonathan laughed. I like you, Luffy smiled. You remind me of Smokey. I take that to mean that you've met Marine Captain Smoker? Yeah, he's a funny guy. He let me go in Alabasta so I could kick Crocodile's ass for trying to ruin the country. Realizing what he just said and what that information could do, Luffy swiftly covered his mouth. I thought as much, Jonathan sighed. I hope you know, I can't give you the same luxury that Smoker did. My men will catch your crew. As a matter of fact, pirate hunter Zoro and Tri-Horn Koby have both been captured already. Where are my Nakama? Luffy demanded, some sort of pressure appearing in the room. I can't tell you that, Jonathan chuckled. It would speed up the game too much. Luffy moved to argue, but Sanji's arm reached in and dragged the rubber man out of the room. They turned away to run, but the staff of the entire kitchen was waiting for them in the wall, knives brandished. It's a shame, Jessica commented as her husband stepped out of the room behind the pirates. To think an amazing chef like you would waste your life as a pirate. The tension was mounting, only to be broken by the doors of the dining hall opening and releasing a wave of hungry Marines that obscured the view of the pirates. Taking their chance, Luffy and Sanji bolted out the door and down the halls. They're getting away, Jessica yelled, her voice being lost in the murmur of hungry men. Calm down, dear, Jonathan chuckled, wrapping an arm around his wife's shoulders. We'll get them. For now, I want to try some of that pirate chef's cooking. Straw Hat stole most of my meal. What a dump, the Marine inspector muttered, eyeing the docks of G-8 as he disembarked from one of the battleships. Sunglasses rested on the bridge of the man's sharp nose and his brown hair was just long enough to be in a small rat tail. It was quite possible he was related to Nezumi in some way. To think I weathered a storm to come to this backwater trash field. You there? Call your commander immediately and tell him that Marine Inspector Shepard of Marine HQ is here. I wish to speak with him ASAP. That will be fine, sir, the Marine replied, but I'm going to have to verify your name and rank beforehand. That's preposterous, call your commander and I'll talk to him myself. That won't do, the man sheepishly responded. I'm afraid this is the hour Commander Jonathan usually takes off for lunch, so he's probably in the dining hall. Then call the dining hall, Shepard demanded as if it were the most logical thing in the world. No can do, don't you know the G-8 creed? Shepard blinked. You have a creed? Every man in the vicinity snapped to attention. Rule 1. Always wash your hands before meals. They chanted as one. Rule 2. Never leave food on your plate. Rule 3. Never discuss work in the dining hall. Rule 4. When brushing your teeth. I don't give a shit, Shepard snapped, cutting them off. Never mind. I'll go find your commander Jonathan on my own. And you, sailor. I hope you start working out a creed to keep in jail after you've been court-martialed. The man stormed off, muttering about what would happen to the captain of this base after he handed in his report. He entered a dark passage into the base, so no one noticed when multiple arms pinned the man and forced him into unconsciousness. Marine Inspector Shepard, Robin mused, studying the ID she'd taken from the man. Yes, you'll do nicely. Mary had done her best to be disagreeable with the Marines that towed her to Dock 88, scaring each and every one of them so much that they hadn't wanted to stick around to pull her out of the water. Most of the Marines had fled as soon as her hold touched the concrete of the dock floor, leaving the so-called ghost ship to bob in the water without pulling her onto the dry platform. Still, some of the newbies had been ordered to stay on her to guard the ship from its crew, leaving Mary preoccupied with the duo trying to steal their gold. Two Marines had brought a tarp with the intention of hauling up the gold in great piles, 3 or 4 trips maximum, but Mary wasn't going to have any of that. Whenever they moved back to the pile of gold, Mary would shift the gold back to where it had been. Angered and confused, Marines still wouldn't give up and kept restarting. Mary kept silently, and sometimes not so silently, snickering at them until she felt a familiar presence on the ground. Usopp, knowing none of this and dressed in a Marine uniform, had made his way to the dock and was staring up at the Mary with tears in his eyes. He jumped, however, when an old man with white hair and a bushy mustache, beard stepped up next to him. "She's a fine ship, isn't she?" the man asked, surprising Usopp. "She's a caravel and she's seen a lot of action, too. Caravels can hold their own with the best of them, even if they're an older model. And she's loved. Those patch jobs are well done, no matter how rushed they may seem." "You can tell all that just by looking at her?" Usopp marveled. "It doesn't matter to me if it's a Marine ship or a pirate ship if it's a beautiful vessel. Marines nowadays seem to think it's their job to wreck every nice ship they get." "Hold it," Lieutenant Drake ordered, a slew of Marines behind him. "Hey, you, what unit are you in?" "Unit 18, Usopp's answer wasn't supposed to be a question. "A sniper, then," Drake stated. "Are you stupid or something? Don't you know that only maintenance personnel are allowed on the docks when repairing ships?" "Sorry, sir," Usopp apologized quickly. "As snipers are pretty forgetful. I'll be going now." Usopp turned, only to find 4 swords pointed at his neck. "Unit 18 is a supply unit, not a sniper unit. You aren't going anywhere, Straw Hat Pirate." "Now wait just a damn minute," the old man yelled. "You know that these docks are basically sacred ground to the shipwrights. If you spill even a drop of his blood here, I'll make sure you regret it." Before any more could be said, light exploded from the deck of the Mary and 2 burnt forms were catapulted from the ship. The bodies of 2 Marines, both of them groaning softly, landed with a thud at the feet of their Lieutenant Com. Drake cursed. A form staggered over to the railing of the pirate vessel. "Who are you?" Jin demanded in a tired voice. "Where are my Nakama?" "Jin!" Usopp cried happily. "Usopp," Jin called back. "Where the hell are we?" "Get him," Drake ordered. Jin moved to jump off the ship, but he tripped over the railing and landed face first into the concrete. He exploded into lightning for a split second before he reformed, sparks flying off him at random intervals. The first wave of enemies slashed their swords through the man, but they had no effect save for shocking the Marines. "Jin, did you?" Usopp left the question hanging. "Ah," the man-demon confirmed as he backhanded a Marine in the face, the man falling with smoke rolling from his mouth. It seemed like the only option is the time. "I mean, that's fine, but could you please help me?" Turning toward the sound of Usopp's voice, Jin darted forward. The 4 holding Usopp at sword point moved to retaliate, but they met the same fate as all the others. "Pull back," Drake ordered. "He's a logia, call for backup." Special attack. Smoke star. A small pellet broke against the floor next to Lieutenant Drake's feet, surrounding him and the Marines around him in a gray cloud. The smokescreen dazed the Marines long enough for Usopp to scramble onto the Mary. As he stepped on deck, a couple of Navy soldiers with a load of gold between them arrived from below deck. "Man," the first complained. "All that work and this is the first load we got out. We haven't even gotten to the food or the cannons, yet, stupid cursed gold." "What's all the commotion?" the second asked Usopp, mistaking him for a Marine. Usopp hammer. Usopp hammer. The surprise attacks knocked the men out cold, giving the sniper the freedom to drop them over the side of the ship and onto the dock below. "Don't worry, girl," Usopp sighed happily, running a hand over the mast while ignoring the stalemate happening on the docks and the gold-laden tarp that was moving back into storage of its own volition. "I'm here to take good care of you, Mary." Now, Usopp couldn't be sure, but he would later swear to Raftel and back that he heard someone whisper a very heartfelt, "Thank you." Marine Inspector Shepard Vice Admiral Jonathan greeted, shaking the hand of the woman who had introduced herself as such. "It's a pleasure to meet you." The woman had dark hair that fell to her shoulders and sunglasses that hid her eyes. The uniform she wore was well decorated. "You as well," the woman replied smoothly, shaking his hand. "I'm sorry it took so long to get here, what with the storm and everything. I hope I haven't kept you waiting." "Not at all," Jonathan smiled. "Please excuse us if we seem a bit frantic. We're having some problems down at one of the docks. I think I heard some of the men talking about that on the way up. Dock 88, correct? I'll leave that to you. Although, if you don't mind, I'd like to get my inspection started from the bottom up. Could you please have someone lead me to the brig?" Of course, Jonathan nodded. The woman, with 2 men leading her, exited the room. Quietly, the commander ordered another 6 men to shadow her. Now alone in his office, the vice admiral turned to his chessboard and rearranged the pieces. Straw Hat and a chef running around the halls, he muttered to himself. An unknown doctor and 2 unknown nurses performing surgery. A sniper and the man-demon with the living ship. A woman who claims to be Inspector Shepard. And finally, the pirate hunter and Tri-Horn in custody. That's 10 human pirates in all, 7 male and 3 female. The exact number we got from Alabasta, 1. It's only a matter of time. I hope you find our brig to be satisfactory. 2 Marines saluted, allowing the woman and her escorts, both open and hidden, to step further into the jail of Navarone. Inspecting the bars, Robin was easily able to recognize the sea prism stone they were made of and nodded as if impressed. Not only that, but she could also hear the men that had shadowed her all the way from the Vice Admiral's office, bringing to total Marines in the room up to 10. Are any of your cells in use? She questioned. 1, ma'am, one of the Marines replied. Would you like us to take you there? Please. The man began a brisk walk toward the back of the prison, suddenly stopping before the second-to-last cell. A table on the opposite wall taunted the prisoners by holding their weapons. Wakey, wakey, the Marine called, hitting the bars. You filth are in the presence of an inspector. You. The real shepherd yelled from where he was chained inside the cell next to Zoro and Coby. The chain holding him to the wall rattled as he reached its end. You're the one that ambushed me. I'm sorry? Robin quirked an eyebrow over her stolen sunglasses. Do I know you, pirate? You're the pirate, lady. Calm down, Connie, Coby sighed, taking a page out of Usopp's book to help Robin's cover. There's no point trying to hide when we're already caught. So that's your name, the Marine next to Robin snapped. No it isn't, Shepard shouted. Yes it is, Coby shot back. The Condor, Condoriano. I'm wondering where you left your steel talons.
I don't own any steel talons. And my name is Shepard. Marine Inspector Shepard.
Shut up, Connie, Zoro growled. You're being annoying. Why Luffy led you on the ship, I have no idea. Oh, there's no need for that, Robin smiled. Dos fleur. Clutch, 20 arms, enough for every Marine both hidden and open, painfully bent the government men backwards. I knew it, Shepard yelled before Zoro kicked him in the head. Being careful to not touch the bars directly, Robin quickly unlocked the door and the shackles on the swordsman. Nice disguise, Robin, Coby complimented as he and his teacher grabbed their weapons from a nearby table. Thank you. Shall we go? The woman questioned lightly. Our ship is in Dock 88 on the western side. Lead the way. Open this door immediately. The leader of a group of Marines demanded, banging on the door of the emergency medical room. In response, a nurse opened the door and stuck her head out. Shut up, the nurse hissed. We're performing some delicate operations in here. We were sent by Lieutenant Drake. He has reason to suspect that there are as many as 3 pirates within that room at this very moment. We don't have a moment to spare for your pirate hunt, the nurse bit back. Leave. She slammed the door shut. Damn it. There goes my promotion. Damn it, Usopp cursed as he fired another exploding star. He was playing the last line of defense since Jin was stuck under a sea prism stone net. I'll never let you take the Mary. Unbeknownst to the sniper, Mary was doing her own part, firing bits of rope out from the sides of the ship and shaking the ladders. Unfortunately, the number of Marines on the dock was growing by the second. Even so, Usopp's dedication to Kaya's gift refused to let his courage waver. Meanwhile, Luffy and Sanji were searching for the brig, but... Hey, Sanji. Do you know where the brig is? How the hell would I know? Sanji demanded, turning a corner. I don't know. I was following you because I thought you knew. An explosion to the right caught their attention. What was that? Luffy asked. You're here, so it must be someone else on our crew, Sanji snarked. Come on. The two followed the growing sounds of battle until they finally ran into the cave marked as Dock 88 where Usopp was valiantly defending his greatest treasure. Usopp, Luffy called, attracting the attention of the sniper and all the Marines. You moron, the chef groaned. They dove to opposite sides as projectiles hit the ground and exploded where they'd been standing. Things and finally getting exciting. Luffy yelled happily, forgetting about his need to find the brig. The bridge is empty, Coby observed. It's probably a trap. Indeed, Robin agreed, but that is the only way to the western docks. So we springing the trap? Zoro asked. Both of his companions nodded. Wordlessly, all 3 made their way to the top half of the bridge and began to cross. About halfway over, the burly Marines that had been hiding on either side revealed themselves. We're 55 and you better fear it, or we're gonna show you our fiery spirit. Don't move, Coby ordered, holding a sword at Robin's neck. We have the inspector. That won't fool us, the tan, muscular Marine in the lead laughed. We are Unit 55, the unit all other units fear. We won't be fooled by some snot-nosed brat. It was a good bluff, little swordsman, but I guess I don't need this anymore. The woman shed the Marine coat and crossed her arms. Let's begin. See and fleur. Slap, 100 arms sprouted, each one slapping a Marine in the face. About 30 of them were standing too close to the edge on the packed bridge and were knocked over into the water. The rest of them shook off the blow and charged. Zoro decided to take the Marines in the front bare-handed while Coby faced the way they'd come and transformed. Robin decided to try to help as well, sprouting limbs to trip up the approaching wave of foes. 5-point style. Meteor swords. The Marines in the lead managed to catch the zone type, holding him back as several men tried to skirt around the edges. One man took a swipe at the hybrid, putting a deep cut in Koby's forehead above his left eye. Having none of that, Coby broke away and jumped back, putting space between him and his foes. Believing a different approach may be required, the Rosette finished his transformation into a Triceratops, lowered his head, and pawed the ground. Cretaceous charge. That scared the men. Many of them, doubting they could stand up to the power of a charging dinosaur, tried to flee, only for their paths to be blocked by other men of their unit. Luckily, Coby didn't want to kill them, so he turned at the last second, ramming into the mass of Marines with his flank. The men were bowled over like bowling pins, clamoring to try to stand and hindering each other. On the other side, Zoro had only unsheathed one blade and was facing off against a man with extendable boxing gloves. Zoro scowled as he cut another opponent, only for a glove to punch him in the side for a third time. Finally having enough, the older swordsman sliced through the metal attached to the glove as it came in for a fourth time. The Marine holding the handle stared at the severed end in fear, having thought that cutting metal with nothing but a sword was impossible. Incoming, without much warning, Amy decided to make her appearance, dropping onto the largest group of Marines on the bridge. The supports cracked under the stress and Amy lightened herself to float as she watched the steel and concrete give way underneath her. The men she'd fallen on plummeting into the water below. Kya ha ha ha. The blonde laughed. We're going to be the last ones to the dock if we don't hurry up. Where the hell have you been? Zoro demanded. Thank you for the warning, Ms. Valentine. Robin nodded. I suppose it's about time we stepped up our game. Cien Fleur. Swat. Growing a giant arm out of the side of the bridge, the woman used it to knock off all the Marines barring them from the western shore. To complete the path, she bloomed a bridge of flesh that filled the hole Amy's entrance had created. Shrimp, we're leaving, Zoro shouted. Coming, the Triceratops called back, turning to smack a couple of enemies off the bridge with his tail and dart toward the cleared path. I'll cover you, Zoro told his student as he passed. 36 caliber Phoenix. The flying cut mowed over the front row of men, leaving a shallow cut across their chests. Once the pirates that couldn't Robin removed her arm bridge, cutting off the Marines' access. See you later, Amy taunted. Kya ha ha ha. You damn pirates, the remaining forces of Unit 55 yelled angrily. It was chaos when the 4 pirates reached the dock. Each of the others that were there before were in their own little circles, fighting the enemies around them. Usopp was still attacking from the Mary, taking pot shots whenever he could. Jin was nearby, shocking anyone who came near and hastily avoiding any nets that came his way, stone or otherwise. Luffy and Sanji were on either side, beating their opponents back with large-scale attacks. Zoro and Coby locked eyes before nodding and charging in while the Marines' backs were turned. Robin grew a chain of arms to swing to the Mary without fighting while Amy joined her in the air only to fall on a group of snipers. Just as they cleared the entrance, Chopper, Nami, Grace, and another woman ran out of the doorway with a stretcher. Nami's in a nurse outfit, Sanji yelled with hearts in his eyes. Keep your eyes off of her, Luffy shouted defensively, a fist extending across the room to punch no less than 10 Marines and the cook. We've got a hostage, Nami roared, holding her Klima tacked at Kabato's throat. The woman screamed in response, winking so only Nami could see. Stand down or we'll have the monster of our crew snap her neck. I said, Nami emphasized, nudging Chopper with her foot, we'll have the monster of our crew snap her neck. Oh, right, Chopper blinked, changing into his heavy point. Get out of our way or I'll break this woman in half. He lifted Dr. Kabato up over his head, the woman continuing to scream. I would lower your weapons, Zoro told the Marines. I've seen the neck snapping thing. It's pretty messy. Lower your weapons, men, Drake begrudgingly ordered. Trying to act as scary as possible, Chopper stomped his way over to the Mary with Nami and Grace following. That's the guy in charge, Nami whispered to Grace as they approached the lieutenant commander. Color him or something. Stopping in front of the man, Grace slowly pulled out his palette and brush. Drake stared down at the diminutive redhead before him. What was a little girl like her doing with these pirates? Was she a captive? What was with the paint? Colors trap. Laughing yellow. The men were shocked when their commander broke out into uncontrollable laughter. They'd never heard him laugh before. It was a mixture of clown-like honks and snorting sounds. Finally reaching the Mary, everyone but Grace and Kabato climbed on. The little girl stayed next to the doctor as the ship pulled out of the dock. Grace only boarding when Robin's arms reached out to pull her aboard and leave the hostage. The old man Usopp had talked to before the fight rushed out to hug the woman. Keeping close to the outer edge of the crater G-8 was built inside of. The going Mary made her way toward the gate that was the only entrance and exit for the nearly impenetrable marine base with only a small stop to grab Nami's waiver. 3 battleships appeared in the distance, gaining slowly. Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, and Coby deflected all the cannonballs that came their way, none of them touching the Mary. If one were paying attention, they would have seen that some of the cannonballs were missing the ship by bending through the air. redirected by some unknown force. Vice Admiral Jonathan watched this from the balcony of his office, a fishing pole in his hand cast in the water. While the pirates scurried about on the deck, he saw Mary condense into being in the crow's nest, smiling and waving at him mockingly. A cannonball raced toward her, some marine apparently having thought, truthfully, that she was the ghost on the ship. Mary's smile never wavered and she flicked her hand, the cannonball moving off course so it whistled by harmlessly. Mary's voice carried over the distance. "Bahahaha, bye, Johnny, thanks for the game," Jonathan sighed, reeling his line in, only a sardine on the hook. How that got there, he hadn't a clue. Sardines weren't native to the Grand Line. Shaking off, he watched Mary fade back into the ship as his ears picked up some of the orders from their true leader. "Usopp, man the cannon. I, Nami, Chopper, follow my commands to the letter." "Got it," the reindeer answered from the rudder. A barrage of cannonballs too thick to dodge were fired by the grunts surrounding the gate. Luffy, ever the battle genius, used a gum-gum balloon to redirect them into the metal gate itself. The gate collapsed with a bang, leaving nothing to dam the water within the circular base. The Mary was caught in a rip current. "Wait," Nami screamed, realizing that there was no way to get back in the base. "Did they take her gold?" "Nope," Amy answered, peeking inside the storeroom. "It looks like all the gold is still here. With a tarp that's not ours, too. Maybe they thought it was cursed or something." "I heard some of them complaining about that earlier," Usopp agreed. "I did too," Jin commented, dragging the attention to himself. "Jin, you're awake," Luffy yelled happily. "We can talk later." Nami shouted. Escape now. All chatter ceased as all the pirates' energies were put to use getting the Mary through the broken gate in one piece. Compared to all the excitement on land, sailing out was almost anticlimactic. The battleships, or those that weren't beached by the receding water within the base, continued chasing them even after reaching the open sea, but they were forced to turn back after Navarone became nothing but a speck on the horizon. The Straw Hats had escaped the impenetrable fortress, G8. We did it," Luffy and Usopp sang as they danced on the deck of the Mary. Beside them, Chopper was stitching up the head wound Coby had gotten while fighting on the bridge. It seemed the captain was no longer the only one with a scar on his face. "So you ate the devil fruit?" Grace asked Jin, who was sitting away from everyone else since sparks were still flying off him randomly. Jin nodded. "And how did they not find you?" Nami added. "We had no time to think when we went into hiding." "You mean you guys weren't the ones who put me in a closet?" Jin questioned in a surprised voice. No," Amy denied. "Last we saw, you were still knocked out on the medical bed." "Well, somebody had to have put me there. Maybe it was the same person who fixed the Mary," Zoro joked. "I told you, I saw someone that night," Usopp defended. "Either way," Jin interrupted, "I woke up in a closet with the devil fruit next to me and some voices talking outside. They said there was a group that was trying to take the Donna's gold, but that they claimed the gold was moving when they had their backs turned. Anyway, I fell and they heard me, so I ate the fruit to defend myself. But now, I'm not sure I want it." "Then what are we supposed to do?" Coby asked. "Once someone eats a devil fruit, they have that power until they die." "Do you wish for a way to keep your powers in check?" Robin inquired. "I guess so," Jin answered, not exactly sure what he wanted. "Sea prism stone would be out of the question," Robin pointed out, "but, as we saw in Skypia, contact with rubber forced Eneru into a human state." "So what?" Usopp questioned. "It's not like we could have Luffy touching him all the time." "But we could sew rubber into the underside of his headband," Coby thought aloud. "I like that idea," Jin nodded with relief. "Indeed," Robin agreed. "If you needed to, you could take it off to use your powers. Either way, though, you'll have to learn to control them." The now lightning man turned toward his captain. "Don Luffy? Don Anami? Would you two do me the honor of helping me train? Don Luffy can keep me in check and the Donna has extensive knowledge of weather, including lightning." "Sure," Luffy confirmed before Nami could answer. "Let's start right now." Nami sighed as the three of them moved toward the front of the ship, the rest of the crew breaking off to do their own things. Usopp stepped into the men's quarters to be met with the ringing of his personal den, a brown snail with an unexplainable long nose. "Hello," he answered, picking up the receiver on the shell of the snail. "Usopp," Kaya's relieved voice responded. "Thank Goda, I've been trying to reach you for the past few days." "Sorry, we've been pretty busy," Usopp chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. "We've been pretty busy. We went to heaven, killed God, partied with angels, and then crashed into a marine base that we escaped from just a little bit ago. What's going on your end?" "You did what?" With a smile, Usopp launched into his own rendition of their trip to Skypia and their subsequent landing in G8. All the while, Kaya listened happily. "And finally, I bravely fired a single gunpowder star from the crow's nest. My pellet hitting the gate's singular weak point. The gate crumbled to bits just as our ship approached, the top only just missing our figurehead. The marines around us froze in awe of my power, granting us enough time to escape unimpeded. So what's new with you, Kaya?" Oh, right. It seemed the young woman had nearly forgotten why she'd called in the first place. I got this package a few days ago. It's a black flag with a skull and crossbones wearing a straw hat. Coby mentioned something about those. The sniper nodded. Luffy decided that he would claim our home islands as his turf to ward off other pirates. If you fly that flag, you should be safe under the threat of retaliation from the great Captain Usopp. The snail giggled in Kaya's voice. In that case, I'll have Mary fly it right away. It was the next day that the first package gull arrived with a letter. The letter was from Nami's sister and included a photo of Nejico and Genzo in front of a new flagpole proudly flying the Straw Hat flag. A number was scribbled at the bottom of the page, Nejico's Den Den number. The second gull returned from Luffy's hometown with 2 letters and 1 photo. The first, written in small, neat handwriting, was from a woman named Makino asking Luffy how he was doing and if his crew was as lively as they looked in the news. The second, in barely legible scrawl, was from someone named Dayton who was praising the teen for sticking to those marine bastards and driving his grandfather nuts. It was covered in other writings that couldn't really be made out. That photo showed a smiling, green-haired woman and a large, female redhead with the flag spread between them. An old man was pouting in the background. The third arrived from Vivi and Karoo and included a photo of them with the flag hanging in their room rather than outside. It also included a number with the instructions to call sometime. So much has happened since you left. The final letter was from Kureha and Dalton. It held not only a picture of the flag flying next to Hirulix, which Chopper claimed as his own and hung it in the medical ward, but also an eternal pose stamped, Sakura Kingdom. As the letter explained, Dalton had been voted king by the people and renamed Drum before reaching out toward Alabasta. The 2 kingdoms now had a strong alliance. In the time it took for those 4 letters to arrive, Luffy, Nami, and Jin worked out a schedule for training Jin's new logia powers so he didn't accidentally hurt any of his crewmates. It would take him until they reached the next island for him to have enough control to not spark without his now rubber-lined headband. Another month passed before the next event of worth. Coby finished his growth spurt halfway through, now standing over his captain and just under his mentor. Sanji's food had finally fully counteracted the measly meals he'd had from his 2 years aboard Alvida's ship that had stunted his growth. Not only had he gotten taller, but puberty hit Coby like a truck, dropping his voice into a smooth tenor as opposed to his earlier squeaky alto. Grace had also grown, but she only came up to the rosette's chin. She had blossomed into a lovely young woman and, though he had taken notice, Coby decided that he wouldn't act on his impulses for fear of denial or the awkwardness such a thing would cause. The 2 began an awkward dance around each other with Amy jumping in to drive Coby away whenever it appeared they were starting to make progress. Secretly, however, the rest of the crew decided to make a bet. Not what would happen, but how long it would take. Luffy ordered Amy to stay out of it, but the fear had already been instilled into the Rosette. The month after their trip to Skypia passed quickly, giving the pirates many rewards with plenty of gold to spare. Sanji managed to afford all new cookware to withstand the new cooking dials. Robin asked for nothing but enough to buy more history and mythology books. Chopper was able to buy several medical textbooks he'd been wishing for and Usopp bought various supplies for his tinkering and upgrades. While Nami didn't buy anything, she did have Usopp upgrade her Kleem attack with some dials. Grace restocked her paints and she and Coby had to get all new wardrobes after outgrowing everything. Grace was now usually outfitted in a tie-dyed shirt and a red skirt that fell to her knees. Orange tennis shoes covered her feet in knee length. Mismatched socks hid the rest of her legs. Upon her head sat the red cowboy hat that Robin had bribed her with after they'd left Alabasta, covering the top of her hair, the rest of which had grown down to her waist. She had also bought a new smock which was slowly accumulating stains that made it her own. Coby's new outfit was still rather reminiscent of marine uniforms with a white and blue color scheme, yet key differences. He wore blue shorts and his sandals on his lower body, the backside of his pants folded over rather than being sewn to give his tail an opening when he transformed. His torso was clad in a white shirt with the face of a triceratops, something that he had gotten as a joke but had come to like nonetheless. The face partially covered by a light jacket that matched his pants and had a hood in the back. His hair had grown longer as well, now framing the top of his face and the back brushing his neck. A blue bandana was tied around his neck so the knot was even with the end of his hair. The final change of the month was Jin's. He didn't change his clothing, going back to a cleaner version of what he had been wearing at the Barate, dark pants and shirt, gray jacket with red dragons, gray and blue headband. But he did coat the weights on the end of his tonfa in gold since the shiny metal would be a better electrical conductor than their original iron should the need to use his powers arise. The ends now glimmered golden in the light while 2 lines spiraled down the shafts of the weapons. The golden lines, which twisted around to end on the handles, were tiny dragons that Jin had spent several hours making because, if I'm going to have gold on my tonfa, it's going to done right, and dragons are cool. There was one scary day where the Mary had to sail through a particularly bad storm and almost crashed into a giant ship with a gold trip and a white fox figurehead, But the storm was so bad that the two pirate groups, for that was what the Black Flag and Jolly Roger on the other ship symbolized, were too busy sailing to meet. While Luffy wanted to go back and meet the captain with the super awesomely big ship that Mary could beat in a flash, Nami quickly subdued him with promises of meat and otherwise. If she didn't run the ship beforehand, she certainly did now. Luffy was wrapped around every one of her fingers. The island they landed on after that storm, Long Ring Long Land, was interesting but rather boring. Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper had a lot of fun playing with the AAAAA animals while everyone else talked to the man who fell from the giant bamboo stilts. However, nothing that met the standard Straw Hat crazy happened. Their next exciting adventure began on an uninhabited island where the crew stopped for a barbecue. The party they had on the beach was nothing surprising, nor when Luffy declared that they were going to explore the island. What was surprising was when they found a man sleeping in a field. The crew entered the clearing with their usual chatter, 4 or 5 different conversations happening at the same time. The clearing was absolutely flat save for one large boulder that sat in the center. What looked to be large black mushrooms seemed to be growing out of the top of the rock. "Oh, a mushroom," Chopper commented, running forward to study the fungi. "Hey, wait for us," Luffy called after him as the reindeer rounded the corner, only to be knocked back. "Are you okay, Chopper?" Coby asked, carrying Grace in his now fully grown Dino mode, the girl munching on rice crackers as usual. The rest of the crew ran forward to check on the doctor and defend him if need be. A sleepy voice hummed. As it turned out, the mushroom was not a plant, but the hair of a very tall man. The man stood at nearly 10 feet and was thin. He was dressed in white dress pants with a blue undershirt and yellow tie under a white vest. His curly black hair ended just above his neck and a sleep mask covered his eyes. Upon seeing him, Robin gasped and unconsciously stepped back. The sound of the woman caused the man to remove his headgear from over his eyes and sweep his gaze over the group. "Oh my, look at you." The man smiled as his eyes landed on the archaeologist. "You've grown into quite the stunning young woman, Nico Robin." Upon hearing her full name, every one of the pirates were immediately set on guard, falling into defensive stances. "Oh, calm down. I'm not here on any official business." "Who the hell are you?" Luffy demanded. "And who do you work for?" Jin added. "That's," Coby gulped. "That's Aokiji, one of the Navy's 3 admirals." "Oh, so you know me," the man yawned, lying down on his side. "I'm flattered." "This guy's an admiral?" Zoro questioned incredulously. "I didn't think Marines were allowed to be lazy." "He's almost as lazy as you," Amy joked. "At least I'm not as lazy as Grace," Zoro shot back. "Lay off of Grace," Coby and Amy yelled in sync. "Oh my," Aokiji muttered as his eyes landed on Amy and Nami. "2 more lovely ladies with some nice bazongas. Are you 2 free tonight?" "You bastard," Sanji yelled instinctively. "Back off," Luffy ordered, stepping in front of Nami. "Oh ho, so the report Garp was laughing about was true." "Who's Garp?" Nami asked as her boyfriend went as white as Aokiji's vest. "Nobody," Luffy tried to claim. "He's nobody." "Do you mean Vice Admiral Garp?" Coby asked. "Hold on a second. His surname is Monkey. Marine Vice Admiral Monkey D. Garp is your father?" Luffy shook his head, his voice refusing to work. "A couple months ago, Garp was laughing about his grandson getting himself a girlfriend. It looks like the betting pool he started is over." "The Marines had a betting pool about a pirate's love life?" Jin asked in surprise. "That doesn't seem like something they would do." "Garp is a special case," Aokiji waved. "And let me say, you're one lucky pirate for having such a babe on your arm." Several of the pirates tried to hold in their laughter with limited success. Aokiji thought Luffy was the one in charge of that relationship. What's so funny? Before anyone could answer, a group of 10 or so people stumbled out of the bushes. All of them were covered in dirt and the 2 children with them clung to a woman the pirates supposed was their mother. "Is it true?" the blonde man who was their leader asked. "You're a Marine Admiral? Can you help us?" "Who are you guys?" Usopp questioned. "I thought this island was uninhabited." Chopper panicked and ran over, checking the health of every person. "How are they?" Luffy asked. "They haven't eaten in days," Chopper answered. "Luckily, they aren't badly injured, so all they need is food." At that diagnosis, Luffy declared another meal to begin shortly. A passenger ship disappeared about a month ago. Aokiji drawled several minutes later, munching on a stick of barbecue that Chopper had offered him. "I'm guessing you're the survivors." "Yes, we are," the blonde confirmed. "We were returning to our home island when a giant frog doing the front crawl slammed into our ship." "That's ridiculous," Nami denied. "Everyone knows frogs do the breaststroke," Sanji added nonchalantly. "Nope," the Marine yawned. "That was probably Yokozuna." "After what felt like forever, we landed on this island," the blonde continued, "but our food ran out soon after that. We were praying for a miracle and we thought we'd gotten one with he thought he saw a ship on the horizon, but it was just a guy on a bicycle." "Don't be stupid," Luffy laughed. "You can't ride bikes on the water." "Actually, that was me." Aokiji raised his hand lazily. And then, when he finally saw a ship, it was a pirate ship. And that was as Coby finished. I guess we'd have enough room for you, but just being on our ship could brand you as pirates. Nah, the admiral waved off. I'll handle it. Rising from the ground, Aokiji began walking into the forest and, whether out of hope or curiosity, the pirates and survivors followed. Reaching the edge of the island, Aokiji dipped a single hand into the water and spoke 2 words. Ice Age. In a flash, the ocean for as far as the eye could see was frozen solid. The viewers' mouths dropped open in shock at the display, only brought back to their senses as the Marine continued to speak. That should stay frozen for about a week. If you keep walking in that direction, you should reach an inhabited island in 4 days. It'll be a bit chilly, so remember to bundle up. That wailed. Thank you. Aokiji didn't seem to know how to react to Luffy's praise. We can finally go home, the survivors cried. The Straw Hats offered them food and water for their journey and the group staggered off over the frozen ocean, calling thanks back the way they came. The pirates waved back while playing on the ice. You know what, old Marine guy? Luffy smiled. You're not half bad. I was about to say the same to you, Straw Hat, the Marine responded before he frowned. That's why I can't let you continue to travel with that woman. Hand over Nico Robin and I'll let you go. You know what, old Marine guy? Luffy smiled. You're not half bad. I was about to say the same to you, Straw Hat, Aokiji responded before he frowned. That's why I can't let you continue to travel with that woman. Hand over Nico Robin and I'll let you go. No way. Luffy denied, jumping to his feet. I don't care how cool you are, no one is taking my nakama away from me. Do you know about Nico Robin's history? The Marine Admiral asked, unfazed by the pirate's aggressive stance. Are you aware that every group she has ever aligned herself with has fallen, every member but her either dead or imprisoned? That's not true, Amy stated, catching Aokiji off guard. She leveled her parasol at the Marine. I was part of Baroque Works for 3 years, working as one of Crocodile's top agents before I turned. Besides, Luffy continued, history is personal and it only says who you were. We don't care about that. It's who you are now that matters. Aokiji sighed heavily. He hated when he met good pirates like the Straw Hats, but he couldn't just let them get away and endanger themselves with the likes of Nico Robin. Bending down, he plucked several blades of grass and blew on them, flash freezing the water droplets around them and in the air into a jagged sword. Ice Saber. With speed that belied his lazy nature, the tall man dashed forward and prepared to cut through the archaeologist, only for his weapon to be blocked by a rubber fist, 2 swords, a leg, and a tonfa. Back off, Zoro growled at him. With barely a though, Aokiji pumped his power through his mouth and blew over the fighters, coating several limbs in ice. The monster trio dropped, them having taken the worst of it. Luffy grabbed a frozen fist, Zoro growled at his hand holding Kitetsu 3, and Sanji clutched his ice-covered leg. Coby hopped away, wary of transforming as that would make him more susceptible to the cold. Jin glared at the man who dared to threaten his family, the gold on the end on his right tonfa glittered through the ice. Listen, kids, just hand her over. Nope, Luffy jumped up, punching toward the man's face while Zoro ducked low to cut through his body. Not reacting fast enough to dodge, or choosing not to, the Marine was cut in half and crumbled into shards of ice. The coating over Luffy and Zoro's hands shattered under the force. Was that it? Amy asked. The pile of ice shifted, the Admiral slowly rising as he reformed. He slashed his arm through the air, a freezing wind blowing the fighters to their right. Thunderbolt tempo. Nami yelled, a bolt of electricity descending upon the Marine. Aokiji's face vaporized, leaving a crater between the man's shoulders that descended into his chest. Steam or mist, the pirates weren't sure which, wafted from the broken area. Silence covered the battleground like a blanket, every pirate staring at the body until Amy jumped into the air. There's no kill like overkill, she shouted. Shatter, Iceman, 10,000 kilogram press. The blonde fell on the Admiral's prone form, roughly 10.32 tons of weight, crushing the rest of Aokiji's body into crystalline dust. There you go, that wasn't too hard. Robin allowed herself to let out a breath of relief. That was, until she felt 2 cold arms begin to encircle her. No, the archaeologist cried, her body refusing to move as she realized the Admiral had reformed behind her. No, I'm not the same person I was, I've changed. Robin. Zoro's voice carried over from where the others had been blown, they were too slow to help. There was a crack of ozone as a shiny ball caught the surprised Marine in the face. He shattered into ice again, his pieces being launched into the field from the force. Jin landed in front of the startled archaeologist, his headband tossed to the side back with the others. Electricity danced across his skin as he glared at the slowly reforming Marine. No one threatens my nakama, the man-demon bit out. Everyone, go, I'll hold him off. We aren't leaving you, Jin, Luffy tried to protest. No, Captain, Coby said, wrapping an arm around the rubber man's chest. Jin is best suited to fight him out of all of us. They're both logias after all. I don't care, Grace? A little help? Colors trap, calming green. Grr, fine, Luffy conceded with a growl, his ire just barely giving way to the effects of the chemical-infused paint. Everyone back to the Mary. Jin, I expect you to be back soon. That's a captain's order. Yes, Don, the lightning man grunted. Since Robin's body still wouldn't move, Zoro jumped in and picked her up as the rest of the crew retreated. Electricity sparked from Jin's tonfa as the weapons spun, the motion seeming to act like a generator as the man collected ambient static from the air. The rumble fruit, Aokiji muttered in surprise. It was supposed to be lost almost a decade ago. Does that mean that Vice Admiral Jonathan's second-hand reports were true? How did you get your hands on the fruit said to be invincible? I killed God, the newer devil fruit user answered honestly. I take it you have the ice fruit or something? Yeah. Tell me, man demon Jin. Why do you fight so hard for your crew? Why do you fight so hard for Nico Robin? You wouldn't understand, Jin replied. Don Luffy was the first man to show me real kindness after my parents died. That is how many of us joined. Others, like Robin, were saved by him whether they wanted to be or not. We have something of a bond that way. Robin has become one of us, and we will fight to the ends of hell to keep it that way for as long as she'll let us and beyond. And that's why Don Luffy will become the king of the pirates. Then I'm sorry for doing this, the Marine sighed. Ice Age. The ground around the Iceman's feet began turning white, frost growing from the origin. Jin, however, was unafraid of this as he ran forward. 3,000-watt slam. With a screech of electricity, the man-demon brought his right tonfa down on his foe. The lightning that sparked out of his shiny weapon burnt holes in Aokiji's sleeves as the man was pushed backwards due to the force on his crossed arms. In response, Aokiji brought up his weapon and launched forward to attack. The ice sword became coated in black and, acting on instinct, the pirate used both his tonfa to block the sword. With a clang, the three weapons became locked in a struggle. The Marine bore down on his fellow logia, causing the air temperature to drop. Feeling the cold as well as the ice creeping up his legs, Jin started to push a charge into his surroundings, heating the air in his body to counteract the chill. The ice on his legs began to steam. Aokiji raised his eyebrow, surprised that there was a pirate with a relatively small bounty that could hold him back so well, even if the Iceman wasn't giving his all. Still, he had a job to do. Jin gasped as frost started to grow on his weapons. Pulling back, the man flashed backward, his limbs each turning to lightning. The ice on his tonfa and legs evaporated instantly. Why are you holding back? The pirate panted. I know you're too strong for me to defeat. And yet you still fight. Aokiji responded. You were there in Alabasta, weren't you? Caught off guard by the question, Jin confirmed without thinking. I was. Then I don't want to kill you. I never did like Crocodile. As a matter of fact, I don't like any of the warlords. There was something else, too. Something about Smoker. Ah, I forgot. Anyway, I'll consider my debt to your captain repaid by sparing you and your friends, but be wary, man-demon. Nico Robin is not someone to befriend. Eventually, she will turn her back on you, and you will pay the price. Turning away, Aokiji entered the forest, leaving the fight. Quickly, Jin returned to the Mary and was relieved to see that everyone else was okay. Replacing his headband, the devil fruit user felt the familiar sensation of his powers vanishing upon contact with the rubber lined inside. He chose to keep the Admiral's warning to himself since he knew that his captain would not care either way. A T-bike appeared as the Marine calmly pedaled off over the water and into the distance. Wow, Jin! Chopper exclaimed as the man pulled himself over the Mary's railing. You're so strong to be able to fight off an admiral. He was holding back, Jin replied with a frown. He let us go because we took out Crocodile. That's why? Amy wondered aloud. Weird. Not really, Coby muttered, shaking his head. Aokiji is said to be the most lenient of the three admirals. Nami, is the log pose reset? Luffy asked. No, it isn't, the navigator responded. I'll tell you when it is, though. I'm going to train, Zoro stated with a frown before he disappeared into the bowels of the ship. I'm going to join him, Coby added. Sanji, meet. And just like that, everything on the Going Merry went back to normal. There's a frog doing the front crawl off the starboard bow, Zoro yelled, instantly attracting the attention of the rest of the crew. Really? Luffy and Chopper yelled excitedly as they raced to the railing to see it. Don't be ridiculous, Usopp chastised. Frogs can't do the holy crap. There's a frog doing the front crawl. Sure enough, a giant frog with black hair and scars covering its body was doing the front crawl through the water. Follow that frog, Luffy ordered. We're gonna eat it. Go to damn it, Luffy, Nami sighed before she began giving orders. The ship turned to 2 o'clock and began pursuing the amphibian. Stop, Amy ordered from the crow's nest. Stop, we're going to hit a lighthouse, stop. Despite Luffy's protests, the rest of the crew brought the Mary to a stop just as several warning bells started to ring. What's a lighthouse doing way out here? Nami questioned. In front of the boat, the frog jumped onto something in the water and took a ready stance. being above water revealed that the frog was wearing a maroon loincloth. "What is the frog standing on?" Coby asked. "Train tracks." Grace's answer, for that was what it was supposed to be, still came out as a question. Indeed, the giant frog was standing on a set of train tracks floating just a couple of inches under the water and flowing with the waves. A loud whistle tore through the surrounding area just before a train blew past. There was a mighty collision as the frog tried to stop the train, only to be thrown away with blood flowing from what would be another scar. "Granny, Granny! There are pirates outside." The voice of a little girl attracted the crew's attention and they turned to the lighthouse just in time to see the end of a striped dress disappear inside. "Really?" an older woman slurred. "Then bring me the den." The old woman fell out of the doorway. She was quite heavy-set with bushy blonde hair in 2 braids down her back. Her face showed deep smile lines and her cheeks were flushed. She was dressed in a conductor's uniform and a bottle of something was clutched in her hand. A little girl who had to be related to the woman ran up to her with a snail. The little girl looked exactly like the woman in miniature, except for her clothing, the lack of wrinkles, and that her hair defied gravity in its braids. A small, blue thing that looked somewhat like a rabbit waddled after her. "Hello?" The woman slurred into the snail. "Nah, you have the wrong number." With a click, she hung up. "Oh, pirates. Why didn't ya say something, Jimmy?" "I did, Granny, NYA," the rabbit added. "Hi, I'm Kokora. But ya can call me Granny, and this is my granddaughter Chimney. And this is Ganbei, my kitty cat," Chimney added, holding up the animal. "Who are you?" Kokora continued. "I'm Luffy. I'm going to be the king of the pirates." Kokora laughed, hiccuping every few seconds. "And where are you pirates headed?" "Somewhere east of here," Nami answered, checking the log pose. "Then headed fair water 7, Kokora nodded. Best shipwrights in the world work fair Galila there." "Great," Usopp exclaimed. "We can finally get the Mary fixed. If fixin' ship, then I got something fair ya." The inebriated woman re-entered the lighthouse before coming back out with a folded piece of paper. "This is a reference letter. Give it to a man named Iceberg and tell I am Granny," said Shaw. "Alright, thank you," Coby responded. "We'll be going back there in a few days," Chimney said. "We might see you there." "Nya, nya," her animal called. "Set sail for water 7, Luffy shouted. "Let's go get Mary fixed." "Wow," Luffy gasped, him being the only one to get the word out. The city island of Water 7 rose out of the sea like a pyramid topped with the largest fountain any of the pirates had ever seen. The water from the fountain flowed downward through the city's canals, leaving very little room for sidewalks compared to other islands. Large, block numbers counting from 1 were carved into the entrances into the city. "Hey, you!" a man in a fishing boat yelled as the Mary drew closer. "You pirates can't just sail in or else the Marines will catch you. You gotta take the back entrance. Go down that side street, okay?" "Thanks," Nami responded as the crew turned the Mary to follow the man's directions. Sailing around the island gave the pirates several different angles to observe the city, but that made it no less amazing. Finally, they dropped anchor off the shore of what seemed to be the only natural dirt above water. "Alright, let's go get that money." "I'll come with you, Nami Swan," Sanji declared. "No, you aren't," Luffy protested. "You're going grocery shopping because I need meat and Nami need fertilizer stuff for her trees." Sanji tried to argue, but in the end, it was decided that Luffy, Nami, Usopp, Amy, and Coby would go get the gold exchange. The men were there to carry it. Nami went because she was the treasurer, and Amy was going to try to work out how to extend her devil fruit power to objects she wasn't touching. Granny Kokora had mentioned before they'd left the train station that it would take a week for the log post to lock on to the next island, so Nami took that time to give each person their allowance for the island. 50,001 berries each. She was feeling generous. "Alright," Luffy happily called as the quintet reached the archway into the city. "Let's go get us a shipwright." "What's a Yagara bull?" Coby questioned, reading the sign for the arch. "Don't know," the captain shrugged. "Let's find out." A heavy-set man with brown hair greeted the group as they entered the shop. Behind him were 2 pools separated by a fence. "Welcome to Water 7, the businessman, a greasy-looking man with slicked back hair, greeted. "What can I do for you?" "What's a Yagara?" Luffy asked. Yagara bulls, or Yagaras, are the main mode of transportation here in Water 7. They are a breed of fish that look like horses and can breathe both above and below the water. "That's so cool," Luffy and Usopp yelled, stars in their eyes. "How much are they?" Nami questioned, holding her own sack of berries tightly. "You can rent one for the day for 1,000 berries, one for the week for 6,500 berries, or you can buy one for the right price." "Nami, can we get a Yagara?" "No, Luffy. Where would we put it?" "I don't know," the captain shrugged, "but it would be a great pet." Anyway, Coby stepped in front of the bickering couple as he remembered the name of the shipbuilding company. "Can you lead us to Galila?" "If you don't know where that is or what Yagaras are," the man thought aloud, "then I take it you're not from around here?" "We aren't," Amy confirmed. "Hold on," Nami ordered. We can't go to Galila yet. We need to exchange our gold for bears first. Gold? The salesman questioned excitedly. Ahem. Well, don't let me stand in your way. How many yagaras would you like? 5 people with 3 bags. I'd say 4 yagaras. They can hold 2 at a time. Whistling without waiting for confirmation, he opened the gate between the pools to allow 4 yagaras, colored blue, green, yellow, and red respectively, to swim through and plant saddles on their backs. As the men moved to place the sacks of gold in the saddles, Nami turned back to the salesman. How much did you say they were? Oh, that'll be 1 million bears each. Don't lie to us, Usopp yelled. My mistake, 5 million. That's even more. Looks like I can't swindle you, then, the man sighed. That's 4,000 bears to rent 4 bulls for the day. That's better, Nami nodded as she handed him the bag of money, deciding to not mention that the stack contained about 550 bears less than what the man had asked for. In exchange, he handed her a map of the city and pointed out both the shopping district and the Galila company. Their business done, the pirates moved to the Yagaras. Luffy and Nami took the blue one with the captain still grumbling that he wanted one for a pet. Amy all but demanded the yellow bowl. Coby took the green, and Usopp was left with the red. Waving at the man, they departed. I guess I missed my chance, Chopper whined, leaning on the railing of the ship. He stared longingly at the city. Don't fret, Doctor, Robin commented. You can go with me. Really? Can we go to a bookstore? Of course, the archaeologist smiled. Yay! In his excitement, the reindeer began running around the deck in his walk point. Keep it down over there, Chopper, Zoro yelled. I'm trying to sleep. Me too. Grace agreed. Sorry, Chopper whispered. Robin just giggled. What's that crowd about? Luffy asked as their rented Yagaras approached the first shipyard of the Galila company. We don't know, Usopp answered. Why would we know? He wasn't talking to us, long nose, Amy admonished as the Yagaras pulled up to the sidewalk and the pirates disembarked with their treasure. Even if they were only a few feet away, they weren't going to take any chances. Luckily, Amy had had some success and managed to lighten Usopp's load with her powers. She was still being passive-aggressive against Coby, and Luffy was more than strong enough to carry his without trouble. Excuse me, Nami said, tapping on the shoulder of a man near the back of the crowd while trying to look cute. She was more likely to get answers that way. Why is there a crowd? You all must be tourists, the man deduced. Some pirates were causing a ruckus in the shipyard, but the men of Galila were able to handle it. The people here, I guess you can call us their fan club. The shipwrights are the pride and joy of Water 7, after all. So the shipwrights are strong enough to take down Grand Line pirates? Coby questioned. That's amazing. That's nothing for the Galila company, the best shipwrights in the world. As great as they may be, Amy pointed out, we can't buy anything without actual bears. Right, Nami agreed. Thank you, sir. Could you direct us toward the bank? A small group of men crept toward the Mary, climbing over the ridge quietly. Zoro, sleeping on the deck, was the only crew member in sight. Grace and Jin were both in the ship, the former because she couldn't sleep with Zoro's snoring. Mary, knowing she couldn't reveal herself, stayed quiet. Still, she loosened the boards around the swordsmen so they would squeak. The man in the lead of the invading group unsheathed the sword and slunk forward with weapon raised to kill the green-haired man. His sword, however, never struck. Instead, it was blocked by a pair of tonfa glittering gold in the sunlight. Zoro barely opened his eyes, alerted to the danger by the squeak of the boards, the smell of ozone, and the clang of the weapons meeting. They're all yours, Jin, the lazy swordsman yawned. They'll be good practice. All right, the lightning man nodded as sparks began to fall from his skin. Still lacking full control of his powers, some of the man's hair seemed to float in response to the charge dancing over his skin. Who are you and what are you doing on the ship of the Straw Hat Pirates? You haven't heard of us? The man in the lead chuckled. That's fine since we've heard of you, Man Demon Jin and Pirate Hunter Zoro. We're the Frankie family, a notorious group of ship dismantlers and bounty hunters, and we're here to claim your bounties, nothing personal. Sure, Jin nodded, spinning his weapons. Nothing personal, 3,000-watt slam. CP9. The pirates had found the bank and exchanged their gold, and Nami couldn't be happier. Point in fact, she was hugging Luffy tightly to her chest and screaming without a care in the world. Luffy didn't seem to mind at all. 1 billion bears. RTH of all the treasure the Straw Hats had accumulated from Skypia as well as what remained from both Gaspard's plunder and the lost treasure of the Rainbow Mist was 1 billion bears. The money now split between 10 suitcases of 100 million each. Considering the fact that every member of the crew had been expected to carry as much as they could and then some, Nami's forceful greed had finally yielded an amazing crop. That and her bargaining might have raised the overall value of some of the items. Be quiet, Usopp warned. If you shout like that, someone will come to steal it all. Ha! The woman laughed, still riding her money high, as if anyone could get past Luffy, Coby, or Amy. So where to now? Coby asked. Are we heading back to the Mary or going on to Galila? We can head to Galila and settle everything there, Nami decided, releasing Luffy from the pillow-like hug. The rubber man staggered away, mumbling something with swirls in his eyes and a thin trail of blood dripping from his nose. We'll take the money that's left back to the Mary. Sounds like a plan, Amy agreed. Hopping back on their Yagaras, the group soon made their way back to the Pride of Water 7. The crowds from before had dispersed, leaving the view of the short, rope fence around Dock 1 open. A large door with a 1 engraved on it stood out, its top far over the small fence. So now we just have to find this ice guy that woman mentioned, Luffy commented. That shouldn't be too hard. But we don't even know what he looks like, Nami pointed out. And we don't know procedure for this place. Can we just walk in? One way to find out, Luffy answered as he walked over to jump the fence. Whoa there, big shot, a worker said, stopping the captain's attempted entrance. He was a taller man with ginger hair wearing a blue and orange jumpsuit and a white hat that read galley. Under his big, black eyes sat a long, square nose like Usopp's, but square. A tool belt was hooked around his waist. Can't let you in here, partner. Workers only, you know. What can I help you with? We're here to do business, Nami answered before Luffy could say anything stupid. We aren't from around here, so we don't know where to go, but we have a reference letter from Granny Kokura to Iceberg. A reference letter from Granny Kokura? Square Usopp questioned as Coby passed the letter to him. Don't see that every day, no siree. Well, in that case, why don't you let me skedaddle on down to check out your ship? Then you can start talking about cost right away. Sure, Luffy nodded. We're anchored on that small island outside of town. Sweet. Dropping his belt, Square Usopp began stretching before getting into a sprinter position. Without warning, he took off, jumping over the water gate and onto the rooftops of the buildings below. Holy shit, Coby cursed. He's going to get himself killed. Well, no he won't, someone drawled. Turning back to see the source of the voice, the group saw a man with short blue hair in a striped, button-up shirt and dress pants. Next to him was a honey blonde woman in business attire with a notebook. In the pocket of the man's shirt was a white mouse he was petting with a single finger. They call him Kaku of the Spring Wind. Well, he does that a lot. Who are you? Amy questioned, tossing aside the stray though that they'd been asking that a lot lately. The real question is, who are you, Khalifa? I've already done a thorough background check, the woman answered. The one in the middle is Straw Hat, Luffy, and to his left is Tri-Horn, Coby. Other wanted members of their crew are Pirate Hunter, Zoro, Man-Demon, Jin, and Devil Child, Nico Robin. He also has 6 other crew members without bounties. Originating from the East Blue, the crew are named after their captain and are known as the Straw Hat Pirates. Their number of devil fruit users and unconfirmed, but reports have put the number between 5 and 6. They have a collective bounty of 279 million Barris. You got a lot of information on us, Coby blinked, ignoring Usopp's panicking. Of course, the man responded. Khalifa is the best assistant I've ever had. That's sexual harassment, the woman interrupted. Anyway, welcome to Water 7. I'm Iceberg. Well, since we're waiting for Kaku to return, how would you feel about a tour of the company? That sounds great, Ice Pops. Without warning, the man's secretary lashed out with a series of kicks that left Usopp on the ground and the suitcases he had been carrying behind him. Amy had also dropped a suitcase, but she was more focused on the woman who had attacked. I will not permit you to talk to one of the world's leading engineers in that manner, Khalifa explained. Yes, please try not to provoke her, Iceberg begged, the right half of his face swollen. When she kicks out in anger, her aim sucks. Oh, Ice Pops, Luffy added, handing the man their reference letter. We have a letter for you from this old woman at a train station. Well, it's from Kokura, the man nodded before he began tearing up the letter. Anyway, shall we get started? Wait, where's the money? Usopp screamed. Those guys stole our money, Usopp shouted, pointing at 4 men on 2 Yagaras celebrating with the suitcases Usopp had lost. All 3 were dressed similarly in metal-like one-piece outfits. What? The other 4 Straw Hat Pirates yelled. They've got my money, Nami continued, yelling over the shouting from both the men in the boats and a group of men in suits chasing a blonde man on a nearby bridge. Luffy, get it back. Those jerks, the captain growled. We need that for the Mary. Ignoring the blonde man running from debt collectors on the bridge above, Luffy threw his arms out to grip the handles of the suitcases. Luffy's arms retracted, ripping the cases out of the hands of the thieves as the man jumped over the side of the bridge to escape his pursuers. Pardon me, the man called. I need to borrow your Yagaras. Rope action. Out of the sleeves of the man's denim jacket came ropes that wrapped around the felons and yanked them off their boats. Landing in one, he took the reins and started taunting the debt collectors. Well, it looks like Polly's at it again, Iceberg sighed. Indeed, Khalifa answered. Shall I have Lucci retrieve him as usual? Yes, Iceberg nodded. And clear my schedule while you're at it. Already done. Well, good job. Turning back to the group of pirates who were rejoicing at the return of their money, he said, you all were lucky. The Frankie family is a dangerous group. Who are they? Amy asked. By trade, the Frankie family is a group of ship dismantlers, Khalifa responded, adjusting her glasses, but they are also notorious bounty hunters who are always causing trouble when pirates are in town. Do you think they've attacked the Mary? Usopp fretted. Don't worry, Coby replied. Zoro-sensei and Jin are there to deal with them if they attack. Yeah, you're right, Usopp nodded, no need to worry. Well, anyway, Iceberg interrupted, shall we get this tour started? That must be it, Kaku muttered to himself as he landed, his gaze landing on the Going Mary. His eyes absorbed the image of her outer damages as he approached the ship. He had to stop, however, when a man appeared in front of him with a crack of thunder, a sparking, golden ball just touching his nose. Are you another member of the Frankie family? Jin questioned, his narrowed eyes boring into the shipwright. Oh golly, no, Kaku answered, his hands in the air. I'm from Galila. Your captain sent me down to inspect your ship. Prove it, Jin ordered. Describe the man with a nose like yours. Curly black hair and brown overalls. Slowly, Jin lowered his weapons and replaced his headband. Sorry about that, the pirate apologized as the rubber turned him fully human again. We were attacked by the Frankie family earlier and I was afraid they had called for reinforcements. Jeepers, you have to be careful of people like the Frankie family, but I'm here to get a quote on your ship. Can't discuss the price of repairs if we don't know what we're repairing. That makes sense, Jin responded. Follow me. Walking over the ship, the pirate jumped up to grab the end of a ladder, pulling it down so the two men could climb aboard. Reaching the railing, Jin habitually took in his surroundings and chucked, shaking his head as he climbed the rest of the way. Kaku couldn't help but laugh at what he saw. On the opposite side of the ship was a sleeping man with green hair, 3 swords in his grip, identifying him as the infamous pirate hunter, Zoro. Next to him was a young teen girl with red hair in 2 braids. She was, carefully and quietly, painting on his face. He currently had whiskers and glasses and she was in the process of writing, directionless, on his forehead. Noticing Jin and his +1, she brought a finger to her lips and smirked. Don't mind Grace, Jin waved off, introducing the girl. She won't do that to you unless you fall asleep and she's feeling mischievous. I wasn't planning on sleeping on the job anyway, Kaku replied, blinking. He knew his training was tell him that all pirates were evil, but this crew seemed to be an exception. How else could the crewmate of a man worth 60 million draw on his face multiple times if he was taking the hints from the man-demon, and get away with it? Anyway, I'll get the inspection started. Just pretend I'm not here. If you say so. Hey, Grace. You wanted to try to learn how to paint on a logia? Oh, sure, the girl responded, finishing her masterpiece with a cat nose. Which paint do you want me to use this time? This place is so cool. Luffy's head was on a swivel as Iceberg showed the group around Dock 1. Everywhere one looked, the best shipwrights in the world were hard at work making sure every piece was up to standard. None of it made any sense to Nami, Coby, or Amy, but Usopp was absolutely enthralled in the cannons some of the shipwrights were polishing as he ran over to see them close up. Geez, Ice Pops, Luffy laughed. This place is really big. Hey, can I go look at that one? Well, sure. Just don't mess with anything. Sorry about him. Nami apologized as the excitable teen rushed off. He may be our captain, but he still acts like a little kid. I'm sure you thought otherwise that night in Skypia, Amy smirked. After all, you two had your own little party, didn't you? You what? Coby nearly screeched, his face going red. The navigator was no better as she babbled some sort of denial. That's interesting, Khalifa noted impartially. Shall I add this information to their documents? Well, I don't care. Iceberg waved off. Khalifa nodded and marked down the tidbit. Well, anyway, this is the first dock of the Galila Company. Working here are the best of the best under the best 5 foremans. Kaku, the man with the long nose, is one of them. Here, we don't care about personality, only skill. So, even if they seem a little strange, every person here is one of the best. I don't think this crew cares about strange, Coby commented. By the way, we're looking for a shipwright to join our crew. Is there anyone you would recommend? Iceberg stopped, balking. You mean your crew has made it this far without a shipwright? The man's voice was filled with disbelief. If we had, we wouldn't have had to come here for repairs, Amy pointed out. Yo, boss. Kaku called, leaping over the dock's entrance to land next to the pirates. Oh, I see the pirates found you. That makes things easier. Have you checked the Mary yet? Nami asked. How much will she cost? Money isn't a problem. Coby and Amy balked, gaping at the navigator. Kaku said nothing as he moved to sit on some lumber. Captain Luffy, Coby yelled, getting over his shock, we need you back here. Okay. The rubberman jumped from the galleon he was standing on. Where's Usopp? Are these yours? A dog worker asked, holding out the suitcases the sniper was supposed to oversee. With a sigh, Nami accepted the carriers and placed them next to the other 8. Usopp was still unaccounted for. I have bad news, Kaku finally muttered, the pirates stiffening. What is it? Luffy demanded. Whatever it is, we'll pay. No price is too steep for our Mary. It's not about price, the shipwright responded. I can tell that you all love that ship and that she's been through a lot. I'm sorry, but your ship can't be fixed. What do you mean? Amy got out. She may have not ridden the Going Merry for as long as most of the others with her, but it was still her home. The keel is the backbone of any ship. Your ship's keel is busted. Freshly busted, I'll admit, so it's a good thing you're here, but she can't go any further. Can't you just replace it? Luffy questioned. That would be like building a brand all new ship. Kaku shook his head. And I'm sorry, but the odds of making it to the next island with a busted keel, even if you made it here, is 0. Luffy was in shock. He couldn't believe what these people were telling him. Had he been any less mature, he would have told them that he didn't care, that they would keep sailing them or wasn't possible. He'd known for a long time that the Mary would meet her end during their journey. But, Coby cried. But, hey, Iceberg, a man interrupted. He was tall and tan with no shirt to hide his muscular and tattooed upper body. His black hair was uniform around his head save for one spike shooting out and maroon pants hid his legs. Oh, Lulu, Iceberg greeted. Now may not be the best time. Sorry, but there are some government officials at the door waiting to see you. Do you want me to tell them you aren't here? That would be nice, the man nodded. Thank you. Ah, Iceberg, a short man in a suit sneered, he and 2 bodyguards approaching through the dock. Kaku quickly ushered the saddened pirates behind the lumber. It wouldn't do for paying customers to be arrested. Hello, Corgi. As you can see, I'm not here at the moment. Could you leave a message? Don't screw with me, Iceberg, Corgi snarled. I came here by sea train just to meet with you. It would be impolite to turn me away. So, Iceberg questioned childishly, picking his nose, I don't like you. We have things to discuss, Iceberg, the government official spat, losing his patience, come on. Hey, Nami? Luffy asked as Iceberg and his secretary were all but dragged away. I think we have a problem. What is it now? The girl snapped quietly. These suitcases are really light. What do you mean, really light? Coby chose to bypass talking and opened the suitcases that were supposed to be in Usopp's care. They were empty. What? The 4 pirates all but screamed. Some of our money's gone. Yo, Kaku, the man Iceberg had called Lulu said, completely ignoring the pirates. What were you doing hanging around the Frankie family earlier? What do you mean? Kaku responded. I haven't seen a member of the Frankie family all day. Are you sure? Huh, I thought I saw your long nose earlier. Did you say, long nose? Amy questioned. Yeah, Lulu answered. Although I guess hanging out and being dragged away are kinda different. The Frankie family got Usopp, Nami deduced, and 200 million of our Barris. We'll go teach them a lesson, Luffy growled, punching his palm. Let's take this stuff back to the Mary. Then we'll track down those bastards and show them what happens when they mess with us. Those damn yellow-bellied, long-necked, ugly, little assholes. Nami raged, stomping through the streets of Water 7. Luffy followed several feet behind her, his stretched arm being used as his girlfriend's personal stress ball. Coby and Grace, having abandoned their captain with the fuming navigator, had fled with all 4 Yagaras the first chance they'd gotten and, while Luffy was still pissed that they couldn't repair the Mary, he was currently terrified of the orange-haired girl dragging him along. Luffy watched Nami round a corner before them before feeling the tension on his stretched arm go slack. Nami, the teen questioned. What's wrong? I found Usopp, the navigator whispered, all anger in her tone lost. Luffy followed her around the turn before freezing in his tracks. The only sign of the sniper was a brown boot sticking out of an alley, but the slight redness on the concrete around him was not a good sign. Neither was the soft wailing emanating from the alleyway. Usopp? Luffy asked, stepping toward the entrance of the alley. The sniper's sobbing stopped immediately, becoming replaced with wheezing and gasping. Luffy? Usopp questioned quietly. Luffy, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Usopp, calm down, Luffy ordered. What happened to you? There was silence for a moment, Usopp's boot pulling itself into the alley. Slowly, the long-nosed sniper carefully stepped out into the light. Usopp was a wreck. His nose was bent at the wrong angle, pointing straight upward toward the sky and still dripping blood. His clothing was ruffled at the least, being torn and bloodied everywhere else. He was missing one shoe and both of the lenses from his goggles were gone. The worst part, however, were the tears pouring down from his eyes. Luffy, Usopp whispered. I lost it. My part of the money. That 200 million I was supposed to protect, it's gone. We know, Usopp, the captain responded, we'll get it back. But, Luffy, he whimpered. But, Usopp trailed off, his eyes rolling into the back of his head. The sniper slumped, falling to ground. Luffy dove for him, just barely inserting himself between the unconscious teen and the hard ground. Those bastards, Nami growled quietly, but the venom in her words was gone. The spite had been replaced with pity. Pity for the member of their crew with the most to lose from the loss of their beautiful, brave ship. With their injured friend, Luffy and Nami made their way back to their dying ship and had Chopper treat the sniper. leaving Usopp to rest in the cabin and disregarding the doctor's worry about Robin disappearing mysteriously. Luffy, Zoro, Coby, Sanji, Jin, Amy, Grace, and Chopper set out to get the revenge they believed was due. The Frankie house was located on a small island toward the north of Scrap Heap Island where the Mary was docked, the building being a mixture of every type of building material on Water 7. Is this it? Luffy asked, eyeing the lopsided building covered in steel and stars. Zoro tapped Wado Ichimonji against his shoulder impatiently. Yeah, Coby confirmed as Sanji lit a cigarette. Next to him, Jin removed his headband and lit a cigarette of his own with a sparking thumb, and Chopper pawed the ground. What are we waiting for? Amy questioned with Grace munching on a rice cracker angrily, the sounds of a party reaching the pirates from inside the building. Stepping forward, the assault began. The group walked over to the large steel door, Luffy knocking on it to get the attention of whoever was inside. The sounds within stopped, a palpable curiosity filling the air. The lock on the door clicked as a man who had to have some giant blood in him opened the entrance. What do you want? He demanded before he seemed to recognize members of the visiting party. Revenge, Luffy answered, reeling his arm back to punch the man in the face. The huge man tumbled back, falling on and breaking a card table near the center of the room. The other people in the room stared at the entrance, each one of them dressed in steel overalls with a pink star in the middle. Who the hell are you? A slightly overweight man with spiky black hair questioned. That's Straw Hat Luffy, and Pirate Hunter Zoro. Try Horn and the Man Demon as well. It's time you bastards learned what happens when you mess with my Nakama and steal from us, Luffy growled, stepping into the building as he cracked his knuckles. His hat, usually non-threatening, shadowed his eyes. Now hold on a second, Spiky Hair tried to reason. If this is about the 200 million, it's gone already. Big bro Frankie already took it to go on a shopping spree. This isn't about the money, Luffy growled. You attacked our friend and we're gonna make damn sure you regret it. You think you can take us on? Another man with giant blood laughed. You think the 8 of you can take out the entire Frankie family?
Amy, Luffy grunted, holding out his right hand. With a nod, the woman jumped onto his palm as Luffy stretched his arm back. Gum Gum Parasol Cannon. The captain launched a 1/2 kilogram Amy as fast as he could, the blonde increasing her mass as soon as she was away while keeping her speed. With a yell, she slammed her 5,000 kilogram body into the giant man, shattering his armor.
What? The natives of Water 7 yelled. Amy just smiled menacingly, twirling her parasol from atop the downed man who groaned in pain as she increased her mass. The floor gave way a second later, forming a crater beneath her. Fire the cannons, Spiky Hair ordered, 5 cannons booming in response as they released their contents at the invading group. 3 sword style. Raven's talons. Each of the iron cannonballs split in half, exploding behind the stationary pirates. Zoro then lowered his left sword, seeming to barely touch the closest cannon, which split down the middle. Spiky Hair growled, charging Zoro. Coby intercepted, punching the man in the face without changing. Zanbai. Several members of the Frankie family cried, identifying the man. Run for the back door. There was a flash and a whiff of ozone. Suddenly, Jin was standing in front of the only exit, idly spinning one sparking tonfa. Fire the anything cannon. Another boom, and swords, nails, wooden boards, cups, and other random things were fired at the man blocking the exit. None of it was rubber, however, so all the items just went through the man demon, the latent electricity in his body frying the items to a crisp. Jin smiled evilly. You asked if we thought the 8 of us could beat the entire Frankie family? The Logia chuckled darkly. We could have beaten you with only 3,000 watt slam. Party table kick course, rumble, horn point. Colors trap. Sadness blue. The building had exploded. Nothing remained of the Frankie house save for its foundation and the charred outer walls. Scattered amongst the debris were the smoking bodies of the Frankie family, each considerably wounded but not dead. They really didn't know where their boss went or what he wanted to buy, Sanji sighed, blowing smoke and glaring at the yellow-green painted Frankie family mug beneath him. Jin leaned against the rubble next to the chef, a cigarette between his own fully human lips. Amy sighed next to him, idly tossing the grunt she'd been grilling for information over the wall behind them. 80 million is still a lot, Coby muttered optimistically in his Dino mode with Grace using him as a pillow. We could still buy an amazing ship. So you managed to talk to that long-nosed shipwright, Zoro grunted. I still don't like it. The Mary's been with us a long time, we all love her. I'm starting to not like this island, Chopper whined. First Robin goes missing and then we find out that the Mary's on her last legs. The only thing that could be worse is if somebody left the crew. Don't jinx us, Jin commented. I just want to know who'll be the one to break the news to Usopp. He loves the Mary more than any of us. I'll tell him, Luffy stated. The teen was a ways away from the group, watching the sea from atop one N-shaped decorations that had survived the explosion. Captain Luffy, Coby whispered sadly. I'm the captain, and it's my decision that we're getting a new ship. I love the Mary as much as you guys, but she's just a ship. If she were alive, it would be different, but that's impossible. We have to let her go here. Should we go get it over with, then? Amy suggested. Rip the bandage off, so to speak? When Usopp wakes up, Luffy agreed. Not exactly filled with the sense of accomplishment that they had set out for, the group of 8 returned to the Mary to await their friend's return to consciousness. Luffy was watching the sunset when Chopper announced that Usopp was awake. Despite the others' excitement, Luffy was solemn for once. He'd talked with the rest of the crew for their opinions and approaches, and now it was time to use them. "You moron," the captain heard the cook chastising as he entered. "Do you know how worried we've been?" Usopp didn't react to the good-natured taunt as a fresh wave of tears began leaking from his eyes, his hands crumpling the sheets in their grasp. "I'm sorry, guys," he babbled. "I'm just weak. You see, can't trust me with money, and now I've gone and L lost it all." "We didn't lose it all," Jin corrected. "Only a fifth, we still have 800 million. "That's not what we're here to talk about, though," Luffy grunted. "Usopp, there's something you need to know." "What is it?" Usopp questioned. "Is it about the Mary? Do we have enough for the repairs? They're going to cost more than we thought, aren't they?" "It's not that." Luffy shook his head and pulled out a chair to sit down. "We talked with the shipwrights. They said that the fact that we made it here in one piece was a stroke of luck." "What are you saying?" Usopp demanded, drawing the right conclusion, but denying it all the same. "Are you saying that they want to buy us a new ship? Are you giving up on the Mary?" "Shut up," Luffy ordered, silencing the sniper. I don't want to. Mary's been with us since you joined in the East Blue, and we have a lot of memories with her, but that doesn't mean she's invincible." Luffy was choking up. "I don't want to give up on her," he whispered sadly. "Then don't," Usopp cried. "Her keel is busted," Amy offered. "The shipwrights called it the backbone of the ship." "Can't we just replace it?" Usopp tried. "I asked the same thing," Luffy responded. "The shipwrights said they could do that," Coby answered with a shake of his head, "but it wouldn't be the same. They'd be building another boat, just with Mary's pieces." "I'm sorry, Usopp," Luffy apologized, "but we had to let her go. If Mary was alive, it would be different, but she's just a ship, and she wasn't meant for the Grand Line. When a human gets hurt, we get stronger," Zoro grunted before Usopp could interject, "but ships don't heal. Their wounds just keep on growing and adding up. And let's admit it, Usopp, you aren't a shipwright." "Usopp, I want you to do something for me." The sniper turned toward his captain, whose eyes were steady, but looking deep within, Usopp could see the pain this conversation was causing. "I want you to call Kaya and talk to her." "What does Kaya have to do with this?" Usopp demanded, rounding on the rosette. "Kaya gave us the Mary," Coby replied. "She knew that we would have to replace her eventually. We want you to get her opinion." "Okay." Usopp finally choked out. He wanted nothing more than to yell and scream and punch right now, and in another life, he may have, but he had known this day would come. He had known somewhere in the darkest, furthest pits of his heart that they would have to part with their ship at some point. Maybe, depending on what Kaya says, he still will scream and fight for the ship, but until then, he would hold himself off. "Here, Usopp," Sanji muttered, holding out the transponder snail Usopp had bought for himself back in Alabasta. It was purple in color with Usopp's personal Jolly Roger painted on the side of its white shell. He had jokingly named it Captain. "We'll give you some alone time," Nami offered, she and the others exiting the room one by one, Chopper being the last to leave with a backwards glance. Usopp sat in bed, staring at the sleeping snail for several minutes, his mind running faster than anyone with a cheetah zone could ever hope to. Finally, he picked up the receiver and dialed Kaya's number with a shaky hand. "BUDUP Bud UP Bud UP. Bud UP Bud UP Bud UP. Bud UP Bud UP Bud UP. CA Lick. Hello?" Kaya's soft voice floated out of the snail's mouth. "Kaya," Usopp said, trying, and failing, to keep his voice steady. "Usopp, how are you? Have you gone on any new adventures lately? How's Coby doing? He's got to have grown since you all left. Mary's been wondering about him."
Kaya, Luffy wants to replace the ship. Wait, the snail blinked, mimicking the girl on the other end of the line. "You mean you're still using the Going Mary?" Kaya's voice held surprise, awe, and confusion. It was then that Usopp realized that the others were right. Kaya did know that the Mary wasn't cut out for the Grand Line. "I thought you'd replaced it already."
"You did? Well, yeah. Mary said that the Going Mary could have lasted 2 more years here in the East Blue, but that she would probably only last about 2.5 months on the Grand Line. It's been nearly 4 since you left. I thought you just hadn't wanted to tell me you got rid of the ship I gave you, and that's why you didn't mention getting a new ship. The crew must be pretty cramped on a ship that small." "Kaya, are you suggesting?" "Yes," the girl responded. "You need a new ship." "Fine," Usopp whispered, a fresh wave of tears rolling from his eyes. "Fine, we'll replace the Mary." Little did any of the crew know, but the figurehead was defying the laws of nature, a steady stream of tears falling from her own, forever open eyes. They were sad tears, not because they were replacing her, not fully, but because her plan had worked. Because Mary had been right. They didn't know she was alive. And from what the captain had said, that's why they could move on. Those damn yellow-bellied, long-necked, ugly, little assholes. Nami raged, stomping through the streets of Water 7. Luffy followed several feet behind her, his stretched arm being used as his girlfriend's personal stress ball. Coby and Grace, having abandoned their captain with the fuming navigator, had fled with all 4 Yagaras the first chance they'd gotten, and, while Luffy was still pissed that they couldn't repair the Mary, he was currently terrified of the orange-haired girl dragging him along. Luffy watched Nami round a corner before them before feeling the tension on his stretched arm go slack. "Nami," the teen questioned. "What's wrong?" "I found Usopp," the navigator whispered, all anger in her tone lost. Luffy followed her around the turn before freezing in his tracks. The only sign of the sniper was a brown boot sticking out of an alley, but the slight redness on the concrete around him was not a good sign. Neither was the soft wailing emanating from the alleyway. "Usopp?" Luffy asked, stepping toward the entrance of the alley. The sniper's sobbing stopped immediately, becoming replaced with wheezing and gasping. "Luffy?" Usopp questioned quietly. "Luffy, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "Usopp, calm down," Luffy ordered. "What happened to you?" There was silence for a moment, Usopp's boot pulling itself into the alley. Slowly, the long-nosed sniper carefully stepped out into the light. Usopp was a wreck. His nose was bent at the wrong angle, pointing straight upward toward the sky and still dripping blood. His clothing was ruffled at the least, being torn and bloodied everywhere else. He was missing one shoe and both of the lenses from his goggles were gone. The worst part, however, were the tears pouring down from his eyes. "Luffy," Usopp whispered. "I lost it. My part of the money. That 200 million I was supposed to protect, it's gone." "We know, Usopp," the captain responded. "We'll get it back." "But, Luffy," he whimpered. "But," Usopp trailed off, his eyes rolling into the back of his head. The sniper slumped, falling to ground. Luffy dove for him, just barely inserting himself between the unconscious teen and the hard ground. "Those bastards," Nami growled quietly, but the venom in her words was gone. The spite had been replaced with pity. Pity for the member of their crew with the most to lose from the loss of their beautiful, brave ship. With their injured friend, Luffy and Nami made their way back to their dying ship and had Chopper treat the sniper. Leaving Usopp to rest in the cabin and disregarding the doctor's worry about Robin disappearing mysteriously, Luffy, Zoro, Coby, Sanji, Jin, Amy, Grace, and Chopper set out to get the revenge they believed was due. The Frankie house was located on a small island toward the north of Scrap Heap Island where the Mary was docked, the building being a mixture of every type of building material on Water 7. "Is this it?" Luffy asked, eyeing the lopsided building covered in steel and stars. Zoro tapped Wado Ichimonji against his shoulder impatiently. "Yeah," Coby confirmed as Sanji lit a cigarette. Next to him, Jin removed his headband and lit a cigarette of his own with a sparking thumb and Chopper pawed the ground. "What are we waiting for?" Amy questioned with Grace munching on a rice cracker angrily, the sounds of a party reaching the pirates from inside the building. Stepping forward, the assault began. The group walked over to the large steel door, Luffy knocking on it to get the attention of whoever was inside. The sounds within stopped, a palpable curiosity filling the air. The lock on the door clicked as a man who had to have some giant blood in him opened the entrance. "What do you want?" he demanded before he seemed to recognize members of the visiting party. "Revenge," Luffy answered, reeling his arm back to punch the man in the face. The huge man tumbled back, falling on and breaking a card table near the center of the room. The other people in the room stared at the entrance, each one of them dressed in steel overalls with a pink star in the middle. "Who the hell are you?" a slightly overweight man with spiky black hair questioned. "That's Straw Hat Luffy, and Pirate Hunter Zoro. Try Horn and the Man Demon as well. It's time you bastards learned what happens when you mess with my nakama and steal from us," Luffy growled, stepping into the building as he cracked his knuckles. His hat, usually non-threatening, shadowed his eyes. "Now hold on a second," Spiky Hair tried to reason. "If this is about the 200 million, it's gone already. Big bro Frankie already took it to go on a shopping spree." "This isn't about the money," Luffy growled. "You attacked our friend and we're gonna make damn sure you regret it." "You think you can take us on?" Another man with giant blood laughed. "You think the 8 of you can take out the entire Frankie family?" "Amy," Luffy grunted, holding out his right hand. With a nod, the woman jumped onto his palm as Luffy stretched his arm back. Gum Gum Parasol Cannon. The captain launched a 1/2 kilogram Amy as fast as he could, the blonde increasing her mass as soon as she was away while keeping her speed. With a yell, she slammed her 5,000 kilogram body into the giant man, shattering his armor. "What?" the natives of Water 7 yelled. Amy just smiled menacingly, twirling her parasol from atop the downed man who groaned in pain as she increased her mass. The floor gave way a second later, forming a crater beneath her. "Fire the cannons," Spiky Hair ordered, 5 cannons booming in response as they released their contents at the invading group. 3 sword style. Raven's talons. Each of the iron cannonballs split in half, exploding behind the stationary pirates. Zoro then lowered his left sword, seeming to barely touch the closest cannon, which split down the middle. Spiky hair growled, charging Zoro. Coby intercepted, punching the man in the face without changing. Zanbai. Several members of the Frankie family cried, identifying the man. Run for the back door. There was a flash and a whiff of ozone. Suddenly, Jin was standing in front of the only exit, idly spinning one sparking tonfa. Fire the anything cannon. Another boom, and swords, nails, wooden boards, cups, and other random things were fired at the man blocking the exit. None of it was rubber, however, so all the items just went through the man demon, the latent electricity in his body frying the items to a crisp. Jin smiled evilly. You asked if we thought the 8 of us could beat the entire Frankie family? The logia chuckled darkly. We could have beaten you with only 4, 3,000 watt slam? Party table kick course, rumble, hornpoint. Colors trap. Sadness blue. The building had exploded. Nothing remained of the Frankie house save for its foundation and the charred outer walls. Scattered amongst the debris were the smoking bodies of the Frankie family, each considerably wounded but not dead. They really didn't know where their boss went or what he wanted to buy, Sanji sighed, blowing smoke and glaring at the yellow-green painted Frankie family mug beneath him. Jin leaned against the rubble next to the chef, a cigarette between his own fully human lips. Amy sighed next to him, idly tossing the grunt she'd been grilling for information over the wall behind them. 80 million is still a lot, Coby muttered optimistically in his Dino mode with Grace using him as a pillow. We could still buy an amazing ship. So you managed to talk to that long-nosed shipwright, Zoro grunted. I still don't like it. The Mary's been with us a long time, we all love her. I'm starting to not like this island, Chopper whined. First Robin goes missing and then we find out that the Mary's on her last legs. The only thing that could be worse is if somebody left the crew. Don't jinx us, Jin commented. I just want to know who'll be the one to break the news to Usopp. He loves the Mary more than any of us. I'll tell him, Luffy stated. The teen was a ways away from the group, watching the sea from atop one N-shaped decorations that had survived the explosion. Captain Luffy, Coby whispered sadly. I'm the captain, and it's my decision that we're getting a new ship. I love the Mary as much as you guys, but she's just a ship. If she were alive, it would be different, but that's impossible. We have to let her go here. Should we go get it over with, then? Amy suggested. Rip the bandage off, so to speak? When Usopp wakes up, Luffy agreed. Not exactly filled with the sense of accomplishment that they had set out for, the group of 8 returned to the Mary to await their friend's return to consciousness. Luffy was watching the sunset when Chopper announced that Usopp was awake. Despite the others' excitement, Luffy was solemn for once. He'd talked with the rest of the crew for their opinions and approaches, and now it was time to use them. You moron, the captain heard the cook chastising as he entered. Do you know how worried we've been? Usopp didn't react to the good-natured taunt as a fresh wave of tears began leaking from his eyes, his hands crumpling the sheets in their grasp. I'm sorry, guys, he babbled. I'm just weak. You see, can't trust me with money, and now I've gone and L lost it all. We didn't lose it all, Jin corrected. Only a fifth, we still have 800 million. That's not what we're here to talk about, though, Luffy grunted. Usopp, there's something you need to know. What is it? Usopp questioned. Is it about the Mary? Do we have enough for the repairs? They're going to cost more than we thought, aren't they? It's not that. Luffy shook his head and pulled out a chair to sit down. We talked with the shipwrights. They said that the fact that we made it here in one piece was a stroke of luck. What are you saying? Usopp demanded, drawing the right conclusion, but denying it all the same. Are you saying that they want to buy us a new ship? Are you giving up on the Mary? Shut up, Luffy ordered, silencing the sniper. I don't want to. Mary's been with us since you joined in the East Blue, and we have a lot of memories with her, but that doesn't mean she's invincible. Luffy was choking up. I don't want to give up on her, he whispered sadly. Then don't, Usopp cried. Her keel is busted, Amy offered. The shipwrights called it the backbone of the ship. Can't we just replace it? Usopp tried. I asked the same thing, Luffy responded. The shipwrights said they could do that, Coby answered with a shake of his head, but it wouldn't be the same. They'd be building another boat, just with Mary's pieces. I'm sorry, Usopp, Luffy apologized, but we had to let her go. If Mary was alive, it would be different, but she's just a ship, and she wasn't meant for the Grand Line. When a human gets hurt, we get stronger, Zoro grunted before Usopp could interject, but ships don't heal. Their wounds just keep on growing and adding up. And let's admit it, Usopp, you aren't a shipwright. Usopp, I want you to do something for me. The sniper turned toward his captain whose eyes were steady, but looking deep within, Usopp could see the pain this conversation was causing. I want you to call Kaya and talk to her. What does Kaya have to do with this? Usopp demanded, rounding on the rosette. Kaya gave us the Mary, Coby replied. She knew that we would have to replace her eventually. We want you to get her opinion. Okay. Usopp finally choked out. He wanted nothing more than to yell and scream and punch right now, and in another life, he may have, but he had known this day would come. He had known somewhere in the darkest, furthest pits of his heart that they would have to part with their ship at some point. Maybe, depending on what Kaya says, he still will scream and fight for the ship, but until then, he would hold himself off. Here, Usopp, Sanji muttered, holding out the transponder snail Usopp had bought for himself back in Alabasta. It was purple in color with Usopp's personal Jolly Roger painted on the side of its white shell. He had jokingly named it Captain. We'll give you some alone time, Nami offered, she and the others exiting the room one by one. Chopper being the last to leave with a backwards glance. Usopp sat in bed, staring at the sleeping snail for several minutes, his mind running faster than anyone with a cheetah zone could ever hope to. Finally, he picked up the receiver and dialed Kaya's number with a shaky hand. BUDUP Bud UP Bud UP. Bud UP Bud UP Bud UP. Bud UP Bud UP Bud UP. CA Lick. Hello? Kaya's soft voice floated out of the snail's mouth. Kaya, Usopp said, trying, and failing, to keep his voice steady. Usopp, how are you? Have you gone on any new adventures lately? How's Coby doing? He's got to have grown since you all left. Mary's been wondering about him. Kaya, Luffy wants to replace the ship. Wait. The snail blinked, mimicking the girl on the other end of the line. You mean you're still using the Going Merry? Kaya's voice held surprise, awe, and confusion. It was then that Usopp realized that the others were right. Kaya did know that the Merry wasn't cut out for the Grand Line. I thought you'd replaced it already. You did? Well, yeah. Mary said that the Going Merry could have lasted 2 more years here in the East Blue, but that she would probably only last about 2.5 months on the Grand Line. It's been nearly 4 since you left. I thought you just hadn't wanted to tell me you got rid of the ship I gave you and that's why you didn't mention getting a new ship. The crew must be pretty cramped on a ship that small. Kaya, are you suggesting? Yes, the girl responded. You need a new ship. Fine, Usopp whispered, a fresh wave of tears rolling from his eyes. Fine, we'll replace the Mary. Little did any of the crew know, but the figurehead was defying the laws of nature, a steady stream of tears falling from her own, forever open eyes. They were sad tears, not because they were replacing her, not fully, but because her plan had worked, because Mary had been right. They didn't know she was alive, and from what the captain had said, that's why they could move on. The sun rose on a beautiful day, the weather a stark contrast to the gloomy moods of the pirates docked on one of the capes. Having decided the previous night to replace their beloved ship, it was agreed that Luffy, Nami, Coby, and Usopp would go back to Galilo with 2 of the Yagaras to get a catalog and choose a new ship while Sanji, Jin, Zoro, and Chopper volunteered to go looking for Robin with the other 2. Amy and Grace had opted to stay on the Mary in case the Frankie family got any funny ideas. The people of Water 7 were more active than the last day, nearly every person staring as a newspaper in their hands. Something big had happened last night, and it was shaking the city. The pirates, however, knew nothing of this, so they were surprised when they reached the gate of Galila to find a giant crowd calling out for Iceberg. What's going on here? Usopp questioned. Excuse me, Nami asked, tapping the man on the shoulder. What's going on? Why is there such a big crowd? Are you not from around here? The man responded, to which Nami shook her head. Somebody shot Mayor Iceberg last night. Ice Pops was shot? Luffy demanded. Yeah, the man scowled. I bet it was the Frankie family. Those bastards are always causing trouble, but now they've taken it too far. I doubt it was them, Coby thought aloud. We really did a number on them last night. I doubt they'd be able to move until sometime today. You guys did what? The man gasped. Nothing, Nami tried to wave off. Anyway, Nami was cut off as war drums began to thump around the area. On the top of a bridge, 3 silhouettes stood behind a tan screen. In a panic, people began to flee. Did I hear someone say my name? A masculine voice asked through what sounded like a loudspeaker. No, go away. We don't want you here. You're the one who shot Iceberg, aren't you? Rather than respond, the screen was tossed away, revealing a tall man and 2 women. The women were obviously sisters as they looked similar save for their clothing and hair. The one on the left had curly hair in the shape of a square rather than straight hair in the shape of a square. The man in the center wore nothing but an open, Hawaiian-style shirt to reveal his abs and a speedo. His forearms were much larger than the rest of his appendages in a way reminiscent of the old Popeye comics of the West Blue, but with a blue star tattooed on each forearm instead of an anchor. The man's metal nose sparkled in the sunlight and his light blue pompadour seemed to defy gravity and run down into 2 sideburns that framed his 3-pronged chin. I'm Water 7's #1 super guy, the face of the underworld, and you know why. The man with the plan, the power and fame, that's why everybody knows my name. Wow. Striking a pose with his forearms pressed together to form 1 star out of 2 halves, the man finished his intro. I'm Frankie, With his declaration, the crowd began to run, both on foot and by Yagara. Lifting his sunglasses, Frankie yelled, "Show yourself, Straw Hat. I know you're down there." Realizing that the most feared man in Water 7 wasn't there for them seemed to freeze the populace in place, stopping to see what would come of this. "I'm Straw Hat," Luffy yelled, standing up on their Yagara so the men could see. "You're the one in charge of the guys that beat up Usopp and stole our money." "And you're the one in charge of the guys who wrecked my house," Frankie retorted. "You shouldn't have done that." "Then you shouldn't have provoked us. If this is about the money we stole, I spent it all, you aren't getting it back." "I don't care about the money," Luffy shouted. "This is about your guys attacking my friends. I don't care if we started it, you guys are pirates, so what are you going to do? Call the government for help?" "I'm just gonna kick your ass, I'd like to see you try," Frankie laughed. The man began sucking in air, causing his chest to expand. As if snapped back to the present, the crowd began to flee once more. Fresh fire. As the name implied, a giant fireball shot toward the Straw Hats' rented Yagaras from the man's mouth, the Yagaras quickly swimming away. The fire crashed into the water where the boat-toting fish had been just before. "What the hell?" Nami and Usopp screamed, the water behind them steaming. "Devil fruit," Coby theorized. As if in response, Frankie dove off the bridge and into the water, disproving the Rosette's theory. "Swim," he ordered the bulls. The Yagaras took off toward the sidewalk just in time to avoid the man as he launched himself out of the water where the rented transportation had been. Knowing that it was him the man wanted, Luffy jumped upward to separate himself from his crew members. "Strong right," Frankie yelled, punching forward with his right arm. Much to the shock of the pirates, his fist and half of his forearm separated from the rest of his arm. The fist, connected by a chain, slammed into Luffy's gut and shoved him into Dock 1's gate. Retracting his arm, Frankie left the pirate stuck in the doors for gravity to slowly pull him downward. "What are you?" Usopp demanded, his slingshot trained on the self-proclaimed face of the underworld. "Me?" Frankie questioned, pulling his arm off to show the chain. "I'm just a guy with a few extra parts. A cyborg, you might say." At that moment, Luffy fell, hitting the sidewalk with a thud. Nami ran to him, heedless of the robot man she passed. "Luffy," she fretted, dropping next to him. Carefully, the captain removed his hat from his head and dropped it on Nami's, a sure sign that he thought the fight was going to get ugly. Standing up, Luffy gently pushed his lover back before punching the cyborg in the face. Despite the pain from hitting the man's metal nose, the rubber man felt the satisfying crunch of his opponent's sunglasses breaking as the cyborg was launched back into the water. "You're tougher than you look, Straw Hat," Frankie conceded, wiping a drop of blood from the side of his mouth as surfaced. "But I'm tougher." Jumping out of the water, the cyborg threw his right fist forward again, this time hitting Luffy with enough force to shove him through Dock 1's doors. Luffy rolled head over heels before flipping onto his feet and skidding to a stop as Frankie sauntered into the shipyard. "Kiwi, Mozu," the bounty hunter grunted, not removing his eyes from his opponent. "Stay back. This is going to get messy." "Guys," Luffy growled, cracking his knuckles. "This is my fight, stay out of it." "If nothing else, you've got pride," the cyborg admitted. Pellets left, shifting his left forearm up. Frankie revealed 4 holes in his arm which began releasing a steady stream of exploding projectiles. Luffy jumped away, avoiding the explosions that happened where he'd been standing. Gum Gum Whip. Twisting around, the pirate sent his right foot out to catch the cyborg in the side. Though the partially metal man caught the leg, it still had enough momentum to shove him into a pile of lumber. Retracting his leg, Luffy used the man's hold to his advantage to strike with a Gum Gum battle axe. Weapons left. Just as Luffy struck the cyborg's head, Frankie's opened left arm fired a small bazooka that blew up in the pirate's face, rocketing him backwards into the side of a half-finished boat. "Big bro," the girls, Kiwi and Mozu, called. "Luffy," the other pirates yelled. "If you weren't my enemy, I'd say that it's really cool that you're a cyborg," the pirate captain stated, climbing out of the wreckage, his face covered in soot. "You're pretty strong yourself," Frankie complimented. "No one has stood up to a direct hit from my weapons left before." The two combatants charged each other with fists raised, only for 2 ropes to interfere. The ropes, which knotted themselves around the fighters' wrists, were connected to the blonde man the Straw Hats had seen running from moneylenders the day before. With a flick, the man Iceberg had called Polly threw both Luffy and Frankie into the ground. "What's the big idea?" The pirate and bounty hunter yelled. Polly moved to throw them again, but Coby jumped in, cutting the rope wrapped around his captain so only Frankie was thrown. "Why are you interfering?" Coby demanded in his hybrid mode, staring down the 5 men that had appeared. The first was Polly with Kaku on his right. To Polly's left was a man with curly black hair that fell to his back. This man wore black pants with suspenders and a plain white shirt. A stylized beard sat on his chin and a black top hat rested on his head. On his shoulder was a white pigeon with a tiny red tie. Lulu was on the far right, but to the far left was a man that stood head and shoulders above the rest. He was shirtless to show off his muscles, and his short black hair did not seem to match his full gray beard. He wore only white pants with a belt, and his skin was deeply tanned. Cuckoo. The pigeon cooed. The morons are wrecking our shipyard. We can't let them get away with it. Coo. Is that a talking pigeon? Luffy yelled. That's so cool. Raa. The large man shouted. Even if that wasn't enough, we had to catch you straw hats for what you did to Iceberg. What did we do to Iceberg? Coby asked. I think we're the ones who deserve the explanation here, Polly growled. Someone snuck into Iceberg's house last night and shot him 5 times. This morning, he identified one of the figures as your archaeologist Nico Robin. Iceberg was shot? Frankie gasped. That's news to me. I can't believe he survived getting shot 5 times. It wasn't us, Luffy denied. We were busy last night taking out the Frankie house before returning to our ship. Robin went missing yesterday, Coby muttered to himself. Was it really her? Why? I don't care for your excuses, Polly growled, shooting a rope that Coby deflected with a swing of a sword. You attacked my boss. And when you make an enemy of Iceberg, you make an enemy out of Galila and all of Water 7. Your wanted posters say dead or alive, Kaku said as he threw screwdrivers at the wanted members of the Straw Hat crew. Coby batted away the ones aimed for him while Luffy dove to the side. Hold on, Coby tried to reason. I'll admit that the shipyard wasn't the best place to fight, but we didn't have a choice when Frankie attacked us, and if you knew Robin like we do, you'd know she wouldn't do something like that of her own free will. She's been missing since yesterday. We don't care, the giant man yelled, punching Coby in the chest to catapult him into the wall Kaku had managed to pin Luffy to. Luffy, Nami and Usopp yelled. Unfortunately, that ticked off the crowd, who noticed them and quickly restrained them. You two are members of their crew, aren't you? A man in the crowd demanded. They are, a woman answered. That girl is wearing his hat. Get your hands off her, Luffy ordered, tearing his shirt off as he pulled away from the wall. He was a second too late as Lulu blasted the wall with a hand cannon. The area around the wanted pirates was engulfed in smoke. Luffy, Nami and Usopp yelled. Coby, as interesting as this is, Frankie laughed, Kiwi and Mozu behind him as he snapped a pipe between his forearms. I'm the one who challenged Straw Hat. You Galila guys are in my way. The pipe began sucking in air and compressing it, causing the cyborg's forearms to expand. Coup de vent. With a burst of air unlike anything any of the pirates had seen, the air cannon shot all 5 of the Dock 1 foremen into the remains of the ship in progress, destroying what was left. The backlash ricocheted, knocking citizens into the water. Luffy made use of the distraction, running out of the lingering smoke and making a beeline toward his friends. Coby, he called over his shoulder, the rosette in his Dino mode tromping along behind him. Grab Usopp and find a place to warn the others. Nami and I are going to talk to Iceberg. Aye, Captain, the Triceratops answered. The two split up. Luffy grabbed his girlfriend around the waist and told her to hold on before rocketing to the roofs of some warehouses. Coby, at the same time, scooped up Usopp and took a left as the angry mob returned to chase them. Even though Coby was faster, the mob continued to grow as more and more people learned of what was happening. Turn up here, Usopp yelled over the crowd. Coby did so, entering a small alley. The sniper jumped off, opened the lid of a dumpster, and ordered the rosette inside. With no time to lose, the rosette jumped in and changed back to human form, Usopp following just as the crowd thundered past the entrance. Why did it have to be a dumpster? Coby questioned unhappily, various foodstuffs in different stages of being eaten sticking to his clothes. The least likely place is in plain sight, but no one expects the trash, Usopp nodded sagely. The effect was ruined by the half-eaten cake stuck to his goggles. The zone gave the sniper an incredulous look, but did not respond. Instead, he turned away and opened the shell on his left wrist. BUDUP Bud UP Bud UP. Bud UP Bud UP Bud UP. Bud UP Bud UPBU. CA Lick, hello? Zoro and Sanji answered from 2 different snails. Guys, Coby greeted. We've got a problem. You mean to tell us that we are now the main suspects of an attempted assassination? Jin demanded through the snail on Zoro's wrist. Neither Sanji or Chopper said anything from their end as Coby confirmed that, yes, that was what he'd said. Damn it, Zoro cursed over the snail phone. And this big storm incoming tonight, Sanji added. Everyone is blocking their houses and evacuating. Apparently, it's an annual thing. Just what we needed, Usopp whined, more problems. I know, Rig. Hey, Chopper. Where are you going? Through the snail came the sounds of Sanji running and Chopper falling down a flight of stairs. Chopper? You okay? Chopper? There was a gasp. Robin? Robin! Chopper cried, the snails transmitting his voice mirroring his tears. I don't know if something I did upset you, but I'm sorry, please come back. We had to get back to the ship, Robin, Sanji insisted, the running call on his wrist forgotten. There seemed to be no answer, but there was the sound of Sanji catching something. I apologize for dropping the blame of such a heavy crime on you all, Robin's voice said through the snail. While you may be innocent, my part in the papers was true. I'm leaving the crew, so take that den back to Luffy and forget about me. We will never see each other again. As a final warning, things are only going to get worse, so you should run while you can. Goodbye." "Robin," Sanji and Chopper cried. They received no answer as she walked away. "Damn it, Chopper," Jin cursed from his side of the snail call. "You jinxed us. Somebody left the crew." "Everyone," Koby sputtered, trying to hold back his tears. "Should we head back to the Mary?" "Yes," Zoro grunted in a flat tone with no emotion whatsoever. "As first mate, I'm ordering everyone to get back to the Going Merry. We'll wait for Luffy there." "Right, so that's what happened," Koby finished after telling Grace and Amy about the happenings of the day. "I know I'd heard stories about her while in Baroque works," Amy muttered, "but I didn't think they were true." "Either way," Zoro grunted, "we need to figure out what we're going to do next. Leaving isn't an option since they said Mary couldn't make it to the next island." Robin said things are going to get worse. Nami jumped in. "That must mean there's something planned for tonight, and I'd bet my tangerines it's going to have something to do with Iceberg." "So what, Donna?" Jin questioned. "Are we going to stake out Iceberg's house waiting for Robin and whoever is blackmailing her to show up?" "Do we know she's being blackmailed?" Usopp asked. Ice Pop said Robin was with a big masked man, Luffy growled, remembering his conversation with the mayor of Water 7 after his fight with Frankie in the shipyard. "He must be the one forcing Robin to do all this stuff, so we just have to beat him up and take Robin back." "I'll take that as a yes to the stakeout," Sanji sighed. "I hope you guys don't mind, but I'm going to try something a little different. You can handle it without me, right?" "Of course we can," Zoro snarked. "We can handle everything without you, Love Cook." "You want to say that to my face, Marimo? I'll say it to your stupid eyebrow?" "Then let's go, Mosshead." Two figures rocketed over the buildings, the first carrying the second. An extended limb latched onto a branch in a tree in front of Galley Law's HQ, pulling its owner and their green-haired cargo with it. Another two figures followed seconds afterward, this time jumping from rooftop to rooftop. Silent as the wind, the furred thing jumped into the tree and set down its own ginger-haired passenger. There was a soft bzzzt as a fifth form seemed to materialize on another branch, charring the wood. The sixth form arrived using a grabbing tool that latched onto a third limb, and the seventh landed weightlessly next to the fifth before passing them a cloth. The final two arrived only seconds later, much like the second pair. The first of the two kept shifting form, growing taller just before jumping and shrinking into a flip to land on the next roof. Landing on a different branch, Koby and Grace were the last ones to arrive. The 9 straw hats ducked within the leaves, scattered throughout the tree, as they eyed the building guarded by nearly 200 shipwrights armed with large saws. "That's a lot of guards," Chopper muttered quietly. No one responded as they all settled down to observe. 9 o'clock struck with a bang, an explosion on the front left corner of the building incinerating 3 shipwrights instantly and killing another 4 with shockwaves and debris. Chopper gasped as he witnessed the destruction through the crew's singular pair of binoculars. As the guards scrambled about to try to put out the fire, 2 cloaked figures jumped down from one of the walls and made a beeline for the door, only to be redirected when half of the shipwrights abandoned the fire to chase them down. "Do you think one of those 2 is Robin?" Chopper asked as he eyed the pair of intruders. More shouts drew the pirates' attentions to the roof where another cloaked figure was beating away their opponents with a barbed whip while literally jumping on air. "Someone who can fly," Zoro observed, with 2 other unknowns, one of them possibly Robin. "How are we going to play this?" "I've never met someone else who could fly," Amy stated, fiddling with her umbrella. "I want to fight them." As she said this, the 2 figures on the ground were cornered against a wall, the shipwrights aiming a plethora of guns at them. "Jin, you're the only one who can get there in time. Go," with a nod to his captain. The lightning man threw his headband away and vanished, reappearing in between the 2 figures, his tonfa moving even before his limbs had fully materialized. "What?" a male voice gasped, the weapon hitting him in the head. The guards stared in shock. "Hello, Robin," Jin grunted. "What are you doing here?" the woman demanded. She never received an answer as her companion was back on his feet. With a rubber glove-covered hand, the man punched Jin into the crowd, threw up his cape, and disappeared with Robin in tow. "Damn!" Jin swore, accidentally shocking a couple of shipwrights. "They got away." Cursing his uselessness, Jin zapped away as quickly as he came. On the other side of the building, the slender figure was still attacking in the open, their whip cutting into shipwrights with every swing. That part of the battle was taking place in one of the courtyards. 10,000 kilogram press. With a yell, Amy arrived, forcing the figure to dive out of the way. "Who are you?" the masked person questioned with an ambiguous voice, eyeing Amy as she floated out of the crater to gently set down on the rim. "I could ask you the same thing," the blonde responded. "I take it you are part of the group that abducted Nico Robin from us?" "She came to us of her own free will." Leveling her umbrella at the person while running her power through it to make it as sturdy as a club, Amy spoke. "You and I both know that's bullshit. I'll ask this once. Where's Robin?" You pirates are always so stubborn, the figure sighed. You never know when to give in. The figure jumped twice, once from the ground and once from the air, before striking with their whip. Amy responded quickly, batting aside the barbs and jumping impossibly high to try to stab the woman. Devil fruit, the masked person gasped, jumping away with a cry of, moonwalk. You're not the only one who can fly, Amy shouted, a burst from the breath dials in her umbrella pushing her toward her foe. Get back here. I'm sorry, Don Luffy, Jin apologized, appearing with a whiff of ozone next to the running group as they headed to Galila. That guy got me with a rubber glove. I'll have to worry about those now. They got away, but one of them was Robin. Then we know she's in there, Luffy replied as they reached the gate. I'm going on ahead, jump in if you think you need to. With that, the captain shot his arm forward blindly and grabbed the ledge before letting them row a window into Iceberg's office. There were 3 people in there, 2 masked figures and Polly. One of the men wore a bull costume's head while the other had a skull with big yellow eyes and a fez. The foreman was on the ground in a pool of his own blood, but he was breathing shallowly. Straw Hat, the blonde shipwright coughed. What's going on in here? Straw Hat Luffy, Skull Guy said. How nice of you to set yourself up to take the blame. Hey, Rope Guy, Luffy muttered. These the bastards who attacked Ice Pops. Yeah, Polly grunted, coughing up blood. Then let me fight them, Luffy replied, cracking his knuckles. We don't have time for this, Bullman growled. Just restrain them quickly so he can leave. Right. Skull Guy pulled out several half rings of various sizes and began throwing them at the pirate, said Pirate quickly ducking away. Tempest Kick, Skull Guy yelled, snapping his leg out in 2 kicks that sent a crosswave like Zoro's 36 caliber phoenix. Gum Gum Whip. Luffy retaliated, jumping out of the way. Iron Body, Skull Guy whispered just before Luffy's leg struck. It was like his leg met an immovable wall, all his momentum absorbed. Grabbing the shocked pirate's leg, the intruder flipped Luffy over his head to slam him into the floor next to Polly. While Luffy was trying to catch his breath, Skull Guy took one of his largest half rings and shoved it into the floor so it pinned the pirate's body to the ground. He then repeated the action with both of Luffy's legs, wrists, and neck before doing the same to Polly. Satisfied with their work, the 2 agents left. Damn it! Luffy shouted as he began trying to pull his arms out of the restraints. Come on, rubber body, work. We've hit a little snag in the plan. Come to the bedroom at once, the little snail ordered from the masked agent's left hand, their other holding the whip that was wrapped around Amy's umbrella and hands. The blonde growled, narrowing her eyes through the pain of the barbs digging into her flesh. All through their fight, none of the shipwrights had attacked, yet the courtyard was a disaster area covered in slashes and craters. This has been fun, the agent chuckled, tucking the snail into one of their pockets, but I really must be going. The figure rushed forward, a fist aimed for Amy's midsection. Dense defense, Amy countered, increasing the mass of her body as much as she could. The agent's punch connected, but the pirate didn't move an inch. Impressive, the masked person complimented before they brought their leg up in a perfect split. That's almost as good as the iron body, but it's not good enough. The figure brought their leg down right between Amy's neck and collarbone. The pirate's mass prevented the axe kick from breaking her bones and killing her, but it still knocked her unconscious. The blonde crumpled with a nasty bruise forming both where she had been kicked and where the punch had landed. Ta-ta! The agent taunted as they jumped away from the stupefied shipwrights. Only half of them had the mindset and goal to chase after them. A minute later, just as the remaining 20 or so guards were coming back to their senses, 2 more people jumped down from the roof. Amy, a tall boy with pink hair, called. Big sister, the redhead with him shouted. She ran to the downed woman's side and tried to shake her awake, but it was futile. Big sister, no. Don't worry, the Rosette, whom the shipwrights finally identified as an older Tri-Horn Coby, said as he rested a hand on the girl's shoulder. She's breathing, that means she's alive. We need to go get Chopper. What are you pirates doing here? A shipwright demanded, his saw pointed at the young outlaws. Looking for answers, Coby shot back with the same tone. Someone took our friend, we're getting them back. Like we believe that, another man spat. You're here to kill Iceberg, aren't you? They aren't going to listen to us, Coby grunted unhappily, his hands resting on the hilts of his swords. Grace stood with the hat Robin had given her so long ago shading her eyes, her back pressed against Coby's as she pulled out her palette. I'll give you one chance, Grace growled in a tone Coby had never heard from her before. There was no laziness or mischievousness in her voice, only a burning desire to find the person that had hurt her sister. Let us through to the person that did this to my big sister, or we'll force our way through. Get them. The guards charged, not slowing even when Coby changed into his hybrid mode. No choice, then, the Rosette side, 5-point style, meteor swords. Colors trap. Rainbow of emotion. Taking off in opposite directions, Coby charged his group of foes head-on, catching one man's saw with his horns while his swords caught another 2. Coby turned, twisting the tools out of his foe's hands before batting them away with his tail. 4 more men ran in with their own saws raised. But Coby saw them coming and shrunk into his human mode to roll away, leaving their attacks to hit nothing but the ground. The zone user quickly spun, shifting into his Dino mode to fling the shipwrights away with his tail. Grace, on the other side, was using her smaller body to weave around her foes, dodging their saws while her paintbrush danced over their bodies in a myriad of colors. The artist left chaos in her wake as her victims did everything from fall to the ground crying, burst into laughter, attack each other, or sit down to peacefully stare at the stars. Seeing as her own group of opponents were now preoccupied, the redhead turned back to Coby's side of the fight. She ran over, jumping on her crewmate's back as paint splattered. Combination attack. The two called together as the shipwrights wiped red paint out of their eyes. Color of extinction. Quickly, Grace painted a small red symbol on the back of Coby's crown. The dinosaur's eyes seemed to take on an eerie red glow as he locked onto the crimson paint on the remaining shipwrights. "Sorry about this," Coby yelled, charging forward. The duo's adversaries tried to dodge out of the way, but Coby turned without conscious thought to stab one of the men in the shoulder with a horn, right where the paint was. "Son of a bitch," the shipwright cried, dropping his saw to clutch at his shoulder. "But that turn shouldn't have been possible," another shipwright yelled. "Sorry to disappoint," Coby grunted, "but as long as you've got that paint on you, I can't miss. Don't worry, though. It's not like I'm going to kill any of you." Monster. Maybe," Coby agreed. "I'd say I've come a long way from the scared little runt I was when I met Captain Luffy. But let me tell you, he's a real monster." "Get on with it," Grace muttered. "Fine. Ruined my fun, why don't you? I was hoping this wouldn't be too serious. Oh well." Cretaceous charge. The stakeout was a bust. Robin left by the window at 9:58 in a green cloak, vanishing into the air as if she had stepped into a trapdoor. Luffy was kicked through a brick wall at 9:59 while screaming something about "that damn leopard bastard," forcing the pirates that hadn't entered the building yet to split into 2 groups, one to go in and try to save Iceberg, the other to look for their captain. At 10 o'clock, the fire began to spread across the first level. At 10:01, the top of the building began to cave. The attackers were gone by then and most of the shipwrights had evacuated outside. Only Coby, Grace, Zoro, and Jin were inside the building. Chopper was in a side courtyard, treating Amy's wounds, while Nami and Usopp went looking for Luffy. "Damn it," Coby swore, jumping away from flaming wreckage for the umpteenth time. In front of him, his teacher and Jin hacked open a locked door. "Come on, Shrimpet," Zoro called behind him as Jin pressed forward, walking through the fire without a care since his lightning body couldn't get burned. "We're coming," Coby yelled back, the heat making him irritated like it did back when they were raiding Gasper's ship during the dead-end race. The group of 4 climbed a somewhat broken staircase to reach the 2nd floor. They were greeted with the scene of a bloody hallway full of dead shipwrights. Whatever or whoever had come through had been a monster. Smoke curled up from patches in the rug, showing that the fire would soon reach the 2nd floor if it hadn't already. "This is awful," Coby gasped, trying not to look at the corpses that would be burned away with the building. Who could do such a thing? Jin said nothing as he tried to ignore the zone, just barely keeping the images of the devastation he had caused long ago at bay. His past was behind him. He was different now. The group trudged forward, carefully stepping over the bodies as the fire burned the staircase behind them. Reaching the locked door at the end and hearing muttering on the other side, Zoro cut through the door. "What the hell is it now?" Polly demanded, him and Iceberg tied back to back in the center of the boss's burning bedroom. Both were covered in their own blood and Iceberg had a bullet hole through his right shoulder. Straw hats? "This guy's still alive," Coby grunted, shifting into his hybrid mode to carry an unconscious man with a gray beard. He had been lying by the door, a smashed hammer next to him. "We'll grab these too," Jin commented, picking up Iceberg as Zoro got a hold of Polly. "Grace, could you please clear us a path? No point trying to minimize damage now." With a nod, Grace made her way to the windows. Colors trap. Acid. Much to the shipwright's shock, the girl's black paint began eating away at the brick and glass, the window falling out in 4 square pieces. Taking that as their cue, the pirates jumped out of the building. "The pirates have Iceberg," several guards yelled as Jin hit the ground, him being followed by Zoro and Coby with Grace on his shoulder. "They've got Polly and Tilestone, too. Don't attack," Iceberg coughed, Jin setting him on the ground gently. Grace took off toward where Chopper should be with her sister. "Pirate hunter. And demon. There's something you need to know." "It can wait until our doctor had treated you," Jin grunted. "No, it can't," Iceberg denied. "Nico Robin told me why she abandoned you." "What?" Zoro gasped. "Tell us. Now." "CP9 confronted her shortly after you landed here," Iceberg began. "They gave her 2 conditions for her to follow. That she turn herself in and leave your crew, and that she follow their orders without question. In return, they would fulfill her wish." "Go on," Jin urged as Chopper and Grace returned with an unconscious Amy. The shipwrights that weren't watching in confusion had deemed the story unimportant to them and returned to trying to put out the fire. She accepted, and the government agents ordered her to help try to assassinate me and pin the blame on you. That happened last night. But what was her wish? Koby pressed. Her condition was that the other 10 of you could leave this island safely. You see, Admiral Aokiji has given CP9 the authority to call a buster call on the Straw Hat Pirates. Some 5 vice admirals and 10 battleships to wipe you out the same way they did her home island of Ohara 20 years ago. In return for your safety, she agreed to turn herself in and even go so far as to sacrifice the rest of the world. So Robin isn't an enemy after all, Zoro smiled. This is great news, Koby cheered. We just have to kick their asses and take her back. Easier said than done, Jin commented as Chopper began patching up Iceberg, who was rather surprised to speak to a talking reindeer. I mean, look at how well this turned out. He gestured over his shoulder as part of the building crumbled. Captain Luffy went in alone, though, the Rosette argued. I doubt they can take us all on. You better hurry, Iceberg told the pirates. I think they'll be leaving on the last sea train, which leaves at 11 o'clock if I remember right. After that, Aqua Laguna will make it impossible for any ships to sail and she'll be gone by the time you get there. Behind him, the building began to collapse, taking with it all the dead and dying inside to a fiery grave. I can carry Amy until she wakes up, Chopper offered as he finished bandaging the head of Galila. We need to hurry. Then let's get going, Zoro ordered as the blonde was placed on the reindeer's back. We'll call the others on our way. He took off. Zoro-sensei. The gate is the other way. What? The damn thing must have moved. No, you're just directionless, Jin grumbled, facepalming as the swordsman turned in the middle of the open lawn. This may take a while. Do you think we should call the others? Chopper asked. No, Jin stated, shaking his head. Sanji said he wanted to stake out the train station. We can't risk calling since that could give away his position. Come on, some of the shipwrights insisted at Iceberg's command. We'll take you there. We have to pay you back somehow. Thank you, Koby responded. Let's go get Robin back. Luffy, Nami yelled, the sniper by her side calling out in another direction. Luffy, damn it. This would be so much easier if we had Amy to help us. That's it, Usopp exclaimed. We need to get to higher ground to look for Luffy. But how are we going to do that? Nami countered. With the wind from the storm coming in, being on the rooftops would be dangerous. I've got something for this, Usopp boasted as he pulled a belt from his satchel. I didn't need to use it in Skypia, but that just gave me time to work out all the tweaks. Just do it already. Usopp The sniper shot a grappling hook from his belt which wrapped around a chimney and pulled him up. Grabbing the bricks as he reached the top, Usopp sucked in a breath and called out for his captain as loud as he could through the howling wind. Luffy. Usopp. The wind carried the team's voice, but he was close. Where are you? Usopp shouted. Between 2 buildings. I'm stuck. Nami bolted in the direction she believed the voice to be coming from. But she couldn't see her lover between the 2 buildings close enough for someone to be stuck in between, said constructs apartment buildings most likely. Nami, up here, blinking at the voice. The navigator looked up to find her boyfriend wedged between the brick walls near the top of the 2 buildings. Now how are we supposed to get him down? Usopp asked as he arrived, his grappling hook locking into place in his belt. I don't know, Nami replied. You're the inventor. I'm gonna kick that leopard bastard's ass, Luffy grumbled above them, trying to wiggle free with little success. Is there any way you could use that hook thing to pull Luffy down? Nami questioned. You mean my Usopp? I guess, but the hook is almost as wide as this gap. Try it, Nami ordered the sniper. We're running OU, Usopp sighed, placing his pride as a marksman on the line. Are you ready, Luffy? Hurry, the rubberman responded. This is really uncomfortable. Usopp With the press of a button, Usopp fired his grappling hook which, despite some bouncing off the walls, wrapped around Luffy vertically. With Luffy's face now squished into his own legs, Usopp planted his feet on the buildings and began retracting the rope, slowly pulling the rubberman out. Ow! 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 Usopp, that hurts. Almost there, Usopp muttered, though the growing wind ripped the words out of the air. With a final pop, the 2 teens tumbled to the sidewalk in a tangle of limbs. So where to now? Luffy asked, standing. I'm not sure, Nami answered. We came looking for you right after you got thrown out of Galila and I don't want to risk calling since Sanji decided to do that whole secret agent man stunt. I'll see if I can spot anybody, the captain nodded, pulling himself up to the rooftops just as Usopp untangled himself from his own wire. Shitty bastards treating a woman like that, Sanji grumbled, glancing around the column he was hiding behind. Blue Station, the sea train station for Water 7, was swarming with government men wearing either regular government attire or business suits. The cook had identified Robin as the lone female among them. Why isn't she fighting back? CP9 is here, a man announced, his voice forcing Sanji deeper into the shadows. A group of 4 sauntered into the station, the tallest carrying a squirming and tied up Frankie. Even though Sanji didn't recognize them, it was Lucci, Khalifa, Kaku, and a man named Bluno. Bluno, the man carrying Frankie, stood at 8 feet with black hair stylized into bull horns and a mustache, beard. His body rippled with muscle since he was able to easily handle the cyborg in his grip. A small welt protruded from his hair where Jin had caught him by surprise back at Galila. "And I can't believe you did that to the Straw Hats ship," Frankie shouted, his voice just now reaching the chef. "That thing's alive, you know. There's no way I could forgive you for what you did to that Klabouterman." "Shut up," Khalifa ordered, punching the prisoner in the head. "You're the one that took it as a bargaining chip." Even if she was alive, Kaku added, as if trying to justify their actions, her life was over. She wouldn't have made it far. Lucci said nothing as Corgi, the man who had met with Iceberg 2 days prior, gave both him and his pigeon coats to drape over their shoulders. "What?" Sanji questioned quietly, confused by their conversation. "Who were they abducting? What did he or they do to the Going Merry? And what was that about their ship being alive?" "I want to leave," Lucci stated. "Now." Right away," Corgi saluted. "You heard him, men. Get your asses in gear." "Your attention please," the speaker system announced. "The train from Water 7 to Eni's lobby will be leaving shortly. Please board the train quickly. The train will be leaving at 10:15. Thank you." Sanji waited for as long as he could, hoping that the others would catch up, but the time came and the sea train began moving. With a sigh, the chef decided that he couldn't wait any longer and walked forward. Ignoring the conductors that told him to stay back, Sanji jumped onto the caboose of the train, kicking one of the men for good measure. "Don't worry, Robin," Sanji muttered, lighting a cigarette as it began to rain. "Your Prince Charming is coming to save you." After a deep breath, Sanji turned and let himself in. All sound and movement stopped on the train as the blonde pirate closed the door, all eyes turning on him. Sanji was undaunted, smoking calmly as he sauntered through the government officials. "Who the hell are you?" one man demanded, his sword stopping the chef as it was placed at his neck. "What are you doing on this train?" "Oh, pardon me," Sanji responded, breathing smoke into the man's face. "I'm looking for someone. Can you tell me where Nico Robin is?" "Damn it," Nami cried, glaring at the spot in the distance that was the Puffing Tom. "We missed them. How are we supposed to get Robin back now?" "We'll figure something out," Luffy stated, pulling her close. Usopp stood by, equal parts sad, angry, and awkward due being the third wheel. Two conductors watched them from the shadows, trying to come up with their own interpretation of the event. "Who do you think that Robin is? Could it be that that guy has 2 girlfriends, and that Robin is the other one?" "No way. She's probably with that long-nosed guy." "Impossible. He looks more awkward than distraught." "We're too late, aren't we, Don Luffy?" The 3 pirates sadly glanced backwards at the voice, finding the rest of their crew, minus Sanji, at the bottom of the steps with Granny Kokora, Chimney and her pet, and several Galila shipwrights including Polly, Lulu, and Tilestone. Jin was once again wearing his headband since the rain that had begun was messing with his powers, making him an electrical hazard for his friends. Amy had woken up, but Chopper had still insisted on carrying her while she recovered. "Captain Luffy," Coby questioned, getting the team's attention. "We found out why Robin did what she did." "Why?" Usopp asked. "She was trying to protect us," Zoro stated. "She turned herself in so that we could all leave safely. She didn't know about the Mary being at the end of her life." "We will get her back," Luffy growled. "I don't care who gets in our way." "Now hold on, Straw Hat," Polly ordered. "You can't go out in a storm like this. If we gave you our best ship, you might have been able to survive a normal Aqua Laguna, but this is the worst storm Water 7 has ever seen. We have the world's best navigator on our crew," Luffy boasted. "We'd survive this storm in anything. But that doesn't matter. If you're not going to give us a ship, then we'll take one by force." Nagagagaga. Granny Kokora laughed at the declaration, breaking the tension that had formed between the pirates and the shipwrights. Taking a swig from the bottle of alcohol in her hand, she hiccuped and said, Now, kid. Polly's right on this one. Going out there in a ship is suicide. You'd need a sea train built by a legend. Luckily, I have one." "You have another sea train?" all the adults gasped simultaneously. Yeah, I do. Follow me." The woman turned and trudged up the stairs, confused and excited for various reasons. The rest of the crowd followed her. She led the way to a hidden workshop, only to find that someone had beaten them there. Out of an old train came Iceberg, covered in sweat and grease. "Well, it looks like I was right," he commented, dropping onto a bench as the pirates looked over the train. Unlike the Puffing Tom, this train was rather crudely built with a pointed nose and shark teeth. It only had one compartment attached to the train itself. "I put her in the best shape I could with the time, but there's still no guarantee that you'll survive the ride." "This is Rocketman," Kokora introduced. "She's a runaway train." "What's that supposed to mean?" Coby asked. "Rocketman was the failed prototype of the Puffing Tom," Iceberg explained. "There's no way to control her speed." Then it's a good thing we don't care for subtlety, Amy smiled. Everyone get on the train, Luffy ordered. We're getting Robin back. Now wait a minute. Polly tried. This is your last chance to turn back. Do you even know what island they're taking Nico Robin to? Enies lobby. I don't give a shit, Luffy spat. They could take her to Raftel and I would chase them down. No one messes with my nakama. You'd be all but declaring war on the world government, Lulu cried. After what the government pulled here, I think it's deserved, Jin put in. Our crew does the impossible every week, Jin chuckled. We killed God last month. Declaring war on the world is almost disappointing after that. You did what? Polly yelled while Amy laughed at his reaction. And you too, he pointed at Nami and Amy. Put some pants on. We're wasting time, Zoro snapped. Every second we wait, Robin gets a little bit further away. Straw Hat. Out of the stairs fell Zanbai and the rest of the Frankie family, all of them bandaged from the beating the Straw Hats had put them through. Take us with you, Straw Hat. They have big bro Frankie. Please. Let us come with you to try to save him, we're begging you. Okay, Luffy shrugged. Get on. What? The shipwrights yelled. Are you crazy? Maybe a little, Grace answered. But, Straw Hat, we, Zanbai stopped cold. Wait, did you say yes? Yeah, the pirate tilted his head. We both need to save someone precious to us. Why not do it together? Get on. We don't actually need the train. Zanbai waved off. We'll follow you with our king bulls when you depart. Thanks, Straw Hat. The Frankie family turned and left quickly, presumably to get the king bulls Zanbai had mentioned. Alright. With another shrug, Luffy boarded Rocketman and the rest of his crew followed. Kokura climbed into the conductor's seat and, with Coby and Jin shoveling coal, began the departure. Hurry up, Luffy shouted impatiently. To this lobby place to rescue Robin. Did you have to shoot that bar into the train? Amy demanded, indicating the connection shot that the Frankie family had lodged in the back of the train, her question receiving shrugs from Zanbai and the Square Sisters. Rocketman was proving its name as it thundered down the tracks while pulling along the Frankie family's portable home and king bulls, Sodom and Gomorrah. The pirates, Kokura, Chimney and Gonbi, who had snuck on, and Polly, Lulu, and Tilestone were in the compartment discussing their plans. And why are you guys here? She added. Raagh, Tilestone yelled. We wanted to come along because those government guys tried to kill Iceberg, Raw. Keep your voice down, Tilestone, Polly shouted. We still aren't sure exactly who they are, Lulu muttered, flattening some stray hairs on the right side of his head only for some to pop up from his mustache, but we have a pretty good idea who it is. You guys deserve the truth, Polly sighed. I don't want to shock you, though. Just tell us, Tilestone roared. It was Lucci, Khalifa, Kaku, and Bluno from the bar. What? The other two shipwrights gasped. You mean you didn't know that? Polly demanded. You said they went home. We thought it was Bill and Ted from the backstreets. You believe that? It doesn't matter, Luffy stated, interrupting their conversation. I know that we fought both the Frankie family and Galila back in Water 7, but now we're allies with a common goal. We fight together. Luffy stuck his right arm out, palm down. Right, Zanbai agreed, quickly placing his one arm over Luffy's. I'd risk my life for Frankie. I'll do anything to get him back. Galila stands with you, Straw Hat, Polly nodded, putting his own hand in. Those government dogs are going to pay for attacking Iceberg. Alright, Luffy smiled, dropping his arm. Chopper, make sure everyone's good to go. We have a long day ahead of us. BUDUP Bud UP Bud UP. Bud UP Bud UP Bud UP. CA Lick. Hello, Nami greeted, opening the shell on her wrist. Hey, Sanji replied through the snail, the invertebrate somehow breathing smoke. I'm on the sea train. You're what? Luffy, Chopper, and Usopp sputtered. Yeah, I've got this Frankie guy, too. He's a little roughed up, though. Big bro Frankie, Zanbai cried, grabbing Nami's wrist to talk through the snail. Luffy glared at him for the action. Zanbai, Frankie answered. Sanji, we found out why Robin left, Nami stated, becoming serious and yanking her arm from Zanbai. She's trying to sacrifice herself so we can get away. Sanji was silent for a minute, the sound of Frankie crying about something being the only sound. Captain, Sanji asked. Go ahead, Luffy answered, we can't stop you. Oi, love cook. Zoro jumped in before they could hang up. Don't get yourself Kilave to eat crappy food while we try to find a new cook. Whatever you say, Marimo. The snail went to sleep, severing the call. Hey, bro, Frankie yelled, the rain and wind doing nothing to ruin his ice blue hair. I wanted to talk to Straw Hat. Too bad, Sanji answered, glaring at the cyborg through the rain. I still haven't forgiven you for what you did to Usopp. That was my boys, not me, Frankie responded before gaining a sheepish look. Oh, that reminds me. All that money you all had on your ship is back at my place. I kind of took your ship to try to lure out Straw Hat and decided to take your money while I did. And that reminds me, asshole, Sanji growled. You mentioned the Mary when those government bastards had you. What was that about? You don't know? If I knew, I wouldn't be asking you. Fine, fine, Frankie surrendered, holding up his arms. Geez. Tell me, have you ever heard of a Klabouterman? A what? Sanji questioned. They're also known as wood fairies, the cyborg explained, they only. Ah, they're up here, the government had found them. Mutton shot. Before the man could warn his companions, Sanji's leg shot forward, kicking the marine off the train. Shit. We'll have to continue this another time. Sure, Frankie sighed. Let's go. With a nod from Sanji, the two took off toward the back of the train. So what's the plan, cook bro? Just play along, the blonde ordered as the two dropped onto the end of the caboose. Sanji knocked on the door. Hello, Sanji called, waving at the man who opened the door before the cook slammed it shut. Frankie quickly nailed boards to it to keep the door shut. The two climbed the ladder back up as gunshots began and a perfectly square cut separated the door from the rest of the train. With a smile, Sanji locked the door 2 cars down and separated them from the rest of the train. The others would handle them. That was cars 6 and 7, Frankie commented. Only 5 more to go. Then let's get started. The chef opened the door, the sound of several guns clicking filling the air. His one visible eye widening, Sanji dove to the side as the government agents let loose. Frankie, however, did not, the bullets hitting him with the sound of metal striking metal. Despite being shot at, Frankie grabbed the seat on his right, tore it up from the floor, and threw it at their opponents. The stop in the firing was all the time Sanji needed to rush in and finish off the remaining agents in the car. What are you? The pirate asked, turning to his new ally. I forgot to mention that, didn't I? Frankie chuckled. I'm a cyborg. Huh, Sanji grunted. Just when you thought you'd seen it all. With a shrug, the 2 men exited the car and separated it as well. With car 5 gone, that only left 4 others. No problem, right? Rocketman sped forward for about 10 minutes, giving the Straw Hats and their allies plenty of time to prepare for battle. Polly was not okay with the women's chosen battle attire, even if Nami was the only one to change clothing into a short, brown dress, while using Luffy and his stretchiness as a divider. But Lulu, Tilestone, and Zanbai were very okay with it, and that earned each of them a punch from Luffy for looking at the navigator. Captain Luffy, Coby called from the window where he was on watch. There's a stationary train car or 2 ahead with a marine captain standing on the tracks. He's got a sword. I'll handle it, Zoro yawned, stretching before climbing out the window. Coby followed to watch. Halt, the marine ordered, his ripped cape fluttering in the wind. He was a tall, gaunt man with gray skin, making him hard to see in the cloudy night. A centurion's helmet sat on his head with blue adornments fluttering in the howling wind. But the man never wavered from his straight posture. First Marine Captain T-Bone. I hate crooked men like you and crooked swordplay. Right angle slash. 3 sword style. 108 caliber Phoenix. Zoro's flying slash cut through the Marine's perfectly vertical one as well as his sword while going over the Marine's head to cut both cars perfectly in half. My men, T-Bone cried worriedly. I will save you. He dove into the water, out of the way of the runaway sea train. Bye. Luffy and Usopp waved from the windows. Sorry about that. Coby apologized. I hope your men are okay. Damn you, you crooked pirates. Wanzai the cook of CP5 landed in a crumpled heap in the middle of car 3 where CP9 had been sitting in silence. The eyes of the agents turned to the smoking blonde that had kicked the man as he stepped out of the kitchen car and onto the third. A second later, Nero, CP9's newest recruit, was smashed through the ceiling of the third car with Frankie on top and his metal fist in the sea weasel's face. That was one hell of an entrance, Sanji commented as the cyborg stood. What have you been up to? Ow, you know, kicking ass like usual, Frankie responded, kicking his defeated opponent so he came to rest by the fallen cook. You? Kicking ass, Sanji replied nonchalantly. I recognize this moron, somewhat, Lucci spat, kicking Wanzai onto his back. Despite the changes to his face that Sanji's kicks had done, he was still somewhat the same and his hair hadn't been affected. Who is this moron, though? That is Nero, the sea weasel, Khalifa provided, unnecessarily adjusting her glasses. He is supposed to be CP9's newest recruit. He has gone through training and has mastered 4 of the 6 powers. You won't get away with this, the wounded rookie coughed, blood soaking into the train's rug beneath him as he turned to glare at Frankie. I'll teach you what happens when you cross me. Khalifa. Yes, Lucci, on the official report, say that the new recruit was too weak and that he was killed in battle with the Straw Hat Pirates. Yes, sir, the woman responded, making a note on a clipboard. And you, Lucci directed his attention on the man trying to get up. You're a disappointment. I'll give you 3 seconds to run for your life. What? Nero questioned. Who am I running from? 1. Lucci began. 2. Shave, Nero cried, running as a blur towards Sanji and Frankie. 3. Finger pistol. In a flash, Lucci had caught up to the weasel-like man and stabbed him in the back with his finger. Nero coughed more blood as he died. Lucci had stabbed his finger into the man's heart. With an unmerciful grunt, the agent ripped his finger out of the man's body and chucked it out the window. With blood dripping down his hand, the former shipwright turned to the intruders. "Unfortunately, we have been ordered to not kill you. That was part of our agreement with Nico Robin. Cuddy Flam, however, will still be coming with us. If you know what's good for you, pirate, you'll turn around right now and leave." "Sorry," Sanji growled, "but I can't do that. There's a beautiful member of our crew waiting for me in the car in front of you." "Kaku," Lucci ordered. "Shave," the long-nosed man muttered, blurring out of sight. "Finger pistol." Sanji didn't have any time to react as the agent's pointer finger buried itself in his side, missing all the vitals. "Sorry about this," Kaku apologized. "Nothing personal. Just business." With a flick of his wrist, the ginger threw the chef out the same window Nero's body had smashed. "Eyebrows!" Frankie yelled. "You bastards!" The cyborg charged the agents, but it was no use. Just like when they'd captured him the first time, Khalifa wrapped him up in her spiked whip within a matter of seconds. "Bluno, put him in the first car with Nico Robin," Lucci ordered. The bull-like man nodded and grabbed the struggling cyborg before exiting the car. Next stop: Eni's lobby and the gates of justice.